So when you think about drop spots, you need to think about a lot of things, like just obviously the loot, the rotation from there, where you could like get into a fight with another team from another spawn. But at the end of the day, if you want to succeed at any spawn, you need to just practice it a lot. Always have the best drop, because if you don't have it, you're just not going to succeed.
My teammate Kami landed on one side of the map and kept landing there every season. It became Kami split, and I think that everybody knows where we are gonna go this season.
With solos, you have a lot more freedom. You don't need to depend on teammates. Trios is a lot more skilled. Quite literally, you just need to play as a team the whole time.
If you're confident, you're gonna play well in solo, since it's just like, it's a one-on-one fight. One shot could change everything. If you miss that one shot, it's just over.
The most important thing about clutch moments is all or nothing. I think that describes it the best. If you have nothing, you just either go big or go home, you know? That's it. You just go for something. Just go. Just do it.
It's mostly about hyping your teammate up while he's alone, because then he gets really confident and just gets into the flow state and just goes on from there.
In endgame, there's two options. You either play for placement, so you just play on mats, you just keep tapping till you have no mats. Or you go for a big game and you go for high ground, you try to get up there, you try to win the game.
So when you're in endgame, you should always just go for the placement at first, because that gives the most points.
You should prioritize winning the game over eliminations. It means a lot in terms of tiebreaker and even like mentality with the trio. If you get that win, you're going to be hyped up as well.
My trio is 100% ready for FNCS, and I would also wish other teams good luck, but I don't know if it will help enough.
We prepare with our coach. For example, we have our own coach. We play a lot of scrims. We play tournaments like cash cups and other like third-party tournaments. And we just play a lot. That's it.
We're preparing for the FNCS by playing customs and trios, cash cups. That's basically our main practice. And I'm gonna be watching all the games, all the qualifiers.
Yeah, we prepared a lot. We usually just play customs, and after these customs, we just review them and find our mistakes.
So we play scrims every day. We vote review together. We try to spend as much time together as possible to gain chemistry. And yeah, I think that's it.
So like the perfect day would be a cold shower, enough sleep, get some food in, water, and that's it.
Before we go into the games, we're like pretty loud, kind of. We just hype each other up and we go into the games really confident.
Good luck for the other trios that are playing. You're gonna need that.
Fortnite fam? It's your favorite spook Zeke boy. That's right, it's Zeke. We're here. It's finals time. It's crazy to think we've made it. We've seen qualifier after qualifier, 4 incredible moments before this, semifinals yesterday, and now we get to kick off the finals in such a fashion. Who else to bring you the action than Reese, Levin, my friends? We've made it finals, day number 1.
You know what's mad, Z? Usually I'd say something like, oh, it's been a long time. It's not been long. It's not been a long time coming. It's been a very short time, but short and sweet. That's how I like it. Do you know what I mean? We've been able to get to the real, you know when you have a sandwich, right? You want to get to the meat of the sandwich. Get the bread and all that. No, let me just get to the meat of the sandwich. This is what we're at, right? The FNCS finals, it doesn't get better than this. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of the storylines we set up in that early first qualifier are still super relevant. They're still, there's not been like 14 months between it since it started. It was fresh, it was new. I still remember them in my brain. I forget a lot of stuff. So at least they're back here. So the shorter one's been good. And honestly, like finals, this is where it all kicks off now. And this is real, the most exciting part of every season.
The memory loss comes with the age.
It does. I mean, it's every week it gets worse and worse. And I'm not even going to remember you soon. Don't worry.
Well, that spells disaster for me, Reese. Spells disaster. Guys, let's talk about a few things before we jump aboard the battle bus. We got 25 minutes or so before we do so. Are you guys watching already? You guys watching? Where are you watching? Is it watch.fortnite.com? A great place to watch what you're already watching. But there's like leaderboards on there and trivia. You want to check that out? Watch.fortnite.com. Also, don't forget, we start the day here in Europe. We go over to NA, end the day in NA West. So, hey, look, if you want to watch a ton of high action Fortnite at the tippiest of the levels, this is the place to do it. Guys, let's talk about the overall tournament format. What has brought us here? So we saw two qualifier rounds, yesterday, 2 days of semifinals action, which left us with all of the trios we're seeing today. We have 6 games for you today, another 6 tomorrow, after which we'll crown FNCS Trios champions. 11. I mean, I could not be more excited about these games.
Yeah, it's going to be great, right? There's 2 days of competition, 6 games on each day. The trio that claims first place after day 2 will be the champions of this season. Plenty of our trios coming from all different places. Of course, we got the top 3 from last season. We got 10 trios from the qualifiers, a bunch of trios from semifinals, day 1 and day 2. So all in all, the lobby is filled up with some great players.
Yeah, absolutely intense, right? Like I said, we've had last couple of weeks qualifications to get them here in the semifinals too, and we've seen some intense storylines. When I was looking at my predictions earlier, the top 10, I was leaving teams out, and I was like, these guys could win the entire tournament. So we've definitely created some of the best lobby out there. And for these teams to be able to get here, we need to check out the points and the format and how they're actually going to be able to do that. You've seen it by now if you've been here and you check this out. It's been relatively similar for the last few seasons. If you hit top 24 teams, not players, you're going to hit that first placement threshold where you'll gain 5 points. Then every single threshold from 17th all the way up to that first of Victory Royale, you will gain more and more. So that first being 30 points, which is absolutely massive in comparison to eliminations, which is obviously 2 elimination points. So, if you can do the maths, that's 15 eliminations equals 1 Victory Royale. So you need a good balance of both.
That's right. I mean, listen, Reese, there's a ton of prize money here on the line. Here's a look at your 7 regions. We can actually take a deeper dive here on this prize pool in Europe. $300,000 for the trio that walks away in first place. Now, of course, first incredible acts of champions and whatnot, but don't forget, even if you can't make first, making something like 5th, $100,000 for you and your trio is huge. So at the end of the day, a lot of these trios, they're going to be fighting to find themselves in those higher placement thresholds, right? If you could go from 33rd to 5th, you are talking leaps and bounds of differences. But guys, let's continue the story here. We have to talk about Asia and OCE. Some of the other regions have already wrapped.
I want to interrupt you. I'm going to interrupt you.
Do it.
Where's the Acts of Champions come from? What happened? What happened to the Acts of Champions origin story? I'm putting you on the spotlight now, Steve.
Come on.
Guys, you don't have to do stuff different every season. I can't do the same thing. I can't get the run back. Everybody knows that I've created it, but that's all that has to.
Okay, I'll give you that.
I can't get I have to keep everybody on their toes, Reese. You do. Always change it up. So speaking of which, let's talk about Asia. Let's talk about OCE. Let's see how things are going in these regions. They have already finished up their first day of competition. Talk me through this, Levin, Reese.
I was really excited to see what happened in some of the other regions. Of course, you always get excitement with any FNCS final. The Asia was really interesting, right? Because you had Compelling, Usia, and Rari, who've been really impressive in the qualifiers, topping the day with a decent lead, right? Especially in comparison to what we're going to see in OCE. And these guys have been great all season, Reese, right? Obviously, they won qualifier 2. They've been really impressive. They've started off really well in the final.
Yeah, and for these guys, they also won Qualifier 2 back in Season 5. Well, UCA did. It was a different team at the time, but they unfortunately ended up placing 14th in the finals. So for this time, if you want to look at numerical trends, so far, they're currently following that same path, but doing so much better when it comes to finals. So for them, when we see the leaderboards pop up, you'll see they have such a massive lead over the rest of the lobby, which is very rare for this region, because Asia is a region that's definitely known for those leaderboards being a little bit closer together.
Yeah, definitely something to watch out for. I think the big thing, as always, with any region, not just in Asia, is that day 2, right? Of course, the first place team, even first and second, seem to have a decent lead, but nothing is guaranteed when it comes to the finals with FNCS. Of course, yeah, you're going to be happy you've had a great day 1, but it's all about how you come out in day 2. What do you bring to the table? I know what teams I'll be looking out for sure, right? When we look at the leaderboard here, of course, yes, we mentioned Compelling, Rara, and UC are up in first place. Really looking forward to seeing how our third place team do. Wildhawk, Moffin, and Rimmer. These guys are definitely a team to watch out for, Reese.
Yeah, Moffin won back in Season 4. Wildhawk himself, these guys also won the reboot, or not the reboot, I was going to say the warm-up cup together so far, so they're on an absolute trail this season. Moffin himself has made every single FNCS finals. They qualified in the final game of the semis day 2. The final match. It's they couldn't have left it any later, and yet they're still here in the top 3. A lot of us often think when it comes to those reboot round style games that those teams aren't going to perform as well when it comes to the finals, but look, hey, they're showing up right now.
So this is where Aqua got his inspiration. Makes sense, makes sense. It's all adding up now. Let's take a look at what happened in OCE though, right? Because I mentioned things got very, very interesting, and I can't stress enough. OCE is going to be so fun to watch. I try my best to wake up early anyway, Reese, but I'm going to really make sure I wake up early to catch the end of OCE, because everything today was just clicking over there, right? Jinx, Worthy, and Dana were in first place at the end of day 1, but it's by very, very fine margins.
It was so close. And what's interesting about OCE, I said Asia's usually known for having really tight boundaries when it comes to the top of the leaderboards. OCE is the opposite of that, right? You usually see at the end of day 1 a team who's absolutely flying away with it. But obviously when we see the leaderboards soon, when they pop up, you'll see how incredibly close the top 10 is so far at the end of day number 1. And with a lot of the big names in the region in there, obviously Jinx, Dinath, and Worthy that we pointed out until obviously Jinx at one point was the 3-time FNCS champ. He still is, but that was the most all the way back 1 year ago when it was Chapter 2 Season 4. So it's been a while since they've managed to win a tournament together. Well, for Jinx and Worthy, that is in particular. So for them, they're already on top of the leaderboard so far, and they're looking to try and make it a 4-time.
Yeah, and they're definitely, very much in a running to do so. They will want to be winning, right? Like you said, it's been a while since they've had that feeling of winning the FNCS. You can see here, guys, honestly, for all the people watching at home, wherever you are, this will be one of the best day 2s in Fortnite history, right? When it comes to finals. It is so close. When you look at the points there, less than 10 points separating first and fifth? That's mad. That's madness, Reese, right? So this is going to be so entertaining. It's literally anybody's game. You have to come out tomorrow swinging.
Yeah, and also want to add there in 9th, we've got Vortex. Knew I was going to fumble one of them. Vortex, Jaith, and Sons, which are previous season's champions, who obviously we haven't really seen this season because, well, in the first week we didn't see them, and then they just banded for the second week, feeling super confident. Ended up winning and just qualifying straight through again. But so far in the finals, they're slowing down a little bit, and that's kind of what we see a lot of times in the regions. A lot of the returning champions don't necessarily perform the next season after. So for them, 9th is obviously very good, but for a team of this caliber, you're kind of expecting closer to that top 3. But remember, it's so close to the top of the leaderboards anyway, so day 2 will definitely be interesting.
They ain't got to make up that much ground, right?
No.
They got a bit of ground to make up, but it's not that much. They got a chance to still go and do the back-to-back.
I love it. Guys, I also love highlights. So let's keep those rolling. Let's talk about the trios coming out of qualifiers 1 and 2, and of course, last season's champions that we have not seen this season yet.
Yeah, well, we'll start off right with the winners of Qualifier 1, Thomas and Nas and Queasy. And I don't know about you, Reese, but this is the team that has impressed me the most this season. I think right now they are the best team in EU, and because of my bias to EU, probably makes them the best team in the world right now. Just what I see from these guys is phenomenal.
Yeah, and honestly, what was funny is when I saw this team composition, I was like, I don't know if this makes sense. I was like, with Queasy going into this team, he's an IGL that's usually played a ton of height games in his existence, and Nas's team with Thomas HD is predominantly very successful in mid-ground. They have been, successful in height in previous games. So I was like, how is this going to mix in? But so far when I've watched them, and basically it's just a mix of everything, right? They seem very, very versatile. They can play height, they can play mid, they can play low. They're so good off spawn as well. They're so good in their mid game. It's like they seem like a very well-rounded trio, which is something that not a lot of players on EU can actually talk.
Yeah, the addition of Queasy definitely added that extra bit of dynamism to their game that I think they needed to rejuvenate themselves in the EU standings. A team that very much doesn't need much rejuvenation. These guys are very much on fire right now. Malabuka, Mustache, Shizo. How do you describe these guys? Just ruthless aggression, right? You know, just raw firepower. They are not one of the teams you want to be fighting at any given moment in EU. And their qualification via Qualifier 2 means that they're contesting Steamy Stacks, which means, yes, Benji and Jetta and Mr. Savage will be contesting these guys. And I can tell you what, they don't want to be contesting these guys, but they will have to be.
Yeah, we're going to definitely watch that fight a ton today. And they actually won that game with a Victory Royale sandwich, game 1 and game number 6, but they were uncontested here. We're also looking at Kiriachi, Stormrit, and Tusser, previous FNCS champions from the previous season that we've just seen. And we've not seen much of them this season, obviously, because they haven't been playing since they've all qualified through here. And in the Cash Cups, relatively quiet. But they were relatively quiet when it came to also last season's quite Cash Cups too. So, you know, it's hard to judge what Kiriachi's team's looking at, how are their strengths, how are they playing out so far, because, you know, we just haven't really seen them in official tournaments that much.
Yeah, I don't think, you know, Cash Cups are ever going to be the best sort of litmus test in terms of 100%. How great a team is doing. But I do think a recurring theme we see with these teams that win FNCS is, you know, do you have that drive and that motivation, right? What keeps you going? What keeps you, you know, wanting to stay at the top? Because, you know, we always have this sort of general thing of when you're at the top, everyone's watching you, right? So now you have to sort of set that new standard. And that's difficult for a lot of these teams. I assume it will be difficult for these guys as well. We'll see how they fare in the day. But sort of like Reese has alluded to, they're not seen as the favorites even after winning FNCS last season. So hopefully they can prove people wrong.
I mean, firstly, right, they came 5th, then 1st in the last 2 seasons, super consistent all the way through. And you're saying, what motivates a lot of these teams when they go down? Like, surely 100k each? 100k each for first? I don't know. Is that good motivation? I don't know. It would be for me, but, you know.
Well, we have to continue this talk, boys, because the fact is this lobby is so stacked, right? Like, that's why we really can't hold this team above the rest, because there's so many other trios to talk about. Let's take a look at our lobby list for today. We also have on the left side of your screen where those trios have come from. Very tippy top, we can see that the winners from Chapter 2 Season 7. And as we kind of go through these pages, let's talk about some of these other high-profile trios we think are absolutely going to make an impact here on the lobby.
Well, on the topic of, you know, teams that came from last season, right? Hottie, Elocrats, and Trippin. I'll be honest, guys, I always find a way to squeeze this fact in because, you know, I am just, you know, it makes me feel good about myself. But, you know, Trippin, you know, he's one of my former teammates, right? You know, we used to play with each other back in the day.
I heard
so
this
I know
like
how
20
great
times.
this guy is. Yeah, you've heard it 20 times, and you'll continue to hear it until Trippin himself retires from the game. Look, you know, these guys very much are a great trio. They were very impressive. They surprised a lot of people last season in how well they did. Similar stuff to Kiriachi's team, though. Are they going to have that drive, that bit of a bite to come through this season and really shake things up?
I mean, I'll be able to brag in the future. I'll be able to say I played with 11-2K in one, and like, you know, I can't remember which cup it was, and we were.
I don't claim you.
A dominant performance.
No.
Anyway, moving on. Let's look at Pink Nebs and Stompy in 3rd as well. A team who's also auto-qualified from the previous season here. Now, they were so good in Lazy Lake the previous season. Like, they put on a ton of show. Remember the clutch that Stompy had, the 1v3 up on height onto Queasy's team that previous season was so good. For them, again, we haven't seen them this season. Similarly, very much to Queasy's team. I do want to see how they're going to play out their new drop spot of Corny Crops, and if they've managed to understand that, but with the fact that all 3 players are grinders, right? They've put in the time, put in the work generally, and obviously that's one of the things that stands about these guys above the rest. I think they could still very much so perform.
Yeah, no, their dedication to their game is something that is very impressive, even in comparison to the other elite players within the region. They really know their stuff, and I'm sure they will come through today prepared. And Underlex Fuzia and Squeeze, though, a team that you'd expect to be very prepared. What I will say about Underlex, right, is typically day 1s and finals, never the best. Day 2, though, might be the best player of all time. Like, Underlex, Squeeze, and Fuzia might be the best day 2 team in Fortnite history.
Not even just with like day 1, day 2. If it's like a 1-day tournament, the first half's always shambles. Just, I don't want to say awful. I don't want to put them down into that barrel, but not great. And then you're very right. The later half is like they are the best team in the world ever. It's incredible. Like last season, they were 22nd after that first day. But at the end of that second day, right, if the points weren't cumulative, they were first, essentially. They had the most points on the second day, but that, unfortunately, because of their poor first day, moved them up only to 9th place. Unbelievable team. If they have a slow start today, you know, I was going to say I'll be surprised. I won't be surprised at all. I'll just be ready for the domination we'll see on day number 2.
Yeah, that's exactly the kind of thing you'd expect. And another team who I will always find a way to talk about once again, Tayson, Chapix, Reason. I'm a massive fan of these guys, right? Massive fan. Look, they're landing at Craggy Cliffs. I actually saw Maxime on Twitter. Shout out to Maxime, always helping out in the community.
Oh, yeah.
He actually made a map that compared last, finals a year ago today, right? In Chapter 2, Season 4 versus finals today. Chapix was landing at Craggy Cliffs all the way a year ago, right? So he's got more than enough experience out of Craggy Cliffs. And so you'd assume when it comes to Surge and things of that nature, they will be sorted out. Of course, they've got all the skill you could possibly ask for. These guys will definitely be a threat today.
Yeah, you got to remember, obviously, Chapix won from there in the season after that, season 5. They were dominating off spawn the season after that, and they landed there again. Chapix quite literally hasn't moved until they dabbled a little bit in Boney Burbs today or this season and said, nah, we're going back to our home. You know, it wasn't only them. We've also seen Verox, Chapix, Cammy, Skype, Floki, and Clement, all players still staying in the same drop slot. Definitely shout out to Maxine FM for those stats. Super cool, interesting thing just to see across the time. And this is one of those players exactly, right? Floki and Clement, one of the teams who've managed to be in that same position. They're standing at the left side or that west side of Misty Meadows. This is actually the exact same setup they had in the previous finals, right? It was Clement, Deceptos, and Floki on the west side, Forziar, Andlex, and Xsuisse on the right. And they were fighting a lot in that first half. So like they were really getting into engagements in day number 1. It wasn't working out at all. Then on that second day, they just stopped fighting, right? And it worked out for both teams so well. We saw Floki, Clement, Deceptos 6th overall after having a really pretty bad first day and performing so good overall.
Yeah, no, most definitely. I think if you were to tell me you thought these guys were going to come out and win, I would 100% believe you. Look, with Deal, Janice, and O'Reilly, another team that I think is going to be a threat. You know, a bit of confusion about what's actually going to happen off spawn for them. It seems like they are going to be at Believers Beach potentially. And you know what? Speaking of Maxime, right? You know, Janice is actually another one of those players that a year ago today, or a year ago in FNCS at least, Janice was landing in this Believer Beach area. Of course, it wasn't called that back then, but he is somebody who just, you know, has done really well out of this POI before, and you'd expect to do the same today. Of course, there is, you know, the battle between them and Arian, Liam Milan, and Mitro. How does that play out remains to be seen.
I think production's telling us.
One of the best teams.
Production's telling us. They're showing us. They're predicting the future right now. They're just showing the battle that's happening there. But I'm excited. We do need to see, like you said, we'll talk about the map a little bit, what the production is and how players are going to end up fighting around that Believer Beach POI for now. But yeah, ton of top teams on this page. If we move over to that final page as well, this is our last amount of teams that we've seen here. This is all the ones who qualified through day number 2 of this reboot kind of style games. And who stands out to you here, Levin?
I think for me, some of the biggest standouts, Snazy, Sky, and Nate, of course, are a team to sort of watch out for, especially because of, you know, what's going to happen off spawn for them. They're a team that we will talk a bit more about later. Definitely a team to watch out, of course, for Strokey, Sierra, Aqua, they ran the semi-finals day 2 yesterday in quite an emphatic fashion. It was like the most Aqua thing you will ever see. So they're definitely going to be a team to watch out as well. Who you got in your mind?
I mean, on top of that, Michael, Astro, and Verox, right? Day 2 yesterday, the semis. They just won that first game, qualified straight through. They've been having a really tough time out of Dirty Docks so far, which again, multiple times we said this. We'll come back to that later on with a bit more information as to why, but they're looking super, super strong.
Guys, for us visual learners, let's take a look at the map for a moment. There's so much more worth talking about, and there will continue to be things to talk about over these 12 games. Why don't we do this? All right. Talk to me about Benji and Malibuca. Okay, Steamy Stacks, northeast side of the map. What else is going on outside of just this trio going head-to-head?
All right, let me hit you with it. Benji goes here, Malibuca's here.
Value.
They're going to fight. The production, the names just landing on in. But what I'm worried about also is that Trippern's team is landing on what they love to call the Trippern split, which we know as the Dinky Dish. And Did's team is landing down here in Orchard / the Guardian Tower. And the problem with this is the fact that if you get a west bus path, look at this. Oh, beautiful. That means all the players are going to have to fly over here, which means guys like Trippern's team are going to land first. Same with Did's. And we know they're going to start shooting them out the sky a lot. So I'm slightly concerned with the fact that for Benji's team, they're already at a rough fight, and Malibuca's team, I don't want to take sides here. They're already taking a rough fight off spawn, but like if they get that far west bus path, I can't say bus path. It's really hard, honestly. I've messed up like 5 times today. They're really going to be shot out of the sky already by Tripper and Dids too.
Yeah, and on the topic of shooting out the sky, right? We've talked about Verox's team plenty times this season, and them being shot at the sky repeatedly, it feels like, right? You know, we've done plenty of packages about them not even being able to really land at Dirty Docks efficiently just because they're worried about the team coming out of the Cami split, landing on the hill and just raining down on them. But this time, right, Cami's actually contested at the Cami split.
No way!
How could that happen? How can you have a whole sort of area of the map named after you by the community and teams don't even respect that? You know, it's tragic, absolutely tragic. But look, Diox's trio has decided they want to contest, and this is a big issue for Cami because typically they do really well on day ones, but they're not historically a team that does well off spawn, right? They're not the best off spawn fighting team, and so that's going to be a thing to watch out for. Does that hamper their performance today? Probably, but it's a good thing for Verox. Up the UK, boys. Come on, mate. Let's go.
You guys are absolutely about to eliminate me. I'm laughing so hard right now. Okay, let's talk about the Triangle of Doom for you out there that don't know. That's right, Believer, Beach Bunny Burbs, Holly, Hedges. We've got Aqua, we've got Fanyan, we've got Mitro, but Reese, this has gotten way more complicated here in the finals.
Very much so. So this will change around a bit. What we saw originally is Noah Rayleigh's team was looking to land at the castle split. Then they were like, nah, we're landing with Mitro, we're fighting. Then there was potential meme tweet, we'll say, from Mitro's team saying we're going over here. What I'm suspecting to happen is this, right? We're going to see two fights over here. So let's just say the original happened. Noah's on the left, Mitro's there, Aqua's there. What that causes is these teams all have to get surge on each other somehow. They have to fight each other. It becomes awkward. But to kind of make things worse, Sean VP team is like, Sean VP's team is, I said it right the first time, is right in the middle of all of this mess as well, right? So he has to try and avoid some of the top teams in the region all the way through. So what will benefit him is actually if Noah Rayleigh's team does contest Mitro's team right here, because then they can just basically third party all the way in and just take shots and basically annoy Janice and Noah Rayleigh's team like he has been so far. And we've seen Janice tweet about it a lot so far, that he's been complaining about this exact thing. So if Believers Beach is contested, this could make things really easy for Sean VP's team. If not, I worry for Sean.
Yeah, and look, they have an exit plan as well, right? Typically, you'll see the Boney Burbs team go to Bridge, right? And then they'll have to farm metal there for quite a bit. And so if that does happen, you could see a world where Sean VP's team does decide to sort of leave via south of Boney and get away unscathed, potentially. No guarantees there, but I don't think they'll have too many problems. Once again, Janice has complained about it quite a bit, and he's probably going to be complaining about it again today if it does play out that way.
Okay. One final thing to talk about here. The favorites of the competition so far, Queasy's trio down in Caddy Corner. Friends, they might be having some trouble up spawn.
Yeah, we sort of alluded to it earlier. Sky's team's going to be landing here. And Catty Corner, we've seen these fights play out so many times. Very quick fights, very reliant on your drop. You need to have the perfect drop. You can't, have one of your teammates still gliding, a couple seconds after. You really need to nail it. And Queasy, Thomas, and Enas really are good at landing here. They've got brilliant drops. It's something that they work on a lot. Sky's team, however, not too confident if they're going to be able to match up with these guys. And you can see they're not a team you really want to match up with, right? They've been so emphatic so far while they've played with each other, right? Only played 9 events with each other, and they've won 33% of the events they played. They've won 3 out of 9 they played. It's magical.
Absolutely ridiculous. Guys, we have to translate this to predictions. So we've packed a lot of trios here into just this top of show, and there's still some we haven't even touched on yet that we'll be touching on later. Levin, Queasy, Anas, Thomas, HD. We just saw that ridiculous stat. This is why you think these guys could win it all.
Yeah, look, they're going to be fighting off spawn. I believe they will win that fight because they have superior drops. And if they do win that fight, they have their Storm Surge sorted and they're good. And they should win.
Yeah, they should win indeed. I've gone with Andalex for as an X-Squeeze. We've kind of already touched on them a lot. They're landing at Eastside Missy Meadows. They're super, super comfortable. For Shio, he's going for Aqua, CRR, and Fastroki. He's going to keep the dream alive. The last
I love it.
Team to qualify here through the semis day 2. And look, I'm all about it.
Yeah, and Sundown's gone with Pink Nebs and Stompy, who we talked about. They did well last season. They study the game incredibly. They are very much a team to watch out for because they know their stuff better than a lot of the teams in the lobby. I'm looking out for them. Great pick by Sundown.
So good, guys. 30 seconds here. I hope you all are ready for these games. Remember, this is just the first half of the competition. We have the second set of 6 games tomorrow, and from there, the new title may go out. Will it be defended? we're here to find out together. So you know what we gotta do. We gotta hang out with Shy Wager and Sundown. And now my name is Spook Zeke, which means we have the triple S tier region EU. That's right, everybody. This is what I do this for, Fortnite fam. I do this for you, okay? But you heard the bus, which means we're gonna step away. We're gonna kick off the competition with game number 1, and then we'll be back to talk about what happened in that. So for now, Sundown, Shy Wager, over to you.
Thank you so much, Spookamus Prime, 11, and Reese. My name's Sundown, joined by Shy Wager here to call all the action. And what's up, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Jonesies, Bonesies, he, she's, theys, thems, and everyone in between. It's time. It's been a quick qualifying run this season, but we're here into the finals, chapter 2, season 8, and it's Europe, where they're competing for their share of just over $1.3 million. And immediately, Shy Wager, contested over at Caddy, and shots are being traded all over the place.
Yeah, this is exactly what the desk was talking about. Remember, once again, so many qualifiers, the semis, everything brings so many teams to this moment, and they're already hot off the rip. Steady also getting a few picks all the way over near Dirty Docks. At the same time, we have Egram fighting in the middle side of the map. All the fights we expected to happen are actually happening, and everyone's going blow for blow, toe to toe, except for Caddy Corner, it seems like, Sundown. This one's slowed down a bit. We kind of predicted this would go fast. It's all based on the drop, but it seems to be a stalemate.
Yeah, across almost every other region we've seen, and even in Europe, we've seen the quick 50-50s go out. But on the other side of it, we talked about the return of the king and just how they can add a little bit of shakeup. It looks like Mitro and Milan are going to be the first ones to pick up an Elam. It's Ariane Lee playing in his second ever finals, going to be able to get that one over and putting Janisico on the back foot. And we saw this a little bit going through in week 1 when they went head to head, where if all that really happens is they're able to get the drop, and Mitro is so good at being able to punish, but unfortunately missing the shot there and taking a ton of damage. Like, they can make this a thorn in the side for Janice and his trio. Like, they are more than capable of winning these early fights. I mean, everybody knows how good of a fighter Mitro is.
Oh, absolutely. And they've really been, you know, completely perfect in the way they've been delegating the way each person goes for pressure, goes for mats in different fights. We saw it happen in that semifinal type situation, but now it's really going to be up against one of these top teams. They've practiced against a little bit of the fodder in EU. You can really see, though, that things are going in their way. Already picked up one Elam and now Noah Riley. It's all down to Vidil. We talked about keeping the dream alive. For them, winning out the whole thing in 12 games is more than a little bit of a lottery chance. If I'm looking at this, though, their numbers are looking good, Sundown. A 3v1, it should be wrapped up soon. A huge shot by Milan, doesn't even need to land it. He has the SMG, and they're going to be the winners in game 1.
That good follow-up, and they'll take those points right to the bank, and you're going to enjoy that momentum coming through. You can see Queasy on the back foot now. You can see Thomas trying to get back in. Snazy and Nate already a little bit low. You can see they have been able to pick up one elimination as Sutoon back on over, but positioning not necessarily there. Also running low on that AR ammo, going down to just 14 bullets. However, with only 21 HP, is more worried about that. Going to pop a pepper for the effective HP, but is going to be able to convert on that down onto Nate, and then going to swing back over to try and provide assistance. And Nos was the one who got the siphon on the other side, and that's the resolution. But keeping an eye on the top left corner, and Thoretta also getting picked down. Could we potentially swing over to the fight in the docks then and see what's going on over there?
That's going to be all the way over. I see me stacks. That's going to be one of the longest off spawn. Yeah, it could be near the docks too. We're talking about long fights. Milan's going to be on top of the hotel getting challenged once again. We're wondering, what will Sean VP do in the middle of 7 different teams in the Bermuda Triangle of the map? And it's going to be just invade the beach, find a little bit of land, don't get lost at shore. And he picks up Milan. Still going to have a little bit of that trio to break down. It'll be a 2v3, but I like this decision to actually push everyone else before you get caught in a 3-way.
Yeah, a little bit of an Irish invasion coming through there, but good execution from Sean and Cody to be able to pull that off. And the one thing, too, is if you're able to separate them that hard, Milan not necessarily close enough to his teammates where they can do anything about it. Luckily, it is a longer rotation pulling away, so they will have the opportunity to kind of loot around the outside a little bit and then look to come back over for that reboot. There were some changes this season to make that a little more accessible, not only just being able to walk over the card, but the extended amount of time, as well as the additional reboot vans, has picked up the number of average reboot vans, or the number of reboots for each individual trios across every single region. And you see a lot of plays like this where players sometimes just take off saying, well, I'll get back to you eventually. And this is it's a rough life here for Mr. Savage right now.
I got 5 minutes to play with, but at the same time, yeah, he can make it back. You're looking at an edge POI here, Sundown, right? It's kind of tough to not only get your game started off of reboots, but to do it where the zone really isn't, that's asking for a bit too much.
I mean, I love this side of the map. There's actually a ton of resources around here if you're able to fish and get it all going on, but you don't want to be relegated to farming over here, especially in match number 1, as we see the quick stat come over on the left-hand side. 23 first-time finalists in EU today, and I mean, that's going to be a lot of pressure. There's a lot of money on the line. There's a lot of prestige, and on the flip side of the 23 first-timers, a lot of these players have been here before. If you look at the combined total experiences from some of the top teams, I believe the highest total is 21 from one of those trios going through. So I mean, there's tons who are in that double-digit amount. So being under that pressure, and also, how often do you get to play in those 12-game format, Child?
No, absolutely. The ratio also kind of reminds me of like a take your kids to work type of beat, right? We have like 2 parents in the trio who are used to being here, and then one person might be a little bit more nervous asking, what do you guys do every day? How do things look over here? So it'll be fun to see the dynamic of all these trios, especially when these games start to rack up a little bit. We get to day 2 as well.
But now, bottom right-hand corner, you can see Xsqueeze, ForZR, and Analytics. We talked about not necessarily having the best of day 1s, but they'll take that right away as Xsqueeze is able to push through, get the full confirmation, get a 115 as well. That's going to be a key elimination to help them battle with that first round of Storm Searches. Again, the lobby is going to be thick. So far, we've only seen 4 trios go down. Still 83 players on their feet, with Zone 1 just now closing in. So players trying to get whatever disengages out that they can to try and create some distance, but they're having none of it. They're chasing right away, Shio.
I like this, and this is such a switch up from previous seasons. Usually teams have one off spawn fight and then move on completely. This time they're going to break spawn down, even if it's a fight or not. They want to be able to chase and get as much done possible on the map, get a lot of pressure down, and Gold Trio is going to be split apart. Xsqueeze, ForZR, and Alex, likely winners even maybe after the 12 games, are going to be pushing down and showing us in game 1. They've got a game plan, they're sticking to it, and they kind of own the entire South.
And I love this. Like, if you know you have a duo or a solo on the back foot, go pressure them, particularly after we just talked about reboots being more accessible. You don't want to leave somebody even the smallest window to be able to go grab those cards and maybe get themselves back up. Like, you have the ability to press the advantage. If they're burning launch pads and they're burning all the utility to just try and get away, you know they're in desperation mode. Like, this is the finals. Those eliminations count for that many more points, and we've seen just how close the differences can be. And even if it's not at the very top and winning that Axe of Champions, one elimination could be a $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 pay bump here in EU.
Yeah, we see it all the way towards the very end. 2.3 point difference, sometimes tiebreakers, which get heartbreaking, but at the same time, you're right, bank-breaking as well. I also kind of want to know what type of chest Gold was opening over there on the bottom side of the map. He had 2 launch pads, and now Snazy gets to operate with, I think, about 3 rolling in the entire team. That's going to be huge. The convergence also, UPOI dropping down. It's going to be a huge buff to any of the teams that land kind of center map and have some type of surge strats or like to stay a little bit more passive and hidden first. So many free chests here. The thing is, you can't really farm any materials, so you are in a little bit of an all-in position. Think about like Tilted Town all the way back in Season X. Lots of good loot, but it's tough to really fight and get out of there really fast.
God, Tilted Town. That was tough on that side. Which the players have 5 10+ finishes without winning in FNCS.
You're the encyclopedia, so I'd like to have your first stab at it.
So it's been a minute since I've really been watching EU, and I'd say 10+ out is a little bit different. I know Benji has yet to win an FNCS, so that's a relatively easy one.
I would say a Nos conversation here in that situation as well.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think of like, but then the question is like placing top 10 that many times consistently, that's a small crossover group. So like, I'm fairly confident in those 3, but I feel like we'd be missing like one key player. I feel like there's probably a French player in there who I'm missing as well, right?
Ooh.
I don't know. Did Ben? Benji's probably outside of the qualification range on that side. Okay, that's fair.
Yeah. Oh, still, we got 2 out of 3, right?
As we said on NA West, the 2 out of 3 ain't bad, man.
66%. But and the one thing we've noticed from watching even NA West, EU, especially in games where people have to win that semifinal day 2, staying alive as a team towards the end of the game, Sundown, it makes the biggest difference. I know we see lots of clutches in EU as well, but for everyone here, not only do they have to stay ahead of Surge, do a lot of damage, the meta's kind of evolved to these full trios that are alive where everyone's kind of fragmented, end up doing the best and have the most consistent types of placements.
And I mean, particularly over the course of 12 games, we've talked about Fortnite being a way of kind of enabling your game plan and your resources to eliminate the other factors around you. to put you in the best position to gain points, win matches, right? But the more matches you play, the more those consistent teams are able to rise up to the top, the less those like little one-off pop-off games that end up equating into a ton of points. They matter a little bit less in that regard, and the teams who are able to put together the consistent game plan comes through. And as we talked about before, you don't always get the chance to drill it. So you're going to see maybe one or two different looks over the course of these 12 games that you haven't seen in a while, right? And that's going to end up being those different makers and how well you're able to prepare for those moments. And it starts right now with your Storm Surge game plan. So again, you've survived the initial drop. Congratulations, you passed that check mark and we start looking at it. The question is, what is the next thing? And you start looking towards that first Storm Surge, knowing that like, hey, we can trade out some of our damage right now because we have some excess shields. If you're looking at Roman, Nyan, and Axe Force in terms of what they have here, but they need to start shooting their guns.
Pretty soon, the thing is, even if they try to shoot, they peek a little bit towards the top. Look at the mini-map. Arrows looking like litter on the ground everywhere, so far spaced apart, big splits. Robot even just trying to survive on the right side. Doesn't even understand he's getting shot from the back. Those teams will have to move a little bit though, so we'll make sure to get their positionings correct. If you guys don't know what Storm Surge is specifically, why are we also talking about damage? Sometimes things get really sticky with too many teams surviving inside the island of Fortnite. What we like to do is make sure they're staying active, staying on top, and engaging with other teams as well. So Storm Surge is a thing where you have to do enough damage, and if you don't have enough, you start to get struck by this lightning from the sky. There's a certain threshold, and right now 70 players will have to be alive by the closing of the next zone. There's 82 up right now. Axe Force's team is about 100 up in the threshold. Everyone else is kind of in different situations. You'll see big bases, you'll see small box fights like this too. It's what really entices the fights.
Yeah, simply explained, Storm Surge forces you to go and act. You cannot be passive. It will punish the teams who have done the least amount of damage. It does 25 damage every 5 seconds coming through. The number of players we'll need to see before it turns off, it'll need to hit 70 in the top left corner. So that means 12 players will be affected. That's roughly about 4 trios. Of course, there could be mixes of some solos and duos. That's going to start in about a minute. So the posturing over the next minute is basically going to be like, hey, do we have lines of sights to be able to shoot somebody with a rifle, and do we need Storm Surge tags? If you're able to just get lines of sight, you're going to start opening up all of these little window edits in the side of your boxes and just start throwing bullets out there, knowing that you'll have some shields to be able to trade back, and some damage is fine as long as you're not a Storm Surge target. If that's not the case and you've either positioned too well or too poorly, then you get that situation where sometimes you just need to throw everything out and start jumping in boxes. I mean, Carby, Fullnet, and Wings, they're no strangers just throwing it all out and jumping in boxes. They've done it before. They're below Surge. I love how the observers immediately, yes, flip over to the team's below Surge, because regardless, action's gonna happen.
It's not gonna be the first time either. Surge will keep coming through 3 different times in the game. 100 below now. Wings, Carmi, and Fullnet hit the worst possible variation of having triple digits associated with their name. Gonna possibly have to push these boxes. It's metal in front of them though. Wings does claim one wall, then a pyramid afterwards. Keep chugging forward, keep constructing this big base in front of you. You have to, Wings, to find something. A little bit of damage comes out from the teammates. 27, 15 above. You can notice that every other team on the map is also working for that threshold. As a result, theirs is going down. 5 above now. 4, it's counting down like a New Year's clock. They still really have to make sure they show up to the next party though, because 28, 33 below does not look good for them.
No, it's rough, but 33 is just a single tag or two being able to slip through. They do have plenty of shields and fish on Wings. The question is, they're separated, but it doesn't matter when you end up leaving part of your box exposed. Wings gets absolutely obliterated, and the Storm Surge will get the confirmation going through, and all of a sudden, all those extra resources now, Carmi and Fullnet, are going to be forced there. They'll have less damage to be able to try and get above. Luckily, they are just on the other side. You can see Trippin picking up dids in the feed in the top left corner. Carmi trying to get a little aggressive here with only 6 more players who need to go down. The players are dropping like flies in the feed. That's tough, but you also saw Stompy get confirmed over, so lots of big names going down. But let's face it, this is the European finals. Who isn't a big name at this point? This is the stage they're all looking to play on, and right now, honestly, Carmi and Fullnet doing a good job to rescue this from what was a pretty poor position. They could potentially look to make a play here as a duo.
You talk about big names too. One goes down in the feed. I was about to comment on it. It was so funny. You saw Carmi Fullnet in this big 3v3, Milan pulling up, and in the corner of the screen on that last fly-in, it was Mr. Savage as a solo, just looking at all this metal, wondering what to do. So Mitro will pick him up as he rolls in. A few big pops for them to have, and that kind of also signals the fact that, you know, hey, we got extra shields. Maybe go for this fight. If we get tagged up, we can go back. We can heal up. We have a whole minute of time before the zone closes in. There's so much to do. CR, Fastroki also pick up an entire trio on the feet. It's going to be huge for their surge. They should be fine. Mitro, though, on the line, 20 above. Arion leads the first line of attack, hits a little bit of a shot, but gets traded in. He'll go all the way back to those 50 pots to get that shield up. They're not at a loss whatsoever. Fastroki's really turning on the gas right now, taking out even more people. Stormy Red also is making sure he's staying on top of Surge. Mitro doesn't get enough tags at all, but they identify a little bit of wood, a little bit of maybe inconfident base building down south, and might have a nice target to just crash in on.
How on earth are they only 15 damage above Storm Surge with 4 eliminations? I mean, yeah, I know it's quick fights off of the start, but man, you feel like they should be able to convert down. Now they're on the opposite side of it. Luckily, Kiriachi comes to the rescue for him and literally saves Mitro. He's going to be forced to burn some of the chug splashes as they are right on the edge of zone, but Storm Surge will turn off. We also get that first round of placement points to take over. So everyone who survived at this point, top 24 basically means like, hey, congratulations, you made it through the first third of the game. First third of the teams are down. You get 5 points, but Mitro is going to get taken down there, and that's super unfortunate to see, because if they're a little bit more disciplined in how they're converting on their eliminations earlier, they don't end up in that situation at all. And that's a tough way to spend game 1.
It's super tough. There's just many different things you can do, especially when you're getting these big elims off spawn as well. You can hold up the body with one teammate, go for a max pump shot. They end up not doing that. And I saw this happen sometimes in the semis as well, when they're put in a really bad position zone-wise. They end up not being able to really make it out of that tough spot. The reason they got a lot of the points, the reason they got first overall, is you saw them just make it really, they made really good results out of the best situations they had. You know, when they really got zones, they had insane games to roll with them. So hopefully they can kind of, you know, ride that seesaw effect and really push forward with their good games. We'll see what happens. There's 12 total to play. Meanwhile, though, we get a little bit of an insight with Stormy right here. This is where these guys are based up all the way up top, looking for a lot of damage. Stormy has been getting elims. This long-range rifle, it's insane that from up top over here, so now they're actually confirming eliminations.
Yeah, and I mean, I love this thing. If you're able to get a beat onto somebody, you're really able to just rack up the damage. It's fantastic with combating with the Storm Surge. But also, if we kind of talk about averages and we look how Mitro and co play, a 13-point game isn't bad. 4 elims making to that first threshold, like we've seen what they're capable on the higher end when they really stack in those points. In terms of the lower end of point totals, if I'm them, I'm all right with that. Like, yeah, you look and say there's more you could have done execution, but looking at the math in terms of their games, that tends to be on the better side of their worst games, which sounds like a ridiculous things to say, but I mean, their best games are something. I think they have the record for most points scored in terms of that second place, like 20 plus elimination, or like 17 elimination match they had in qualifier number 1. But now hopping on board here, we can see Tayson, Reason, Falcon, we get our second Storm Surge running on the right-hand side, and with 275 above and 14 players who need to go down, they're probably right along that safest threshold and not necessarily going to be too worried about it, as Tayson is still finding plenty of tags on the early rotation. Don't forget, Child, this is also the 4th zone, so it's the final one that's completely inside the previous safe zone. 5th will be the half in, half out, and then we'll have the moving zones over with some pretty variable terrain down here.
Yeah, we can get a little bit of aquatic. Hills will definitely be involved. You can see it on the top right side with Hellfire right there. A few houses in between too. How does Surge differ in this zone though? I mean, you saw how big of a playing field all these people had. You saw maybe 4 trios on your screen at once, and you had a lot of long range fights. Now everyone's bunkered down in boxes. It's really tough to find even a body walking outside alone. To get damage in this type of field, you sometimes have to really all in or be right close next to each other. Box fighting, Axe Force, Robot, and Fiayan. As a result, max zone pull, also below Surge. No one's walking outside, and their base really has no sightlines on anyone else. They're gonna get struck by this lightning.
Yeah, it seems like they're just trying to dive into the backside of another tarp. It's going to be Robon who finds the lead there. Fnayan trying to be directly behind him. They have the harpoon support from Axforce, so the team doing a good job defending and just trying to pressure Run Bay. Robon goes down. Fnayan also following it. Hotzi able to pick up a knock in the feed onto Coral. You can also see Breeder going down. Axforce trying to disengage. Does end up 12 damage above, but the question is, how long will that last for? Luckily, doesn't have to hold on for too long. Only 4 players need to go down, and with this long rotation coming through, it's going to be difficult, but somebody who's been a little bit quiet. We've just seen their name 1 or 2 times. Hottie, Trip, and Elocrest, they've just kind of snuck in there, but they were very good last season's finals. The way they made it into the top 3, Shio, was all about consistently. We see them in every single end game, and they're getting off to that start again here in this season.
Kind of mimicked a little bit of a old season Shaycause shadowing a trio above you strategy. Every time you saw Trippin rolling in, it was based off of someone else's pressure, and they just kind of rode that wave. You can even notice right now their trio is going to be hard to tell, but on the kind of left side of your screen, always Logan above a base that's above them. So the good thing about that is they have no pressure really up top, especially if you're using hard mats. It's looking really good, but from Agute right now, Birdo, it looks really bad. 211 below. He has to watch his teammates fall, and he's surrounded by enemies all around him.
Enemies at the gate, enemies at the door, no shields, and Storm Surge at your back. Unfortunately, going down there and going down outside of that next round of placement points. Storm Surge will turn off as we have 50 players left. We're into those full moving zones, so consider this the transition from the mid game into the end game. And guess who's always on height? It was his name for a while. Aqua posted up there, but it's not super gonna matter because we're eating way away from the mountain, out into the open space, down towards Camp Cod we go. And everyone's just kind of like, okay.
EU has this history of starting every finals like this. We just go down south, we go to a few rivers, mountains get involved, sometimes there's Camp Cod. I'm just glad to see Aqua on height. You got Thomas and Floki's trio side by side. It's been like a whole season since we've seen this happen. They're going to start the bounce pad away. We got the legends ready to play the game. Here we go. Who's going to have this next height control?
Yeah, heading out over towards the lake. Can see Aqua just trying to get towards the backside of the zone, recognizing, getting whatever information he can. However, the high ground priority right now is going back over to them as they're going to re-hit another one on the launch pad. So good job to find one of the recycled ones and know that they can then take priority position on anybody and build over the top instead. We're going to dip on down. Thomas HC with the priority position on the low ground, trying to about face, find somebody rotating late. You see Anas take an elimination onto Scram. Hossie ends up going down right after I called them out. Unfortunately, Tripper going down too. It's just going to be Illocrafts trying to carry that previous top 3. We're also into that top 17, so we have cascading placement points. Each trio drops will equal 1 other point. So battle for high ground comes out, and Anas, Thomas, and Queasy take it without much of a battle. They're able to ramp up, but it's not that secure on the backside.
Yeah, and it's also going a little bit more south, so every time they build out a layer, they lose about, or gain, I would say, a few layers of height as well. They're going to be super high, so vertical. No team next to them is going to be huge for defense on any launch pads. A pump getting hit to the head of Karma. They do a little bit of a very, very low pad that just gets their guns out immediately as well. Malibuka, Mustache, and Shies will be alive all the way towards the mid ground. Usually we see them a little bit lower. They might go down as well. We're pulling back up now to shores to a hill, so it's going to be a good idea to stay here and not be close to the dirt. Elo Crash picking up a few in the feed as well. Xenolith goes down. Malibuka with a triangle edits looking for a shot and lands it. It's going to cost Mustache's life, though. It seems that this trio's a little bit split and they're in trouble.
They're in trouble, but sitting on 5 eliminations already, racking up the points, 20 plus points in a low ground priority with a duo. Still plenty of room to operate. Aqua up on height. We're going to swing back on over to Taste and Pepper's pop, looking for a little bit of room to pop points as well here. You can see some spray over on the side because he wasn't able to cover his 3 o'clock there, but now going to drop down, takes another damage, but it doesn't matter. Taste and quick 180 with a charged shotgun. Bifrost splash, gets splashed right there, but right now Reason ends up going down. Taste and trying to find a quick reaction shot, ends up missing that one and takes a big whack in return. Chapix needs to drop down and get back to him because only 4 builds on Taste and trying to see if there's any utility split over, but no, it's just a medkit being dropped from him, which is a time investment as well. He says, nope, we're going to try and make the play, and right as they make the call, he's going to stop for a second. We get a check on the wide. Chapix takes a ton of damage. That's Stormer and Kiriachi on the backside of the zone. Clement trying to get ahead, and high ground, Aqua and Co just raining shots down as Thomas and Anas are left without Queasy, but sitting on 4 eliminations and a decent amount of room and still tons of shields and utility. My lord.
They're looking real good. I mean, the best thing I'm looking at right now for this endgame, though, 2 very strong nodes of trios alive. High ground, Fast Roki's doing a lot of work to keep people down, and they're getting sent down to Kamiseti Teak, who are picking up Elam after Elam on the low ground. I believe they're all still alive. Tayson has nothing left. Surprise, surprise, you're going to get taken out. Chapix now the last hope all the way on the bottom side. Look at how far up and just absolutely alone these guys are on high ground. They're waiting for the game to end, that last fight to come in. Why? Because they have 7 Elims. They've done what they need to do in terms of getting as many points efficiently as possible. Sundown, they're just looking for the victory royale.
and it's pulling all the way back. We talked about how kind of the zone would pull out and away from that mountain initially. Well, if you remember where that 7th zone ended up going down, we went basically down to where the 9th zone is finishing. So despite the fact they invested a ton of hard mass to make this possible, they don't have to worry about it anymore. They can just kind of jump around, go over the old recycle. And at this point, the decision is, are you playing for the victory route? Are you sending somebody down to look for eliminations? Because the players down low, they have the same benefit of, hey, we don't have to worry about covering our tops. Despite the fact we have 2 builds, we can kind of snake around, play these rats, break the walls. And right as I say that, Thomas unfortunately gets smelled out there, wasn't able to get around the corner. Anas trying to get a little bit of room. You can see as Aqua was able to pick that one up. That's their 8th elimination as they push on into 7th place. And they get 6th place now as players continue to drop on the low ground. That's Rifle picking up Chizo. Malabuka ends up getting Sean. Kami gets Remix, and Aqua will end up getting the confirmation as we continue to work down. We still have 5 trios up, 9 players, but it's all about the trio on the high ground. 9 elims trying to make it 10 as more elims happen on the low ground, and CRR goes down. It's going to come down to the drop as we have Cammy and Clement both healing down the storm. Aqua is out there. He's going to end up falling, and Cammy looks to steal away this victory royale with the chug splashes in the back zone.
Wait for it, though. Fast-Roki, I think, is still alive. There's 3 different teams. I think he's all the way up. No, he went down. And it's Clement, actually, that ends up winning the game with the heal-off. Crazy, though, that entire sequence. It was like 2 magnets on high ground and low, pulling everyone apart. We have CRR, Fast-Roki, Aqua with the VR, but we'll make sure we know who wins that first game. Sundown, the breakdown, though, everyone in the middle was just getting ripped apart back and forth. There was no chance with 2 full, powerful trios on height and low ground.
And I think it's super interesting because despite knowing where the victory royale were, there were a ton of eliminations that went over to Aqua and his team. There are a bunch of eliminations to Cami City Tico, the low ground. I feel like the top of the leaderboard is just ate up almost all of the points of their top 5 is going to be so separated. Even after just 1 game, we're going to kick it on over the desk. They're going to break it down and let us know what we missed.
This first game, Levin, Reese, my goodness, I don't even know what to say, but I feel like it has perfectly set the tone of the competition just to kick things off here. I mean, we're seeing teams trade places, high-profile teams slam into each other. I mean, what the heck is going on?
Well, that's the minimum standard in the FNCS finals, right? You know, that's what we've come to expect. Look, that was a crazy first game. The height takes are always going to be a point of interest that we will follow throughout the day. But this team here, Cami City and Zeke, I think they'll be on top of the leaderboard after game 1. Of course, they didn't win the game second, I believe, right? But they had 11 eliminations. That is insane. They're not a team that typically has loads of eliminations, right? That's not what they're known for. They're known for getting second places, sometimes to their detriment, but a load of eliminations isn't typically what you expect from them. Great from Floki and the Siptos to win that game. We talked about how out of the left side of Misty, they're going to be a threat, and they've started off hot. I'm liking what I'm seeing so far from EU.
I'm liking it too, some of the big names popping off, but what I'm actually interested in is the fact that that went to a heal-off. Yesterday, in the semi-finals, you'd think in a where Victory Royale is the only thing that matters style game, you'd see way more heal-off plays. We saw none, basically. Almost 0. We saw a couple, like I think 1 med kit heal-off, that was it. And we've just seen Clement, like, what, half the map deep still into Storm trying to heal off with, we don't even know what he had in his inventory at that moment. So this is an interesting dynamic picked up from game number 1.
My gosh, there's so much that we missed out here in the early game. We got to catch up. Sundown, we got you covered, my friend. Reese and Levin to break all of this down. My goodness.
Yeah, I mean, this early game fight. Hold on, look at this. Look at this. Double land on the hill. Seti's, like, there's 1 weapon and 1 chest there. Seti just picks up both of them. The easiest eliminations either. Crow manages to pick up the 3rd one there, or Cammy onto Crow there. One of the fastest fights off spawn I've ever seen. The Spanish team needs to get their drops better.
Yeah, very embarrassing per se, right? Especially at this stage of the tournament. A fight that we saw and we knew would break out was this one between Anas and Queasy. It didn't go how we expected in terms of, it wasn't a sort of 50-50, right? It wasn't as drop related, but still the winners that we expected were the winners in that fight with Queasy, Thomas and Anas coming out of that one. And of course, the fight that is very painful for us to watch. We didn't want to have to see this fight happen, but it did. Malabuka, Mustache and Shizo taking on Andretta, Savage and Benji, and they made quick work of Andretta and Benji. Savage was able to get away, but that didn't do him much good, right? It didn't last too long for him anyway.
No, he was in the mid-20th after this. He didn't manage to get into that next placement threshold, but they did obviously gain a couple. I mean, I was going to say a couple points. No, they got nothing out of that, unfortunately. The next game, we go again. But here's what the leaderboard looks like after all that. Cami City in first after those free 3 gifted eliminations off spawn. Really helped out in that total count, but they were obviously fragging throughout the entire match as well. For Strokey CRR Atco with the incredible incredible height takes, holding it in 5th, losing it in 6th, then taking it back in that 8th zone transition to ultimately place in top 3 in this as well with those 10 elims, which is massive. Volca come in to Ziptos playing their usual low ground playstyle. 6 elims is actually kind of low for them as well. And Mustache's team managed to do really well as well.
Yeah, loads of these teams very much impressing in that first game. Sean VP, shout out to that guy. I just love that name, so I'm just going to give him a shout out. Next page, we will take a look from 11th to 20th, where we have Kiriachi, Stormy Right, Toos leading the charge. Obviously, the champions from last season. Not a bad first game, but definitely not the kind of game that we want, and they'll be wanting to pick up the pace a bit. They still got plenty of games to do, so not just today, but of course tomorrow as well. I'm not going to overreact, right? It's just game 1 of 12, but very much, you know, standard stuff. The top team seeming to perform. A lot of the fights we expected to see happen are happening, it seems. Yeah, I'm liking what I'm seeing so far from you.
Let's hope this continues. We'll have to see. But like you said, Levin, we still have another 11 games, so it's okay. No, everyone calm down. Even if your favorite show is gone, it's okay. We have another set of games to go, so don't worry about it. For now, though, you heard the bus, which means we're going back with Shy Wager and Sundown for game number 2 of the finals. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Zeke, Reese, and Levin. 1 game down, and like we saw, a little bit of separation for kind of the top 5, top 6. You know, most of them with 6+. You saw 8 eliminations in there, Shio. That's more than we typically see. And also, the Victory Royale team in 3rd place.
Yeah, and a lot of these teams are getting those elims a little bit earlier in the game as well. So these all-swan fights are mattering for the total count at the end. The fact that the VR team is in 3rd kind of shows that you need to do a lot more than just win the game, especially in those south zones. Sometimes winning is a little bit tricky. It goes to a heal off. It goes to where height can't really activate and interact with the rest of the lobby. It's going to be weird if we end up at those mountains again, but we're in vacation mode right now, back at the beach. Mitro, Milan, Ari, and Lee are not going to have a cheese tactic to get a fast elim just yet. We'll have to work for it this time.
Immediate change from game number 1. Game number 1, there was a contest from Janice and his trio over at the hotel. They're trying to fight that. They already swapped away. They're saying, hey, at minimum, we're going to start in a split and we'll make you guys come to us. We're not going to go for the 50-50 drop fight. We're not going to take, I mean, honestly, if you put Mitro or Anlili or Milan against somebody where it's literally hip fire and a pump swap combo or shotgun in any combo in an early fight, I will take them. And they're looking to try and press that now because they say, hey, we know where you split. They're going to look. We'll keep an eye on that fight as we keep an eye on another fight. We got Catty Corner going on as Anas is able to pick up a knock, but Queasy also getting taken down. He got the confirmation on that side. Thomas trying to provide support while the revive ends up coming through, but you can expect pressure coming out from the other side.
I like the fact that Thomas is kind of the sentry camera at this moment. Oop. He's waiting and listening for the audio while he kind of loots all the way up. Unfortunately, though, gets caught coming back inside the building. Now it's all up to Anas by himself. Him versus Nate. Nate's got a little bit of shield and the momentum. As builds, though, Anas has a full siphon to use as well. Lots of mats to be able to work with. This is going to be a tough one.
Anas is the only... I'm not positive if there's a shotgun on the other side. I think we ended up hearing one now, so we could finally hear the loadout, but keeping an eye on the top left corner, Ariane Lee ends up going down to Noah Riley. There is a confirmation from Nate over on that side. There was a shotgun, so he will be able to get that. He's also drinking a big pot, which if he's able to get that effective HP even back out, now this is anybody's fight, right? There is a little bit more right heals available, but unfortunately, over in the stacks, Mustache, Malabuka, and Shizo make quick work, and Dressa, Mr. Savage, and Benji. We saw Shambles first game, second game, down to Mr. Savage and just a solo. He gets cleaned up, and that's 6 easy points going over for Mustache, Malabuka, and Shizo. They're really rolling the momentum as Noah Riley rolls Mitro there. He's going to pick that one up over in Believers Beach. So fights all across the board and 3 trios down early, and we're going to swing back on over to the standoff at Caddy.
I'm liking the juxtaposition of semifinals to finals. With the 4 games, people switched up the strat from game 1 to 2. They might have just gone away, not trying to fight again. With the 12, the ego's there a little bit. You want to just contest again. Maybe it was just a wrong, incorrect input on the fly-in. Maybe one missed shot cost you the whole fight. You have another chance. You have so many games to back it up. Now Anas is kind of going all in with this. He had the man advantage at first. 3 positions with the teleporter to get a little bit of an advantage on Nate. Nate's on the backside, though, of this ramp. It's going to cost Anas 3 more builds to be able to see him. The pressure will come in as a result, and Nate will build up. Now out of wood onto brick, and he's used metal. This might be his last match. The beams are going to be coming through. Anas is low on ammunition, though, so every shot has to count.
And he's low on builds. He's only 2 builds, and he was fall damage levels up. So if the pressure had actually come out on the other side, he was basically banking into a 50-50 at that point, saying that, like, hey, if you open enough, I'm counting you don't have enough trades. He has 12 medium bullets as well, so he's really putting it down. He's got 5. He can't even catch himself.
Yeah, there's no way to actually pull either player off the fight. The reboot van is in the middle of them. So they're literally fighting on two different fronts with no man's land in the middle. You literally cannot build there. Meanwhile, the map's telling us we're actually going to be going towards the north this time, a potential for Castle Zone. Maybe we end up at Pleasant Park. Those entire slipstreams are going to be very active as well for a lot of players to be able to move around and get those tags.
This looks like it's going to be probably between Pleasant Park and Craggy based on where the players are and everything. We'll kind of drop a pin in that. We'll see if my Nostradamus ends up coming true or my third eye is shut today. So we bottom right-hand corner got Fadil, Janice, and O'Reilly. As we said, they were able to pick up Milan, Micho, and Ariane Lee. That's a change up from match number 1. So they're going to get a chance to play the game this time because he's 6 points up on the board. And right now, Anas really just trying to hold off again because he talked about nobody really wants to leave this reboot van. You're trying to get whatever minimal resources you can, but only 2 shots left in that lever action shotgun. Does have plenty of shields, but this is a tense situation.
Already got pre-fired once. This time goes all in and get all the way up top. 98 builds, and what a jump shot from Nate. Really has the advantage down. Anas needs to be able to pop this 50 pop, but Nate's actually working on the foundation of these builds, going for the edit down, not even a chop, and a big shot before Anas even gets to have gravity effect his weight, his feet to pull him down. Nate's there with the shot.
That's fantastic by Nate because basically in the war of attrition, if you're able to play around the low ground, yes, the player on the high ground is able to look down and rain the shots on you, but if they don't have that much ammo, if they don't have the pressure, the builds to really continue going in, high ground doesn't count for a lot. You can run around, you can ride around and wait to look for that one little jump shot where your opponent is off guard. And yeah, Nate doesn't necessarily have the ability to pressure him from range, but he's the one to able to win out that fight, gets his 3 teammates back up, and this time, Shio, they get to play the game.
Yeah, and this is what the one thing I was going to mention is, 11 kind of touched on it at the desk. These teams are only going to be able to play like 6 games each if it goes 50-50. Although it's good for them to be able to play, kind of bad overall, even for any team that's contesting each other right now. Thorough Splash Milwaukee, one of those day 2 semifinal game winners, able to play inside the finals. They're going to have the same situation, fighting off of spawn every time. They're going to be at this black hole, chaotic place in the zone all the way up top near Pleasant Park. So many teams end up just coming back and forth through these split streams, through the crash sites. You go from third-party situations to fourth, fifth parties coming in. Carmi Wings, full net, going a little bit back and forth, looking at maybe dropping down some damage towards Koro, but he's really protected in these builds.
Just trying to keep the full builds up. Generally, you don't want to re-edit those if they've been going through and your teammates trying to take into that. You want them to be able to break through that full 500 damage on the walls is a lot to try and bust through. Like, that's not insignificant, even if a triple spray ends up coming out, especially if you have a ramp ready to go. So wants to ensure that he keeps that cover. But right now, Sabajo, Estam trying to find just a little bit of room, utilizing the spicy choke splashes to then get into that side window, the side tunnel, whatever you want to end up calling it as they get out. But Sabajo is end up going to pick up, and Estatam's just going to have to ride for the hills, taking as much of a vertical path as possible. Hopefully was able to at least grab Titty's reboot cards. Not going to be able to get the first one, but you can see Coral and Splash just kind of chilling and waiting still in that full built metal. His Wings, Full Net, and Carmi are going to move right along.
The trio doesn't make a noise. Do they really exist?
Yes.
According to Coral and Splash, it's actually a no, because this ends up working out. No one's gonna actually interrupt, try to find them. Can't really see through that metal. I wonder if they know they're free to move now, but we'll check in to see how long it takes them to keep things going. Taste and Chapik's reason also outside their POI. We'll look at the opposite of last game's quick stat, basically. The Tate, it's a total of 290 final appearances from all the players that are rolling in together. I mean, that is a lot of experience on the board. At the same time, formats have switched over time. Sometimes it's a 6-game finals we're looking at. Sometimes it's a 12-game rolling in. And the trios have really swapped up also over the season. So although that experience is there, this is a bunch of first times as teammates for a bunch of the teams that are rolling in. You'll notice in the end game, the way people break things down, the flavor might be different from the same names you're used to watching.
Where'd you get your flavor and where did it come from? All these trios, is it in that practice? Is it in the cash cups? Is it pushing? Is it playing a little bit less aggressive? Is it hunting down those little pieces of morsel who try and get away? Do you clean up all the scraps on your plate as Estetam does finally get chased down? We've had 6 trios drop. We still need 3 more to fall before the first round of placement points going through. And funnily enough, that's right around the same that's going to be impacted by that storm surge that's going to start creeping in. So kind of past that first check mark, it's did you survive the initial drop? Did you win your contestation? If so, congratulations, you get to play Fortnite again. And we've already seen for 2 times, that's the first time they're passing, or for 2 teams, it's the first time they're passing that check mark. But now you get to the next one where it's just like, have you been hitting your shots? Have you looked for other people? Have you thrown it around? And we'll kind of get that storm surge warning on the right-hand side here in a little bit where you'll start to see it. We'll get the first look in a little over a minute and a half. So teams still have a little bit to posture up, but that's why so much vertical building is going on. So many tags around the map happening.
Shots are also so much harder to hit, although more available at this long range. Stormy Right was just doing phenomenally. That scope type of rifle just looks really good overall, landing the long range shots this time. Besides the AR, talked about the Shadow Cube straps as well. It'll be easy for them to hit the slipstream and then really pull all the way up. Stay way high in the sky as a trio, undetected. I hope they have enough damage. I'm not sure what the overall total plan is here, but maybe just moving over to a different hill to have something pinged inside the zone. Maybe not too many people on this left side. Every time you see a pleasant zone, teams from the left side of the map end up really cutting right and then going straight towards the middle, or have the option of moving early, going around Coral. If you're kind of trapped in the middle of that, like Stormy Right is, and just waiting at the crash site, you might just want to go straight to center zone, find more shots there. Aqua, fast rookie CRR. Also having a little bit of a long range communication with a few bases. Lots of teams as a result get to sneak by, under, and around him. I think in 30 seconds, we'll kind of see where every team is at. Aqua shot down, but this is why we always see him with like almost 12 minis and a few big pots. It always looks really good. He likes to over peak a little bit, take that damage, pop a mini or 2 up, and then go for a few shots. Sometimes you'll see teams get some damage down and then immediately move thinking they're going to be at an advantage. Hey, one of those, you know, the person we just beamed is going to be healing up. Aqua is not that guy. He'll immediately just peek right back, go for a few more shots. It'll be easy for them to rack up that damage. Meanwhile, if you're not in a really big long base, you're going to have small box fights type situations being set up. ST, if they're going to be low on Surge here, might end up toe-to-toe with Karma, Zendaya, and Aware. Have to be careful, though, because if you get shot at a base stun down, it's kind of fine. You can mini up. If you lose your shield in a box fight, that's a signal for a team to go all in.
Man, it's tough when you're on that situation. We did see the storm surge warning on the right-hand side, 222 below. That's the first warning that comes through. That's the lowest team, the one who's done the least amount of damage. It's a relatively high threshold that's basically converting all the way on a full shielded opponent. So lots of work to go through. These guys currently sitting 192 above. And one thing to note particularly about this season is you can kind of afford to gargoyle and leave yourself hanging out there a little bit more, because with the exception of just getting ripped out of your box in a harpoon at mid-range, there's nothing that's overly going to punish you. Like, yeah, you could maybe hit like a triple dink headshot with that semi-auto sniper rifle. But I mean, if your name isn't Thomas HD, that's not happening that consistently. Otherwise, it's a couple of AR tags where even if they're max headshots coming through, you're not going to eat more than 2 in a row, right? That's going to be 80 damage. And that's still, there's no sniper rifles. There's no that one shot potential. There's none of those bows. There's none of the clingers that could end up coming through and just all of a sudden putting your team at such a horrible disadvantage. You can afford to just kind of hang out and throw some shots out there. But right now, Stormer and Kiriachi, they're under the pressure. They're 62 below. And as a duo, they have to be throwing shots out there. They're not really going to have the option to dive in.
Might be forcing themselves to search for that option then if they're not going to be peeking out. But as a duo, sometimes that's kind of what you have to do. It's going to be tough to really open up on all angles. You'll have one less, or I guess 2 less eyes to look for shots at long range. Malaka actually going down to Crow. They're surviving so long at a tricky south zone. Alabuka also victim by Cammy. There's something happening on one of these sides of the map. It might be this fight that Pink Gold and Banyak are actually pulling towards. I don't have sniper rifles enabled in the game, but if you have a box that you can 3-way beam into, it's going to be just as damaging, just enough if you land all those shots to the body too. Pink does not find anything and actually gets charged shotgun as he's trying to build up. This is not going to be profits for the squad we're watching near the zone. Peacock, Egram, and Nakaz, they're now awake. They understand what's going on around them, and they are not happy.
Yeah, and now they're wide awake, needing to basically play defensively, but also be cognizant of the fact that if they hear the shield break going through, this is an opportunity for 6 points. Like, if they can just get a tag and then back off away from this team, let Storm Surge do a lot of the work. Like, 105 is a decent commitment coming through. If they overstep and they can just get a couple tags, and look, didn't I talk about that zone just a little bit in between Pleasant and Craggy, like we said, pulling that on over there. Trust me, you watch plenty of Fortnite, you see plenty of zones. You keep an eye on the top left-hand corner. Somebody is not struggling with Storm Surge right now. 4ZR, XP's, and Alex with only one elimination, 714 damage above that first threshold. Seti picking up another elimination on... Like, can we potentially tune in with Seti, Cammy, and Teak at some point? I feel like they've gotten at least 2 or 3 elims. We'll see what's going on the bottom right-hand corner. But yeah, you can see Elocrats also picking up an elim there. Deceptos and Clement going down. The Storm Surge will end up finally going through here as one player goes down. It will turn off with only 2 more falling. Golds looks like it's going to be the second one. But because they got knocked before, Storm Surge will disengage on knock. But it looks like now Nakos and his trio are aware of the situation. They're going to push through. And hey, they got the 6 points out of it.
Yeah, they got a gold charge shotgun, launch pads. There were still a few minis and big pots left over. A harpoon as an option as well, double even if you want to get it going. And right now at Craggy, he might not be in zone. It's still action though. Karmi versus Murstache. He's kind of left by himself. Shiz was going to be helping out. Malibuka actually rebooted and then shot down again. It's going back and forth. He's going to get knocked down completely. It looks like, oh, did he pop a med kit? Something happened. Oh, there it is. Finally knocked down. Murstache gets that trade.
This is huge. This is 2 teams going directly across it. I mean, Karmi, Wings, and Fullnet did fantastic last game in turn getting pressure, but this has all been a battle over this reboot van because it is so close to the zone and going through. You can see him trying to stick the revive and get to the other side and create as much space. But you talk about loadout again, legendary charge shotgun, epic burst. He's actually going to drop that over for one of his teammates. You can hear reboot van does end up ticking back on. And honestly, they might hang out here for a second, see if anybody tries to loop back around. Brilliant job by them to be able to pick up that fight. And I mean, there's no slouches in terms of that. And you can see Karmi is still hanging out nearby.
Still hanging out. There's also one team rolling in from the left. So the longer they wait there, might be a little bit of trouble for them. The trap may be set up. I'm not sure who's rotating outside the zone, but there is one more team moving through Craggy. That's just a 4 trio situation. Meanwhile, down south, I guess let me do some counting real quick. Yeah, the rest of the lobby is all the way over here. It's tricky if you even drop one wall. They got such a nice blessing in terms of loot, but Nakos, I mean, the entire trio is just in trouble. Cryad's here with Candy, end up picking them apart, drop into their box. It was right on the zone line. That first fight they took wasn't all the way in, so I guess on movement, on rotation, they didn't find their footing, and as a result, slip a little bit. It's all up to him, but he has that purple pump, could do some damage before he gets taken out.
Has the purple pump, has the harpoon as well, so there is the option to be able to displace somebody very quickly. He is playing on the right-handed side. We keep an eye on the top left-hand corner because with 67 players left, we will have the warning on the next Storm Surge in a minute and plenty of players who can be under pressure. Nakos loses the advantage to surprise by building out. He's trying to create a little bit more real estate, potentially drop out, but the problem is it lets that trio know where you are, and they're more than aware of the fact that he's a solo. He's out of metal. He's now going to be forced to flip onto the wood builds, and that's going to be a go signal, not going immediately back over the brick of the players knowing his shield's broken. It's not long for this world for Nakos, and unfortunately the 8 elimination points that they got this game and the one from last is the only thing they're going to pick up. As a good job from Candy and Co, but they need to be careful because dropping down in that little valley, anytime you break line decides to pick it up, you tend to draw a little bit of fire.
I managed through all the flames there. Seems like it's a rule every time there's a solo just trying to build a new wall or something, the whole lobby must focus them, even if they know there is a solo there or not. So unfortunate overall. Game 1-2, a few interesting things happening overall. 3 of the top 6 teams actually contested. I remember a stat from yesterday as well. I think it's like a 5% chance if you're contested to really end up winning the game, doing well. To have that much damage happen earlier on to you in the game and turn it into such a good performance, that's just huge. We'll see that pattern rolling in over this 12-game format again and again. The contestation is, once again, you can keep fighting. You have a lot of room to work with 12 games. At this point in the game, though, people want to maybe avoid fights with the good on Surge. They're just trying to get in. Yanis, the deal, Noah Riley, kind of their situation. 500 damage above in this situation. All you want to do is just launch pad, get out and go. That's exactly what they do. Have to be careful, though. Every other trio might be active looking. Here come the edits out onto Jane. He's going to dodge a few shots. So the first trio to move, so not going to get targeted immediately. Walker's going to have to be careful because riding that same line, that's where people start to track the patterns of flight, get some easy bullets down. Meanwhile, box fight still going on. A Spanish trio up against Finale and Robot and Axe Force, and man, these guys are in trouble again.
Yeah, and we saw beforehand when they were in trouble due to the surge, this time well above the surge despite only having one elimination, but getting caught on the rotation. And you talked about the statistics there in terms of being contested early on, 5% chance of winning a match if you're contested. Well, if you lose a member of your trio before the 5th zone, not a single team has managed to win a game if you have lost a trio member before the 5th zone. That's over the course of this entire season. So the importance of staying up, not being in those clutch situations. Yes, we talk about Fortnite being the wonder and the ability for an individual player to go off, but at the end of the day, teamwork makes the dream work, and that's what will get you that axe of champions across all 3 of you. As you can see, Conde and Co. desperately trying to push forward. They will end up get above just 69, bouncing just on the other side of the barrier. You're going to feel good about that for right now, but Noah Riley going down to Splash in the feed, keeping an eye on the top left-hand corner as Storm Surge is driving this action. They are able to disengage a little bit here, but currently at least 2 trios are being hammered by that 25 damage every 5 seconds. Oh, great open up from Condi there to be able to trade on the side. Now he's got to disengage because they're coming fast and quick. He only has the wooden build, so despite disengaging back into the previous built metal, because he's re-editing it, it's not that effective. He's trying to pop a medkit on the other side, but it'll only get him 11 effective HP. Clinberry doing his best to try and force him off, but Zeku, Etsy, and Slove just brute force battering ram to path. They said, don't mind if we do, we're going right by, find some room to launch pad and take this, guys. Good rotation from them, and the action doesn't stop as we swing on over. Smash Milwaukee trying to find the Irish True on the other side. It's the deal who's dropped down to a solo. We're inside the 50 players, so Storm Surge just turned off, and we're closing in on those cascading placement points. 5 points given out right now. But Deal will miss out on any additional ones as he gets just blasted in the back.
Flanked from the back left, unfortunate for him. Zendaya also left a little bit behind inside the zone. This trio's not going to be up for the moment, and Alex all the way on the backside next to Snazy, Nate, Skype, Scram. He's going to be a solo, actually. I would assume this team was doing so well. We were tuning with them, or tuning in with them. They were looking good on Surge. Everything was fine, but it seems that every team that has a plan right now, their blueprints are getting ripped apart.
I want to see Seti. I want to see Seti, Cammy, and Teak. Dude, they're doing nothing but lighting up the feet. They've been playing amazingly so far, and we've seen them yet again picking up eliminations. Where are they in the priority position right now? Because Intellect, despite having the legendary pup, he has 11 builds. We're in the cascading placement points, so 1 point for each one of the trios that goes down. He has the moving zone pulling towards him, but we've known that the trios who are together on the low ground, that's where the action is, and look how well they're trying to get to the front side of the zone, child. That's the bottom left-hand corner there.
Yeah, they're the first place team as well, really pushing forward their lead. Right above them, second place, Fasoki, Star, Aqua. They're moving too. We're tuning in with Nate, Stacy, Skype, 18 points overall. Really want to see that first, second place on the left side though. Aqua and Cammy just up and down, back and forth, height and low ground. They're in their positions. Again, it might be a mimic of game number 1, but no mountains in the way this time.
No mountains in the way right now, but it is still a slight change in verticality, and with some of the old builds there, it's going to be a little bit more difficult to navigate, and it makes the priority position that much more important. We're going to swing on board. My prediction here, Nebs and Pink stomping, going down early. We saw that, but a pair of eliminations over here. I believe in the Pink supremacy. The lad has been on a tear recently, and Nebs looking for some great shots, trying to provide the glue. Also have some med kits for some cheeky plays and long survival, so should be looking to just play for whatever placement points they can with the priority position. But speaking of priority position, up on the high ground, UK supremacy it is. I know Levin's pumping his fist right now. Michael, Verox, Astro SMG raining shots down on the rest of the lobby.
They have control for now, but Zone is bouncing. The Aqua's right below him. Right below that, Steady Kami Tiku had a little bit of a fight at second height. They lose it, go down a little bit, just regain and kind of reassess what there is to do to make sure this game's gonna go well too. 500 above Surge, these guys should be fine. Analyst is a solo, picking up Karma, so he's still active inside this whole feed. This lobby has been torn apart fast though. 7th zone, we're already down to 12 teams, and that Surge is gone. Esti finally taken out by Jose. Past that, nothing really happening. If you listen really quick, I barely hear any AR shots. It's just shotguns back and forth on the backside of the zone. Seti, Kami, Teak are in such a good spot again, all the way at the front. Nate popping off, taking out Analex. Snazy finally going down, and then Nate gets traded by Xenolith as well. Teak, Cammy, and Seti are just waiting for the game to come to them. This is excellent, and they're actually defending their own. No, though, new visitors on the front side. This looks like desperation, but look at Teak. What a beautiful layer change. Going straight down, looks back to maybe get Cammy and Seti involved as well. Everyone's going down above them. Seti actually gets a trade inside that fight, and Teak is still moving on by himself. He set up a pinch now. Seti and Cammy are behind him. Teak lands the first shot. They got this man trapped in the box. They own everything, and Teak is the one actually dealing the damage and getting the E-limits huge. But now they're lost in the zone. and it's Fastroki that they take out. That's second place, and they're still moving forward. Super strong, but no, because of that delay, Teak gets taken out, and now he has to let his teammates carry that torch.
There's Kami, who's still up on his feet, doing everything he can. The question to what's in the box, it was Fastroki, but a first place trio goes down not after 8 eliminations in a top 7 placement. Aqua still up on his feet, but up on the high ground, we have the Spaniards raining down shots. The UK was forced out. You can see the elimination scale ticking over as Aqua is able to get the knock onto Hellfire. Confirmation comes to Trippin up on his feet, picking up Flonada. The Oxy raining shots down, picking up Sean VP, and Astro SMG also ends up getting scrammed. It's a 3v2 v1, Aqua being the one. Astro SMG and Barracks on the low ground, hip to hip, trying to run it out. Aqua, though, gets a little bit of room, also has 6 eliminations, so points to take it through at 152. That is a huge trade, but he's running out of space. He's not worried about the damage. He's worried about his HP in the zone on the side. 25 builds, but it doesn't matter if you don't have a spot to place them. Trying to get through. He finds some of his own builds, will get an edit, just have the chance to drop down. Some good box going forward, but a little too much. Opens it up in a top 3 performance to go along with 8 eliminations. Now it comes down to a 3v2. The Spanish trio was sitting on, my lord, 13 eliminations, 52 points right now. Second place, trying to win it out. Shio, can they do it?
They make it look like a mini game, playing whack-a-mole right now, just waiting for these heads to pop up. Look at how high they are. I didn't even understand how far in the sky this fight was going. Astra, though, has a chance low ground, individualized fight. He loses it. Close the lights, turn it all off right now. The Spaniards are here to play. Crow up top with the last shot. Deox and Jose are there with the second game victory royale.
Turn the lights off, carry me home. Nana, Crow, Jose taking it away. Brilliantly done, game number 2. But I mean, the funnel of eliminations, the amount of points, and that's kind of something we hinted at Mitra and his team being capable of. But let's face it, any team in EU at this point, if you get high ground, you get the right set of circumstances, you can rock off those 15, 16, 17 eliminations of the victory royale games, and that's chunky points.
Absolutely. Steady Kami Teak, though, had so many elims. Aqua was there with a chunk of the change as well. If there was attack for this game, it seemed like struggle for every other team from the mid to the end. So it ended slightly earlier. I want to see exactly what the desk has to say about that one.
A massive jump start here in game number 2 of the finals. It's only the first day of competition. We're already seeing a 15 elimination victory royale. Levin, this team has just said, listen, we want that Axe of Champions, and we're not going to make this easy for you if you're trying to take it from us.
No, that's a crazy game. A 60-point game is huge,
wild,
especially early on, right? You know, being able to sort of put yourself ahead of things is incredibly valuable. I was so impressed by what I saw from them. You know, I'll talk about, you know, the UK boys. I know Sundown mentioned I'd be pumping my fist. Look, when I saw them on height, when I'm looking at the height hold, I wasn't too confident. I didn't think they'd be able to maintain it. But where they did impress me, and I'll give them their props, typically with height teams, when they don't keep height, they fall apart. These guys being able to stay together, stay compact as long as they did, get second place is a huge difference maker. Some of the best teams we have in the region don't have that ability, aka Aqua's team, right? We've seen that a couple of times. So, you know, really good stuff from these guys as well.
Yeah, and I want to actually harp on about Diox, Crow, and Jose for a second there, because 15 eliminations is obviously mad, but remember in the previous game, they were the first team out. They were 33rd, 32nd in this one, going down to Kami Steady off spawn instantly. This game, they switched up the drop spot. They went over to the west side, up to Fort Crumpet, the castle split, as some may call it, and dominated from there on out. So a mature decision. There was a lot of beef going on Twitter. We're landing Kami split, and then, you know, game 2, they said we're not doing that anymore. And clearly, it's a good decision to take a free drop spot like this.
I love that. The adapting in that moment is absolutely crucial. Guys, let's take a look at the differences between game number 1 and number 2, because we're seeing, kind of like you're alluding to, Reese, there has just been some changes that have happened.
Yeah, I want to specifically focus on Believer Beach and this fight between, obviously, we looked at this in game number 1. We kind of missed this in game number 2. This is game number 1 straight away. Notice on the left-hand side here, you got Janice and Arian Lee, 50-50 a gun on the roof. Guess who gets it? Arian Lee, because they end up winning. And on this kind of hotel, look, it's a 2v1 right here. As you see, Noah's on this, and then he's also against Mitro, and at the same time, Milan up there, while Vadil down here by himself. So the strategy here was just a 50-50, the east side of this drop, which is really, really common. So they just basically, it goes down to like who's the better drops, who has the better aim, and as you notice, Arian Lee already has 2 eliminations, and basically Milan here just finishes up the final elimination because they were outnumbered, had the better drops. But this is game number 2, and I want to show you the difference here. Arian Lee's team's done the same thing. They've landed on this full east side, but notice the adaptation from Noah going down on the south side, Janice landing a bit further back, and then also, you can't see it, but up here, we've got Vidil over here. So look at the loot that they have. All of this and more in comparison just to a couple little houses, the hotel, even though it's a power position. Now I want to take one more part. I think Noah has taken the camper in camper van very, very seriously. I mean very, very seriously from here on out. As he's just sitting in the door, picks up the elimination onto Arya and Lee. Since they have obviously more loot, they have that availability to play around, and it just eventually end up winning from there on out.
Yeah, I can assure you, Mitro's team were very unhappy about that. Like, they didn't like that play from Noah, and rightfully so. But it just shows you how important this moment is when you have arguably the best fighter in all of Fortnite, you know, opting to play a lot more safe. It's because there's a lot more on the line, right? And as you can see, Aqua, Frostroki, NCR sitting in first place, Seti, Kami, and Teak in second, Mustache, Malabuka, and Shizo in third. It's funny because it was always going to be one of those steamy teams in this kind of a position, right? And because they're winning the fights, they're the ones here. Look, we'll see how this continues to play out, because a lot of these off-spawn fights have been key. But look, you know, really good stuff, especially from Seti, Kami, and Teak. We talked about how good they are in day ones usually. And now that they're not contested, hopefully we'll continue to see that.
Yeah, from like Queasy, Nas, and Thomas HD in 14th there, you see that they've ended up dropping down after going down off spawn. They were super, super close to winning. We saw that really tense 1v1 between Anas, still in catty corner, but it wasn't enough. And that's dropped them down from a top 10 position all the way down to 14th. And this is one of the difficulties of having such a 50-50 drop spot. Similarly, our previous champions, Kiriachi, Stormnet, and Toos, still sitting down in 19th, not really showing up too much in the first two games yet.
It's okay, though. You said it. First two games. It's fine. We still have another 10. But again, you need to be having something, right? You need to be putting these points on the board, because these games are going to slip away from us way quicker than we're ready for them to do so, right? But you guys heard the bus. There's a lot of breakdowns happening. We'll break down more after this next game. But for now, we're putting it back in the capable hands of Sundown and Shy Wager for game number 3.
Thank you so much, Zeke, Levin, and Reese. 2 matches down, 10 to go. 4 more today. We're closing in on the halfway or the quarter way mark. We're starting to get a shape of kind of what the lobby looks like, who's been consistent through the first 2 games, and who's been able to really have those high highs. And Shio, my question is, what do you think of these off-spawn fights?
I'm thinking they're kind of crazy in the way they're different in results. For some of these teams who are kind of uncontested and might go for a forced fight earlier on, things are going well the whole time. For other teams, it's back and forth. And sometimes back and forth Sundown, it's fun to watch. It's really bad for the teams. You only really get to play half the games, right? And now it even seems like the fights are lasting longer. So even if you end up winning off spawn, you barely even get to set up to play your whole game. It's trouble for every single team.
And this time we're going to check out what goes down over in Steamy Stacks. We already see some traces being thrown in there. Hey, everybody's on to the same drop spot as well. And we can see Savage ends up picking the harpoon, but how well do you hit that shot? Gets the first 70 tag, but you're no Clay Stelling there, but does get the assist from Benji, able to get the instant cleanup. So drops down, Shizo goes down. That could be an interesting swing there in the momentum. However, Savage is going to be picked up with only the 30 effective HP. So can they end up winning out this basically 2v2 plus a man?
Happened in the first game. I think I saw Benji get the first elim, but somehow ended up still losing overall inside the fight. All the way over at Caddy corner as well. Thomas H. is gonna be the one getting knocked down. We're gonna just bunker up in this base as well. 2v3 should be tough to really follow. Skype, Anas, Queasy. This time is going on the side. The boys who kind of own the spot first a little bit. They're gonna be rolling in. Pre-edits all around. Not sure exactly what Queasy's up to, but he's got some type of creative strat, some puzzle to build up and solve. Looking good so far. They just have one more person to take out.
Well, it's already a super obnoxious house to like kind of own the grid spaces. Like it's right on top of the grid. Like, yeah, you can be throwing ramps and stuff out there, but as soon as you start throwing the pre-edits in, all it takes is one situation where you think you're able to throw up a wall and you can't, and that's a fight one, right? Everybody knows how frustrated it is. They're like, oh, I could have swore that was my wall, or like, oh, why couldn't I build there? Well, that was the answer. There was an archway that he had placed that was full built metal, so it kind of blended in, and it makes it really difficult. But speaking of really difficult, Benji's loadout, I mean, we saw him opt to drop shotguns over for his teammates, but just rocking with only the common SMG. Mustache and Malabuka trying to keep the pressure down, but they know the longer they stay in this 2v3 situation, the more that these guys are going to be able to roam as a pack, kind of allocate their resources over, already able to drop Benji a shotgun, and the situation looks a little bit worse than it did before.
Still good overall. They have a little bit of that zone advantage. It's not going to be a south one that they really have to push and work for. The big thing, though, is that, you know, when it comes to surge from the north side, or just a situation after this, the mid game, we saw in the pre-show, the breakdown, there's so many teams still up here 2 more to walk through. Meanwhile, this fight over at Believer Beach saw Sean VP, once they're done looting, actually end up driving by and finding one of the teams that's left over. This time, it's not going to be a conflict, a fight straight off spawn. It's not going to be a chance for an all-in type of play to get a team off your POI and get that surge. Arian Lee, Milan Mitro deal as well, going to have a little bit of overall restraint. As a result, Sean VP, you know, these teammates or these teams, when they're fighting each other, dropping closer to on the map, they pay attention to the elim feed. They get to see who's going down, who's landing those shots. And apparently Xenolith hasn't seen anything. Remix knows that this fight's still going on. They're not going to all in and try to have a say in that fight.
This game was a little bit more kind of poking and prodding. You know, if you equate it to a boxing match, we end up getting out there. You know, the first round, both players just walked out and just tried to punch each other in the face. Second round, both players watch out and again just tried to punch each other in the face as he was going. The third round, they both they walked out, they shook hands a little bit, and they're like, all right, we're seeing what's going on. Because you notice in the top left-hand corner, despite 6 players having gone down, every single one of our trios is still up. So we got some solo and duos running around. We still have reboot potentials, but nobody has just been full eliminated off spawn. And we're near in on first zone closing. So we've been playing a little bit of Fortnite right now. This is the most stack lobby we've had, and it seems like the teams have at least gotten enough of a gauge of what their opponents are doing around them to decide to not fight if they want to.
First all-in, yes, will come in at Gorgeous Gorge.
Oh, no.
I saw Egrim get an elimination, so I'm like, yeah, it's always going to be fine there overall. And Osto has to run away. And Dreda ends up getting one of the final eliminations as well. Looking like on both sides, things are getting crazy across the north and south portion of the map. I'm wondering exactly how he's going to end up going down. That a 2v1 advantage overall, but in Misty, it's going to be flipped.
And you checking over at Steamy Stacks, and Dreta just basically got gifted elimination there. You can see Malibuka trying to get the reboot down, but effectively they were just around the side. They're like, all right, are you good? It's the easiest 1, 2, 3 of their lives. I mean, picked him up before he was able to get out, but right now you can see Illocrat, Centric, Hotzi, Luke Boy, Tripper, closing in to just try and be like, hey, we heard some fights were going down over at Steamy. Did you guys resolve that yet? You Kai okay? And Murstos is actually still trying to dip out over on the side. And of course, with Steamy utilizing the stacks themselves to rotate away, there's so many disengagement options. And the fact that the eastern side of the map, there's such an abundance of not only metal, campfires, fishing spots, but there's a ton of floor loot over there as well. Like, you can just chill on that side of the map forever.
It's really nice to chill, though, when you have a team.
Hey, it's fine to chill without. There's reboot fans over there too. I mean, he already hit it once. Why not go hit it again? And I mean, that's probably what Savage, Benji, and Adreda are hoping for. They need to farm the points after the first 2 game disasters.
Also on damage, they've only really touched 2 players so far. Allowing that reboot to really come through, getting a trap set up, and basically getting shots on 5 players. But it's the same team, would be huge. I don't think Illocrat is leaving, though. If you look at the way they play in different seasons, a lot of the time when they have the advantage and the zone, end up just sticking over here or right on that zone line, and then keep poking, prodding, like you were saying, the theme of this new act inside 12-game series. They'll just keep going for those beams.
I mean, you look at it as the story. We just kind of got through the prologue. Everyone's good. Maybe chapter 1 was down. All the main characters have been introduced. We see who's sitting up at the high table. We see who's just trying to begin their power arc and try and climb up. The Spanish trio did a great job of storming into the main stage and introducing themselves with that 60-point performance. But the question is, who's there to capitalize? Because right now, our Goliath sitting on top of the throne is GX Artique, BL Steady, and Cammy. And I mean, they're doing it because they owned their named split. But as we talk about it, keep an eye on the top left-hand corner. Can't forget about the elims. Arian Lee picking up yet another one. That's his 3rd of the day, right? Micho's going to get the confirmation, but Arian Lee's been the one carrying the work.
Really been opening up all the opportunities the team has. And Micho's a great closer in these fights as well. Always knows exactly when to be aggressive and keep things active the whole time. Thought that was an enemy flash in, but it's just Steady rolling through. Her Cammy actually joined the team. You're talking about prologue. I feel like we've watched Teak, Steady, and Cammy's sequel or their end of their movie over and over again in these end games. It's dope to get a tune in, see exactly where they're basing up, how the start of their game is going, maybe even off spawn to see, are they actually not landing at that dish POI next to their split? Are they giving it up a little bit for that Spanish trio and be able to play out their total game? Crazy to even think that Mutual are in lane. Milan picked up another fight in the fact that they disengaged and they couldn't even push south. Instead, they go north. This is one of the coolest options you have at Believer Beach. Either the 3 teams or the little hub you have all the way to the crash site down south. If it doesn't work out, pull north, especially if the zone's there, and find 4 more teams to pick apart.
And Arian Lee has 2 eliminations now, so ignore what I just said. He's doubled his total. He's up to 4 by himself, basically carrying the team. He has 8 of their 17 points. They've, again, 5 of those games to the first round of placements, so really doing a good job of making sure he's converting on all these and stepping up. Again, we've talked about just how before this, Balad and Micho had 9 finals appearances total between them. Arian Lee with just 1 last season, but honestly has stepped up here so far today, has been keeping them in the conversation, but keeping an eye on the conversation in the top left-hand corner, only 1 trio has gone down. Only 1 more player has gone down since the last time we checked. Yeah, we've seen some reboots go back and forth and some other numbers be traded, but our net loss was 1 player. We're still at 92, which means about a third of the lobby is going to be threatened by Storm Surge here in a minute. That's going to be a lot.
The reason is, I think everyone's being able to escape their POIs with this north pull and get access to so many different reboot vans. Not even sure exactly where Thomas and Queasy got to play the game again. It must have been Lazy Lake overall.
Yep.
They're back. Looks like they kind of maybe made it off spawn with that loadout. They may as well be eliminated right now. They need a little bit more than just the common-ish
They need
or
Matt.
uncommon burst they are. They need a very big map pull as well.
Or a
With this
fight.
solo, this might be it. They didn't really get as much damage down off spawn. Might be good to completely confirm a fight overall, but with 1 minute on that zone, so far away from that north side as well, this might not be the best position overall to hit that fight. They also ping a launch pad under a bridge, so they have every reason to disengage, pick up that mobility, and go for a different fight elsewhere. Thing is, though, so many different trios should be in the situation, right, Sundown? The reason we have so many teams alive is probably because of these reboots. Should be a lot of desperate acts happening on this first surge threshold.
Just keep an eye on Mustache. He is just hanging out literally in the storm right on the edge, knowing that a 1 tick when I have 20 HP doesn't really make a difference. And you can see he wants to dip back in and be able to convert that reboot, but Mr. Savage, Benji, and Adrata are going to end up rotating ahead. They are taking some fire from somewhere. Not exactly sure where that's coming from, but this is, again, the first time they made it off spawn. 6 points for them so far in game number 3. What can they do with it? Because we know if they get out of this situation and they have the loot, they are more than capable players. Every single one of them has been able to put it together. They've been around the scene for such a long time, played on so many big stages that realistically, this is an opportunity, but I'm curious as to what's going on with Mustache over there. Yeah, thank you, observers, for tuning back in, and he's going to get that reboot, Shio.
Keep 32 team dream alive? I mean, everyone's going to be turning back in terms of Kilocrass's trio and Savages. Figure out where they are. Does he get both? No. Oh, he does.
Yep.
What a dramatic delay, by the way. Is it ever that slow?
Oh, I don't know. I feel like there's a little bit of timing going through. I think it may just be a delay on the spectator side of things, because when you're a player, right, like you don't necessarily think about it. You pop in and you're right there, and if you're the one reviving, you kind of turn away. A quick stat left-hand side. EU has averaged the fewest reboots per game, 5, and had 2 in game number 1. And again, we saw a drastic uptick from what EU had previously done in terms of their reboots over the course of this season, but that was it due to the changes we talked about in rebooting as a whole. NA West has more often than not been the king of reboots, but even now, I think in the finals and in the games that we saw yesterday, where it's the winner-take-all format, players were prioritizing just having 3 people up so much. And again, it goes back to the statistic where if you're not a full trio going into the 5th zone, there has yet to be a team to win a match.
It's also on the themes we're talking about. The first 2 games were kind of like boxing matches where everyone's bodies are made of glass. Every time one trio gets knocked, you're going all in. It's 3v3 and no one's really living and surviving. When you go towards that poke and prod type of aggression, you might get 1 elim or 2. You'll leave a survivor. They'll run away. We'll get a reboot. We saw the pattern happen over and over again, from Caddy to Lazy and Steamy to Steamy with Mustache's trio. Also a lot more all the way across the map. 155 below. Clinberry not going to be caught on the backside of a hill. This time they're controlling a little bit of the top of it, looking for any angle they can find for some damage. And I think all the team is actually pulling in the work. From 115 up to 54. They have multiple angles and rifles. It's going to be tough, though, because now every team realizes what's going on, where the hubs are, where most of the shots are being fired. Damage is coming down. They had their one free opportunity for a lot of shots, but this time it's trouble.
CRR going down the feed there. 2 dids. We'll have to keep an eye and see if that is a confirmation, if they're just over peaking. And these guys say, hey, Storm Surge game plan is full send. Here we go. High ground retake, doing a short pad onto the team directly in front of him. 149 below. 25 damage every 5 seconds. It's impacting 7 trios. So that feed in the top left-hand corner is going to light up. Edison gets the knock onto Aqua. He's going to get confirmed as we just kind of keep a look and see where that damage is going through, who's being forced to fight. You can see actually on the low ground right now, Hellfire, he's setting up a chop, trying to bring these 2 trios down. Nebs ends up getting the confirmation onto Shizo. That was the reboot we just saw come through. Pink also gets one onto Murstache, so they end up being the benefactor there. Kami's going to trade out Edison, who was the one to just end up taking out Aqua, so some very top of the leaderboard impact right there. Here comes the chop. Kleinberry gets sent all the way down, and it's Hellfire and Co. who reap the benefits of it. They send him not only down the level, but some had built out over. They drop 2 trios on top of him. The question is, what can they get out of it? Cryan ends up getting taken down. You can see Kleinberry also down. Kandi, 19 damage below Storm Surge. He's going to get taken out as the feed continues to light up. 2 more trios need to go down as Skype and Nate are yet again victims of Storm Surge. As Khan, 19 damage below, trying to find the room. Can he get the shot? And he gets taken down. For Strokey also falling, and that is a brief but violent exchange of action.
All across the map, too. And one of those teams, Thomas HDs, who got rebooted, ends up fighting Snazy again, rolling in. That's super unfortunate. I remember getting the trios mixed up. Sky was the one that was full contesting. So there's going to be a little bit of difference all the way on that side of the map. They're going to get completely knocked out. Thomas is not going to be up for now. He's will have to move with the NOS, and this is just another very desperate situation. I think they're getting tagged by Surge this entire time. The fight does not stop all the way over here at the chopping block. Low Scram and Hellfire. I'm not sure if they were the ones who did it or if it was a trap set up by Floki, but they did get knocked down a lot more. NOS finally taken out, and Crow goes down to Surge as well. The team that was looking so good on high ground a game before in a somewhat similar zone. It is not a completely southern one, but somewhat north, are not able to really push forward in this game.
And Queasy gets struck down right there, sent back. He'll get to think about the back half of the games today. Says match number 3 is done. And you can see Stompy being like, I saw that happen. Luke coming down, raining into the sky. He's going to go pick up whatever the remnants are. +1 to awareness for him there. He passed the check. Nice little nat 20 on the roll. As Flonata make sure he pops the med kit. Don't see any extras there, but the fact they're sitting on 3 eliminations. We also, congratulations to everyone in the match aisle, +5 points, top 24 trios. We'll have our 4th zone coming out, so everyone's going to be battling for that edge of zone real estate. And right now, not necessarily the worst spot of the map. Relatively flat with the exception of kind of the northeast area. And even then, it's not too violent of a grade. There's still a natural high ground towards the southern side. So as long as the 4th zone basically isn't directly over the 2 of those, most of these trios should be moderately happy with their position.
I'm wondering what Flows is a little bit more happy about. The elims, the placement points he just got, or the fact that their entire team 700 damage above Surge with enough 50 pots to provide for almost every single player on this map. They're gonna split them apart, picking up the base. They grab zone 2. Everything's going right for them. But sometimes when that happens, you have to wonder, when does the first thing go wrong? I'm not sure where they're gonna exactly trip up. The only troubling thing I see is that they are around a bunch of other trios, and if they are desperate on Surge, they don't have a chance to do another chop trap again. They're gonna have to go head to head with another trio box to box.
Shia, if you sit there and always wonder when something is going to go wrong, you're never going to appreciate when you're in those amazing moments when things go right. Yes, you can always sit and focus on the wrong, but something can always go wrong. And you only can appreciate the wrong because you've known these awesome moments, like when that 4th and 5th zone dropped directly on top of your heads in the middle of an FNCS finals, right? There's very few things that feel better than that for these competitive Fortnite players to get that amount of pull, particularly when you've set yourself up to be in a position where you don't necessarily have to overextend. And we talked about it where there's a little bit of space toward the northern side, but largely it's going to be a decent investment for those teams in order to kind of maintain this apartment complex. Whereas a team on the south, because they're right on top of that nice little berm and nice little kind of increase in area, the 5th zone post over there, they're going to be much stronger in terms of mats, but it doesn't really matter for T because he's sitting on 150.
They're gonna throw him right now too, in terms of just right above and such a huge base compared to everyone else's 1-bedroom twin bed apartment down below. Stormy Right, Kiriachi, 2's finally all active together, and Stormy Right just picked up a few eliminations, so yeah, they should be very good on Search. Are getting ramped over by a few teams, and this should be kind of scary. If you're looking for a little bit of a Halloween theme, this is definitely it. You can't even see out of these builds It's getting slightly darker and you're hearing footsteps all around you. Good on Surge. You don't want to open up any of these doors. You don't want to check what's going on above you, but it is Vidil and O'Reilly and Janice. Not sure about their situation, but with open bills, looks like they need some tags. Beecher, Milan, Ariel still having some fun. This time Ariel down, unfortunately, biting off a little bit more than he can shoot. Looking in his zone slightly later. As a result, they're getting focused. 124 damage above Surge. With the lack of shields, it looks like they just got above it with a few shots. Ariel might have been the sacrifice overall. They're going to be targeted by Sean VP. If it's not a third party off of spawn, they'll find him all the way in the 5th zone and still send them all the way home. This is unfortunate. Milan now last alive, has a little bit of a situation to clutch. Savage actually finally going down in the feed as well. Carmi picks him up. Wondering what's happening on that side of the map. Still just 51 above from Milan's POV. We've seen people like Snazy get 20 points from this moment onwards as a solo. Janice actually going down, so Surge must have been a problem. Remix picks him up. Sean VP's trio is actually just soaking up so many different points inside this feed. Vidil's also going to be picked up there. That trio is almost completely wiped out, and we know that there's going to be another one just sitting in the middle of all it happening and going down.
While all these Storm Surge tags are going on, we still keep saying Steady, Cammy, and Teak. Their names popped up in that feed a couple of times, so they're just adding on to the point total. And right now, Milan actually has a great beat on just raining shots down here. Not sure if he was the one to confirm that knock. He is going to be the one to end up getting the Elam there. Splash ends up getting taken down, but he's going to basically be able to pass the Storm Surge test. But he needs to be careful playing Luke Goblin right on the edge of the map because there's a reason those players are taking a ton of shots, and he's going to about face towards the side. But the benefit of being a solo player in this regard is you don't care about burning anything. You're like, well, if I happen to pass a pile of loot, there's no way I'm grabbing it at all, and I just need to make some more points. So he's trying to get in the cascading placement points. 51 players remaining, 19 trios. 2 more will need to go down before we're there. 1 more before Storm Surge turns off, and he's doing his best to run the solo points. And speaking of solo points, Andretta is sitting on 4 eliminations right now. Benji Fishy also has the 1, but they're not in the cascading placement points, and he's in a little bit of a desperate situation. Has builds, but no shields.
A trio of solos here. I think it's Chapix, Andretta, and Milan kind of stacked side by side. Technically, they all going to be playing the same type of game, not going to be looking at each other, but no, Andretta actually runs into a full team and gets popped.
Yeah, and Wings also end up picking up an Elam there, but not before Carmi ended up going down. We've been seeing them a ton in the feed in that top left-hand corner. But Fullnet finally ends up getting cleaned up on the backside of the zone. We'll hop on over. Yeah, we can see Teak has been able to confirm 1 of the eliminations, but none of Steady's knocks have actually turned into any points, so a little bit thinner on the points so far. We are into the cascading placement points now as we have 15 trios left, so each trio going down is an additional +1 point. Etsy gets the confirmation onto Fullnet right before being taken down by Michael. Scram also picking up Elam onto surprise 2, so we'll get Milan. That will end his run just inside of the top 15, so picked up a nice little additional 3 points for his team, but that's about it. As you can see, Teak and Steady looking for some room, but they're a little bit higher up than they're used to. You can see them trying to change level, trying to find a way to change the situation. They're going to do it by recycling a launch pad and getting out of dodge.
I wonder how they actually end up attacking this entire situation. Usually their team is like a machine. Every cog and gear has to be well put in place, at least when these moving zones start. This time, they're losing a big portion of the robotics. They're not going to have Cammy, one of the most aggressive, members of that trio. Even on defense, he's the one kind of responding with the shots and is there to pick up a bunch of the eliminations. Teak will still be tarping. Scram, Hellfire, all the way up top with Flow, so they're going to be looking good as well on high ground. Not really contested just yet. Teak is inside the business of mid ground, though. Zone is still a little bit further away. Actually have Steady tarping up for him. He gets trapped and harpooned down, though. Oh, no. A little bit of a trap door down below. He gets taken out. That's Verox who picks him up.
Yeah, he's in the business. Unfortunately, business is not booming. They had to close their doors, and Steady is the last salesman on the way out. Close the lights, get as many points as you can, and make sure you lock up. But he's looking to break triple digits after 3 games, so they're going to be happy with that. As you can see, Remix picking up elimination in the top left-hand corner. Floki also getting a knock onto pings. We're into the top third of players. 3 more will need to drop before that Storm Surge is no longer a problem. We do have Scram, Hellfire, and Flonata up on the high ground, but then also hip to hip on the low ground. You see Taste and Reason there with Chapix playing on the backside of the zone, trying to pick up some eliminations. Tripper does finally get knocked by the Solari player. That's Clement. Taste finding a knock onto Nakos to get a little bit of revenge there. Floki will also find Tripper as Chapix gets a knock onto Gold. We're keeping an eye with our passes as winner here, as 2 Scariachi and Stormy are trying to play some of the lake and trying to push themselves up onto that first page of the leaderboard here, and their hip to hip is looking pretty good.
This is where all the tension is, though. Low ground, Floki popping off on all sides. Taste now losing Reason. That might get him activated. Looking for a little bit of damage on these bills. Will he control the stair? No. Going to be blocked off. Going to be blocked off completely now. He'll have to go backwards a little bit. of a bounce back actually coming with the zone. Reason is going to get fully confirmed. We saw that it was going to be other team on the same layer taking him out. Jox is going to take out a Stiptos. Aggrum going down in the feed as well. They have a very good ARP and base all the way at the bottom. Looks like things are quieting down on the bounce back too. Everyone in their old builds. It's going to be fine to just recuperate, assess exactly what there is to do next. 7 different teams here towards the 8th zone. It's going to be a completely passive zone too. No one really getting knocked at all. They're just waiting for the final 9s. Where does this one pull? A nice beam. Good team effort here from Tayson and Chapik. So we got another elimination. That'll be Wixis finally going down. Now there's a little bit of conversation going on above.
Oh.
People are getting active. Oh no! A random invader at the bottom side of the base. It'll be Crizzy actually taken out. Tayson, Pauly's going to be traded to Chapik versus Crizzy on the low ground. Going to be looking for it, both looking for a little bit of control. It'll be tough to actually gain. It's so claustrophobic down here. You're basically operating with just half a box.
It's so tough for Tayson too, because he kind of checked on the right hand, but you saw him just for a half second kind of hesitate. It's another boundless outfit right on the other side, and he's like, is that one? But he should have known Chapix was covering his 6. It's not a friend, that's a foe in front of you. But Chapix now, a player who's been around for a long time, the Falcon player looking to just get whatever points he can. Said he finally goes down, but was able to rack up at least a 7th place. There might have snuck in for a cheeky little 6, a Scram Hellfire, and Flonato start working top down. This slight change of verticality could be enough. Chapix has a bandage, but he doesn't need to pop one like Zexro. Instead, just going to run around the corner here, find a little bit of room, trying to bout face. Has the epic pump, but he's already walked himself into a top 4 placement. They have 9 eliminations. It's a bunch of points on the board. If he just waits, Flonato and Co have been working top to bottom. They're looking to find the eliminations. Curiosity's still up. Now he's going to top 3. Now he's looking to touch the high ground. He ends a 140. He interrupts the shield, but he can't find his way back into zone. He flubbed the builds, and what could have been a monster clutch for him instead just throws a little bit of a monkey wrench into the final play. It's going to be Curiosity with 3 floppers back in the zone. He's popping the Stoosh to find a little bit of space and to find the HP. He's going to play defensively, but he has the chance here to play not only for the flopper, but for the Siphon. Scram doesn't have the time. Flonata doesn't have the HP. And Curiosity defensively holds it off. The winner says, get us on the board, Sundown. 6 eliminations with the victory royale. That's 42 points in match number 3. And that puts him in the convo, Shayo.
Yeah, catalyst though of that end game in the top 3 situation was Chapix, maybe the Chapelist, I guess, but that was huge for him all the way towards the very end. I mean, a big breakdown too, because some of those top teams, Sundown, they got taken out earlier in that end game.
There's so much to end up happening on the leaderboard. It might be a little mini version of the Shupening happening going on. We'll see a little bit of a shuffle going on, but to break it down, we're going to kick it over to the desk. Zeke, Levin, Reese, take it away.
Thank you guys so much. Very crazy to think that we are halfway through day number 1. That was game 3 down, which means we have another 3 out ahead of us. But Kiriachi showing up big time. I like the defensive play coming out, just understanding, hey, look, whatever happens, this is going to go to a heal off. And I'm just going to box myself up. Like, I can hear things going on around me. I can hear shots. I can hear people running around in the builds. I don't want any part of that, man. You guys fight that out. I'm chilling.
I think he could hear all the people doubting whether they'd be ready to come in this season and actually, you know, be of any significance. Look, a great game. All the top 3 teams, right, at the end of that game took 42 points away from that, right? So, you know, all having varying amount of eliminations, right? Great games for all of them as well. You know, Shia talking about the flavor each of them bringing into that final moment. Look, that's a really good game. Really good game for all those teams, all teams that really should be competing as well. All around, I've still not been surprised by anything I've seen so far in these games, right? Which is a good thing, by the way. Like, it's not a bad thing by any means. But all the teams, well, hopefully not. I don't want to see anything too crazy.
What I am slightly concerned about, though, is the fact that with Kiriachi's team, alongside obviously Toos and Stormy, right, their bread and butter is just getting top 5s repeatedly with like 4 to 6 eliminations there. That victory royale was obviously 6 eliminations as well, which is in the elimination mark. They've done their placement as well, but the 2 previous games, they were 21st. Wow, that's a good one. 21st on the leaderboard before that, coming into it with obviously only like 20-ish points there. So they're already starting to slip from what is their bread and butter play style. And they're not a team who'll be able to pop off with like 20 eliminations at some point.
Yeah, guys, talk to me about how these teams are dealing with Storm Surge, because we're seeing a large portion of these trios uncontested, but they're not really having Storm Surge issues, question mark?
Well, look, this is the team that came 2nd place in that game, right? And the key to these guys, they're getting everything tactically so correct, right? You can see here, Flo is out of Lazy. He's already pushed out of Lazy rather early. Most players at this point in the game are still looting up their POIs. He's out here, he's looking for anything he can in retail, right? He's looking early on, let me get a high elevation, look to see if I can spot anyone out in retail. He does, right? He gets a tag, and it's only a little tag, but every little helps, right? Because these guys aren't fighting teams off spawn, and so they need to accrue damage throughout the game at any moment that they possibly can, right? Here's an example here. If you look at the map, you know, look at where they're positioned in terms of, you know, leaving Lazy Lake early, looking to get up. They know there's going to be plenty of teams coming in from this area, right? Plenty of teams congregating around Lazy. If we're positioned up on this hill, we have a better angle to view all of this. Not just that though, you can view everything over here, right? They're so high up that they can see so much more. They have more potential to get these kind of tags, and it makes them able to stay in the game for so long. It's the reason why they're able to, you know, be deep in games, because they're not worrying about surge as well. Not only that, right? When you have Scram here as well, another example, very high elevation, higher than all these teams, right? He can see all of them. They don't really have the best angles on him. He has the semi-auto sniper as well, and that's going to do incredible amounts of damage. And then even on rotations, right? Not just the elevation, being early, right? This is an example where they've launch padded into zone before anybody else. They know that there's going to be teams coming in from this angle. There's actually a team there, right? Trying to rotate their way in. And so what does he do, right? They can just sit there and they can just spray away, right? Stay just above surge, enough to get them deep into games and get these 42-point games that they just did. And that helps push them all the way into third place there as well. 86 points isn't too shabby right now, but they're going to have to keep on doing that, right? Stick to the tactics that they've worked with so far. Seti Kami and Teak sitting in first place. Sean V. Peace in second place as well. I'm loving it.
Yeah, Flois up in third, 2 from that big game where obviously, like you just mentioned, you broke it down, what set them up to put them into that position. Aqua CRR for Strokey not managing to fully capitalize too much on that final game, going down in 28th to a surge fight relatively early on. But again, a lot of our top teams here, you know, not really shaking too much up so far. I think a lot of the teams that are up there are very much so predicted to be up there. I mean, apart from C2S8, I think a lot of people, if you thought of them, you'd be like, they were contested spawn, they had to fight. But obviously, we saw the Spanish team just leave straight away, and now they seem to be on absolute top form. And I'm down for a C2S8 win.
There's a lot of respect being handed out, right? Everyone's looking at each other saying, "This is finals, friend. I know you're here for a reason, as am I." Let's be cautious here. All right, you heard the bus. We're going back aboard. Shio Wager, Sundown. Take it away.
Thank you so much, Zeke, Levin, Reese. 3 matches down, 3 more to go today, and then 6 more tomorrow. We're halfway to the halfway mark, Shio. And again, we go back to kind of the book metaphor here. Now we're through the opening chapters, right? We've met all the main characters. We kind of know who our protagonists are. Cammy, Seti, Teak have risen up. They're the ones who have slain the dragons. They're currently setting all the taxes along the land and deciding who goes where. But we've seen that these players are more than capable to rise up and provide challenges. So when will our protagonists end up slipping up? Who has the opportunity to upset them? And already we see potentially a little bit of a change to the Spanish trio heading all the way over to this side of the map. Not sure they were heading over here before. You see the pings immediately coming out, potentially a quick 50-50 going off. And Arian Lee's going to pull completely away from the hotel, which I think is uncommon for him.
Yeah, usually they end up just bunkering down on that side or doing as much as possible to gain a little bit of a vantage point overall. We'll tune in there in just a second because things are still hot over at Caddy Corner. This is going to be nuts. Thomas HD with an excellent angle ends up getting a free elim. Usually the trades don't happen this fast. Not sure if it's a 1v1 situation or things are fully resolved, but he's looking a little bit more easy going with the revives. No, it's still going to be Thomas HD going for a clutch. Has to actually get in the Nate's box before that revive comes through on the Snazy. He does. I mean, I guess pros don't fake on the stick, but at the same time, that's free for Thomas HD.
Yeah, pros don't fake, but I mean, it doesn't matter how good you don't fake. He's going to have to now take a 1v2 immediately after. And Thomas is good, but he's not that good. He has no clue these guys are here. The reboot Vandals right there. You should assume this is open, and now he's just going to walk into a literal trap both sides. So go ahead, put your skills to the test. Going to ramp out, going to burn his last of his chug splash, and that's it. No edit course, no shot. Even with the uncommon lever action, I don't think you have one shot down potential on any of those players. So we'll zip back on over to the stacks where we saw Mr. Savage was actually able to get a very early confirmation over on the other side of his Malabuka, who I believe he picked up, leaving Shizo Mustache to try and fight this 2v3. And for, I believe, what's the 3rd game in a row, they've gotten the first elim. Now, last game, they were able to farm 4 elims out of here with the reboots coming off before then running into a tough situation. But they aren't struggling to necessarily get the first foothold. They're struggling to do anything after that, which I feel is very atypical for Benji Savage and Andretta Shio.
Yeah, I feel like as well, a bunch of trios rolling in, especially theirs to end up having differences in strats or changing things up after 3 games at least of success or non-success, right? It feels like it's other teams that are rolling through and actually making the changes, going for an extra push towards the drop, just like we saw pings at Caddy Corner. The fact that things are just kind of staying the same overall, the aggression isn't really rising on the Benji trio, is slightly concerning. Because usually by this point, they have something solved.
But right now, Sudoku's looking real hard. It's the one I'm very difficult with only a couple little letters in there, or a couple little numbers in there. Well, maybe that's why my Sudokus are hard and putting out letters in there. But they don't necessarily have the right numbers for the question. But instead, Micho trying to get a little bit of swerve going on, got his serpentine motion in there. And I like the call from the disengage. Like, if we look at the average number point shot, we talked about it. I mean, 13 from that first game after 3 matches, they're right around kind of that threshold, but they need to have that bigger effect. In order to do it, they need to get into one of these end games. And to be honest, I don't think they're going to be doing it, fighting Janus and Co. at the beach every round. It's just too hard.
I've seen them survive a little bit overall and even get by in a great situation, but with a bad zone. I feel like if they end up Venn diagramming that and get both a good zone and a favorable lucky position off spawn, they can really put out the points needed to catch up. Because this is not a team, right, when it comes to Mitros, that just shows up in an end game and plays a little bit, gets an average amount of points. When things go right for them, they end up breaking records. So I feel like they're still kind of in the conversation. They hold the lead. I'm not sure if it's that true. It might be this one on screen for you guys right now. CRR, Fast Roki, Aqua. Last game, a little bit of a trip up. 28th, no points, no placement. Look back in this one. They have a home zone. Boney is going to be almost at center in the middle, or at least in a very favorable position to be able to just roam around, take control of a lot. And yeah, anyone that's kind of at Boney right now can maybe move over to conversions, have a lot of options. We've seen a lot of teams at Believer Beach even go north to get some surge at Pleasant Park. It's maybe exactly what Aqua's game plan is. Reason Taste and Chapix. They're also going to be centered fast. I mean, did they land Craggy or did they land in this car first and then just end up center map? That is a really quick rotation.
Yeah, I was about to say, they got out of dodge real quick. There's nobody over on that side of the map, and I think that's smart, particularly when you pull a little bit more of the centralist zone, because the rotation from Steam, it's a real good looking rotation. Just kind of leave Steamy and kind of late rotate behind Craggy, because nobody ever expects them to come behind the Craggy team. So if you just dilly-dally for even a half second too, Craggy's in this kind of awkward spot, or even if you get over that first hill, there's still line of sights for you to be shot at from. So a really good job for them to get out, and they're heading all the way over. They're heading over towards the gorge and trying to get real central, knowing that the more this map pulls, the gorgeous gorge, the old Sentinel graveyard area, whatever you want to call it over here. It used to be the Triple House. It's one of my favorite spots on the map. Now there's no drop spots or anything over here. It's a little bit unfortunate, but it's okay. The one thing that makes it really difficult is these rapid changes of verticality that are so different. Like, yes, you have the valley in the middle, then you have the gorge towards the side, but those are like a launch pad and a half different. And then the hills on either side are both probably about a launch pad apart. And there's no natural rotation in the area with the exception of the zip line, which is a straight shot for everybody. And now we're going back over this fight, which hasn't completely resolved. The Shizo back up on his feet, but he's going to get taken down. Malabuka also burning. Got the fire there, and Savage and Co. just trying to pick up another bunch of elimination points. And Malabuka, hey, the ground is fire, literally. You cannot touch that right now. You can't step down. That's 12 damage if he does step on it. You can see just 60 damage, 1 HP in a dream trying to get anything, but unfortunately, I think the only thing he's going to get is a nice little reboot card dropped on top of his head here in a second.
This is tough. Fighting inside their POI, it kind of felt like they were on a skyscraper, just, you know, duking it out, fist fighting. They even leave it. They literally end up in a free fall. And in midair, as they're kind of leaving the top of the building, they're still punching each other as they're just plummeting towards the ground. Savage and Benji clean it up and finally end up landing down. And Dreda, he'll leave his reboot card down too, doing a nice cosplay of Malabuka's trio, but he'll be rebooted as well overall. So that'll be nice for these guys to kind of elevate their game. A good thing too is that they're kind of outside of Steamy overall. Their game is a little bit accelerated on position, but there are people shooting at them still. These fights though just keep happening game after game after game.
See, quick stat left-hand side as we hop in on his team. Andalex, aka Falcon and EU, has the most total elims all time in EU finals. And I think a large part of that has been the fact that not only has he been to nearly every single, he's been to every single EU FCS final, his team plays consistent as well. Like even his lowest placements are really up there. He's one of kind of the unsung consistent heroes where when you talk about kind of the best Fortnite players at all time, I don't think anybody's ever really brought up Andalex, but when you look at the EP and CS era, I think outside of the very obvious dynasty over in NA West, you kind of start looking at it and not mentioning Andalex feels really wrong.
I think it was around like season 5 and 6. People started to really give him that respect because that idea started getting brought up. Wait a minute, what about Andalex? And people on West started watching him a little bit more. Middle East was giving him his flowers as well. But obviously, the East rolled in too, and so many people were just like, yeah, started watching his highlight videos the way he, just attacks the game. It's actually insane. A lot of his biggest highlights are also towards the low ground in the end games. The way this man is just a brick wall you can't pass, even as a solo. It's just scary when you're putting him up against Titans as well. He just does not falter.
And I think one of the biggest things you just brought up is his success across all the different game modes, right? There's only so few players that you could say, oh, they're really good at solos, or oh, they're like, he's a fantastic duo partner, and then they really go on and thrive in trios. This man has done it all. He's had placements and performances, all the cash drops, all the FNCs. It doesn't matter which one you end up tossing him, and he's placed, if not won them. So, I mean, when you end up looking at that and then also traveled across and had really solid LAN and international placements when that was still going on, and I mean, you add that all up and you start looking at the resume and it's like, this is impressive. It's like this kid can really play the game, and I don't want to say you almost like forget about him, but I feel like just now you're really starting to appreciate the fact that you're watching one of the best to have done it in a very long time, at least the past year and a half.
A lot of the times people who do the best fundamentally never stand out, right? A lot of the flashy players get the attention. A lot of that flash also comes from moments where you don't do too well. Andalex, though, it's good all the time. The average is just really high. Pass that too for how far flow is Scram. I mean, new addition overall when it comes to, things going up as a team. Janet's actually going down in the feed, though. As you clip over to the wide, wondering what's happening in that fight, it's actually Nitro who's the one that's taking him out. We go right there, zoom in, and everyone's actually so far apart. Usually, by this point, people are boxed up on the same side. There's not too many splits, especially on the crash sites, to go for beams. But Mitro, Milan, and Ironly find a way to figure out how to split trios apart, go for isolated 1v1s. Mitro lands a pump shot and finds a way to get a beam responded with back-to-back. That's another elimination, and they're taking out the team who's landing right next to him. It might not be off spawn once again, but they're making sure to stick beside any team that's going to give them trouble and taking them out over and over.
It might as well be an off-spawn fight. The impact is the same as right around the outside of the zone. You're going to be getting your Storm Surge tags going through. You're still not near that first round of placements, and I'm just very curious how that fight ended up starting off. There's no real way you're going to be able to close the gap. This was a Harpoon being able to come out, but that is a huge pickup for them. And again, we kind of talk about it. Mitro and Co, they basically put on a little bit of a timer where every 1 in 3 games, every 1 in 4 games, they're just going to do something utterly ridiculous. I think it was during that qualifier when we watched where it's just like, that's weird. Mitro has 12 eliminations and there's still 50 players up, right? And so it's just waiting for kind of when that moment is going to happen. And right now, hey, they pick up another 6 points. They're going to be fine on the Storm Surge this time. They made sure they got the shakedowns. They were getting the max damage. So they're not going to run into kind of that initial problem they ran into in the first match. And now all of a sudden they're set up to potentially look for that bigger game. But somebody who's done great with what they've been given so far has been this Irish trio, Repix, Sean VP, and Xenolith, doing fantastic. But somebody who capitalized in the previous match is that Spanish trio right there on the other side. They've been quiet otherwise, but Deoxy, KPI, and Crow trying to push through here.
Ireland and Spain basically on the bridge, but they're not going to go to war just yet. Not sure exactly where Sean VP is, but judging by the way, the randomness of how Mitro's aggressing from Believer Beach, how crazy the game might have been on that left side of the map, I wouldn't put it past Sean VP from going down on that. Nice jump shot, Croc as well. The biggest issue too, once again, splash down. It's just a duo situation this early for this trio. They're so good at just surviving and staying alive when they're together as a team. As soon as it breaks apart into duos, they always end up just targeting one team, staying near them, looking to just keep pecking at them over and over again until they go for the all-in. Before, I think it was Reason's team that they did that too. This time it'll be another one all the way in the mid-game. They're going to stay here in these boxes, not going to move. It'll be Candy, Cryad, and Klimberly they're going to be looking forward to Just annoying for the next 5 minutes. Or not maybe that long at all.
I was just about to say, you're giving him 5 minutes on the clock right now. I was hoping by the time that pause was going to be over, the fight would be over. But Mwaka doing what he does best and just delaying the inevitable there. Yeah, he'll be able to trade one back on the other side to just kind of be a thorn in the side and do the damage. But I was just kind of like, man, child, 5 minutes is a long time. I'm looking, and I think Mr. Sandman said, bring me your dreams right there, because they got put to sleep. Naya and Axworth and Robin trying to finally get something started. I mean, they're true, we talked about with explosive capability, but they've just been on the wrong side of all of these trades so far today, despite being well above the Storm Surge special. But keep an eye on the top left corner. Cammy, our top team, picking up an Elam there. We do have Centric, Hottie, Ilocast, and Tripper in the top right. Naya and Axworth and Robin in the bottom right. And zone pulled away from everyone, Shio. There's what, 4 trios, 3.5 trios in zone, but otherwise everybody's got a bit of a hike.
Mitro has the hardest one. He's the last man standing in a squad. Is the green arrow all the way on the left side being held by Fnatic and Axforce and Roban. I honestly don't think Arnley, Mitro, and Milan have a plan today. I think they're just here to react to every situation and have fun. And that's why they're popping off so much. That's exactly, I feel like, what they were doing in quals. And I think Mitro was talking about it, or Milan was on Twitter. The fact that they were just rolling in, no expectations, just trying to play every game as their own. Right now, it's like, yeah, maybe push that team. Well, there's a second one, maybe go for that fight too. It didn't work out for them in this one. And was being lost inside the zone. Yellow Crowds, Hottie, and Tripper, though. This is a team that's really involved very well between last season and this one overall, right? Like, I would always say, I saw Yellow Crowds' name with Tripper's, I would think 3rd place. 2nd overall last season. And they don't have the hottest spot on the map entirely, but they really make it work and are alive together a lot of the times in these end games. Today, at least in the last 2 that we've saw, they've been pretty good at low ground, just chilling the entire time and kind of emulating what Seti, Kemi, and Teak do to a little bit of a smaller level. And once again, seem to be a threat because they're moving out. Everything's on top for them in terms of Surge. Hellfire, Flores, and Scram, though, I'm not sure exactly which trio gave them trouble here, but they will end up winning through either a fight or some big sustained pressure from across the map.
And I mean, it's something we talked about at the start of the show where it's a 12-game format, right? So yes, if you're able to get a bunch of eliminations, each elimination is worth 2 points. Those end up adding up, but right now they are below Storm Surge. They're the only trio is below, and it's one of the situations where it might be worth eating Funada just off the side, but instead of just going down to the Storm Surge, he's going to get down but not out. So the 5 damage is going to keep ticking over, and as I say that, he will end up getting confirmed over. So he turns off a good example of sacrificing one of the player there. But going back to the original point I was making, consistency is valued that much more. So if you're getting placement points every single game you go through, if you just make top 24 in every single one of your game, that's 60 points right there. And that's just making it off drop, making it through your rotation. And that stuff starts to add up. Now, all of a sudden, if you're getting those top 7, top 5 placements every single game, that's a lot of points shy of.
If you're on the opposite end of that too, you can still make things work. If you're just looking for good and bad games, and not trying to just ride through the middle of consistency. Your good games have to pop, though. You need double-digit elims. Once you're at that top 5, you really have to make a difference in those. And in the bad ones, I mean, you gave a good example of Mitro's first one, right? Having a lot of elims there and still having a bad game, it can still keep you inside that race completely. So both strats are viable. The consistency a little bit more so in the 12-game format. You can see the VRs also end up making a big difference as well. So at some point, that consistency has to pay off, at least for tiebreakers, that big swing in placement at the end. Robot's still active right now. Essetum going down. As I'm an Axe Force roll in, Heidi will end up getting a trade. Still, I mean, zone gets smaller, and the same 3 trios are the only ones inside. Everyone is still on the out and have to move in. When this happens, the base building is so random inside the zone. It's very last-minute launch paddy, and so you see things get very much more vertical. In a zone like this where trees are involved as well, it's kind of harder to build up. Might force people to get into positions they don't really want to be in, or just not be able to see anything inside all these leaves.
Yeah, that's part of the reason why you'll often see people opt into taking those Fireflies out and just doing a little bit of area denial, chucking them out there and going for the Scorched Earth policy thing. Hey, if you can't have it, I can't have it. Right now, Scram can't have fun either. You see Stormshow's running on the right-hand side, 253 below, 1 HP. And I'd say a dream, I'd say a nightmare, but right now, this is a sleep paralysis demon. He's just waiting for somebody to randomly, a straight gust of wind, a shotgun pellet towards the side, no shields, no HP. Walking on the backside of the tarp. He's just praying nobody looks at him. Well, at least he got 5 points. We're inside the top 24, but he wastes one of his 4 builds left to cover himself there.
He can basically be one of the Fireflies we would throw in these jars to deal some fire damage. Might be able to do a little bit more than 12 though. Here it goes. A breath, a birthday candle type of blow. No, not really. Okay, so be fine. Scram gets to live inside this box and gets a free base to kind of take over. C2S8 here distracted on the left side. How's this man alive? Nebs is popping out though. Sabu with a big Elam, a double actually not coming through, and Karma gets a few more as well. And Dredda, I think, is also active. So the first game we see from that semi-stack trio actually landing, hitting, and turning into a few more points inside the 4th, 5th zone. Oh my God, the Spaniards have a huge base in the center though. They've been the ones pulling the zone over and over again. You can see kind of the desperate bases built all the way towards the bottom right side. One team gets zone again. It keeps pulling over to the left. Every team that's been here for so long, I think those orange arrows that are in zone haven't moved at all. They've used nothing, and they're looking so good on screen right now too. This is going to be huge for Steady Cammy Teak. When it comes to max pulls, they get some crazy good low ground positioning. And we mentioned it before. You can see it in the quick stat again. Steady as a solo ends up getting really good clutches overall, 15th to 7th in game 2 by himself, and before as well in the quals he had a crazy 20-point pull. This time the launch pad to look towards the left side. As this zone moves, new ground is also going to be shown, and Steady Cammy Teak might take that too right in front of them. They have an entire hillside basically to themselves on the left side here. They're going to look back and pressure anyone else who doesn't have a launch pad. Look at these swimmers, basically not even able to keep their head above water. Every time they go for a breath, they get shot, they lose shields as a result. This is huge for the overall threshold Steady Cammy Teak need, and they keep their entire right side pressured. They have so much space to work with now.
You can see him trying to put that space to good use, but immediately great reset from Teak. Honestly, I dodged that bullet a little bit, saw the Tracer come through, jumped in my chair. I was like, oh, but looking up on the high ground, Aqua, Strokey, CRR, they're investing a ton. Child, this is one of the biggest high ground investments we've seen because they're able to look back to some of those old builds. They've been here forever. They haven't had to move from the burbs, so they're like, might as well put it all in. So they're playing for the high ground right now, and that's a good call because as we see Cammy picking up the knock onto Reason, we're into those cascading placement points. The longer they outlast, the more points. But don't forget, our first place trio, they're in. They're still chilling. They're still accumulating points. They have to fall off at some point here today. Somebody has to stumble them, or they're going to start playing tournament management mode here, maybe on day 1.
Right now, 2 of the most lethal forces in the game have the best case scenario for the way they play. Steady Cammy Teak, lots of space on low ground with a nice, very good left side slow pull. Aqua all the way on height. Not having zone completely, but they like it when it's a little bit challenging. They like to go for that early pad, rebuild it up again. Sometimes they stay up top too long and it's trouble. Look at this beautiful rotation of Steady Cammy Teak. Not a shot in sight, not a build place down. They just pepper up, walk across, pressure people again to make space, and they're gonna base build over again. That investment though from Aqua, CR, Fastroki, it's been huge. It's been like about 3 zones ago though, so they still have a lot of mass to use. Just keep this tight, to let the zone roll through, and there's a pad I was talking about. When it's far, it's fine. They just glide up top. The Spaniards want to take height. Aqua's not going to have to give him that for free. He really wants to just stay up there, especially in a zone where the low ground is kind of flat the whole time. They can do a lot with it. Stay on height and put the pressure down.
You see Wings also picking up an Elam there in a feed. So far, we've had players dropping, but no trios dropping yet. We still have 42 going on. Storm Surge will tick on here in 15 seconds. Rifle will end up getting Illutrax. Tripper also goes down. So finally, a little bit of a stumble going on. It's just Hottie who's up as the confirmation ends up coming through because he barracks the Kinzel and Jerky. But Teak, Steady, and Cammy still plenty of space. Pepper's running out. Hottie, Tripper are eliminated now with Illocrats finally getting confirmed over as well as Hottie. Nebs going down there to Deoxy. So Spanish trio still pushing through as Cammy ends up up getting another knock. Storm Surge is active, but only one more player will have to go down. And since we're pulling straight over towards the burbs, a little bit away from some of these builds, you can expect it to turn off here near instantaneously as they begin to keep moving through. But up on the high ground, hey, there they are, the Chapter 2 Season 7 champs. They've taken it away again. And Aquastroke and CRR, they might be looking for a take here. They just popped the Chili Chug Splash. Will they go, Shia?
This is exactly what they did to actually qualify for the finals. Staying on second height, baiting it up all the way to the top first, and then having an isolated fight. A 3v3 for the highest portion and point in the game. Zone is closing though, so their window of time has run out. We'll have one more chance in the 8th zone, but this is where it gets smaller. This is where surprises aren't as prevalent. It's where it gets tricky. Aware also getting an Elim in the feed low ground. Has their own fights to take, and it's kind of calm downstairs. There's not that much pressure happening from the top side, so you can really just have good fights head-to-head down below. Verox, Astro survived so far, but have been scratched up while moving in. Deoxy also taken out by Storm, right? So they had a chance to go for height and got denied. Karma going to take out Crow, and Jose falls towards the Storm. And Kiriashi's pressure as well. Verox has found a little bit of pocket to just breathe down there inside one of the bases. And Alex, though, and Excuse for ZR, they're all alive. CRR and Fast Roki found themselves on low ground next to Seti, next to Teak, next to Cammy. And at the same time, we have 4-0 on the other side of these builds. It's 3 trios. The tension's building. One edit, just a little bit more space, and they'll all see each other on the same layer for the first time.
Karmi, Wings, and Fullnet are still up as well. They were taking down X-Squeeze and Andalux on the other side. They're another trio who's been making the end games. But we talked about it, right? Cammy, Seti, Teak, they're still up. They're still hip to hip. They're still earning points. This is going to be another top 5 finish from them. 4-0 and Aqua are dropping down, trying to drop themselves into the fray. Aqua's been taken out. CRR finally goes down. It's just going to be on Fastroki. He's able to pick up another Elim that pushes them to 7 total. They're into the top 6, but that's where they fall. We have our top 5 now, and still at least 2 full trios. I see 3 full trios. We got Stormer and Co. up on the high ground with Cammy, Seti, Teak, as well as Wings, Fullnet, and Karmi on the low ground. Otherwise, we then have 2 duos sitting in between. So it's a battle trying to stick together. Can they find the room? They also have tons of cabbages and sushi right now, just chilling there. The flopper is going to be popped, but they don't get a chance to use it. Instead, they take a fight, and it's Wings and Fullnet who end up taking it down. Stompy and Pink also being one of the duos to ride through. Now it's a 3v2v1, and Kiriachi, Stormy right in 2s looking to ride this one out for their second victory royale. Shio, call it a back-to-back and bring them up the leaderboard. They say, Seti, Cammy, T, we know you're pretty good, but can you get the dubs? Because those victory royales will matter in the end. The 3v1, they'll convert, and that will be it for 2 in a row. Lupoy, Kiriachi, FS Stormy right, Gambit, Toos are defending champs. Say, don't forget about us. Ring the bell, send them back in, Shio. And honestly, our top 2, they look scary right now.
Definitely do. They kind of just woke up late to play these games, right? They might have just were on their keyboards a little bit and then took a little break. Those last 2 games, though, were insane. A back-to-back, what does that mean for the leaderboard? I mean, Zeke, Levin, Reese, they've got the answers for us here on the desk.
Thank you guys so much. Absolutely insane. The back-to-back. You're the trio coming out of last season. Trio we haven't seen all season long, Levin. Showing up and getting back-to-back dubs. That's gotta feel really good.
But Zeke's not even that. The last 2 teams there are 2 of the teams who auto-called, right? The 2 of the teams who were in the top 3 last season, right? It's almost like we've just jumped back to last season. It feels like it. Look, I didn't expect these guys to be this good. Like they've impressed me. I'm not gonna lie, back-to-back wins isn't something I would have predicted them to have done, but I think it just shows the character, right? Even, you know, when there were questions around whether the motivation was there, they're seeming to prove people wrong. Of course, it's just day 1. We're only a couple games in. There's still plenty more to play, but this so far is what they need to continue to do if they want to be back-to-back FNCS champs.
I am indeed muted. I am now unmuted. I hit the right button. Don't worry. We know their bread and butter is consistently getting top 5s repeatedly with about 5 eliminations at the same time. So, like, for them, it's really, really simple. They've got 2 victory rounds so far. Now it's time to play the same play style that we know them for.
That's right. Okay, before we take a look at the standings and see how this is all shaping out, let's talk about a few things like Alex's trio and what's going on, right? A trio that we expect to do super, super well, but we know them as a trio that doesn't necessarily do well on day 1 specifically.
Yeah, I mean, right now, what I want to point out is what can go wrong when your mid game isn't set up perfectly, right? Look at ForZR's elimination, or not elimination, sorry, his build so far, 50. So 50 builds to his name. Let's just clear this off and hit the play button and see exactly what happens. You're thinking this setup so far seems pretty good, right? But if you notice what they're currently in is full brick in the end game. He's sitting out, peeking. He's just doing his thing right now. And hold on, wait a minute. Just see what's just happened right here. You see the pre-edit play comes through on this wall side. Because their mid game wasn't set up so well, means they don't have that many materials still coming into this end game right at this moment, which means they're in brick, which means that they're susceptible to a pre-edit play, which unfortunately will knock them out, will pick them up in this game. And you can see ForZR just sad down below, and it's going to be Floki who ends up picking up the loot from that at the end of the game. So trying to set up your kind of early game position is so critical. And look, yet again, right, this is the next game later, 47 builds in the 5th zone, so much earlier. And yet again, this has situated them to be a little bit more careful with the materials that they have, right? They've not covered every single angle. Notice, look at this. Look at this gap up above here. This tiny gap is what Floki, Clement, and Deceptos have gone in because XSui's, ForZR, and Andlex haven't managed to use all the materials to cover every single angle because they were trying to save some of the end game. And look, eventually the team just gets clean wiped out because they end up just falling straight down into that little hole. So ensuring your early and mid game setup is absolutely critical.
Even after back-to-back wins, they can't get first place because Zeti, Cammy, and Teak have just been in scintillating form. 5th place in that game we just watched, 1st place in the standings. Yeah, this is just a typical Zeti, Cammy, Teak day one. Like, what can I say? They're really starting to build up a bit of a decently, you know, I don't want to talk about leads when we're only a couple games in, but it's a decent lead right now at least. And so we'll see if they can hold this on for the end of the day and even till the end of tomorrow as well. But all in all, Reese, is there anything that really surprises you?
I mean, for me here, no. Let's be real. Like, Cammy Teak up top. Honestly, after talking about the setup, right, for Andlex's team, and they had a massive game in that previous game, pushed them up so far onto the leaderboards after the first 3 not going so well. So they did manage to pop and tick a bunch of the boxes in that previous game. Have they flown up? I'm surprised they're this high. It's day one. This isn't the exact playstyle that they're used to. Same with the Spanish team in 6th. They're doing super well too. If we move over to that next page, we'll see Floki, Commit, and Deceptos. This is actually probably what I would say was surprising me. Alongside Pink's team and Tayson's team, now kind of not even being in the top 10, when you could really say that any of these trios could win the entire region.
Yeah, that like 11th to 15th could be the top 5, and I would believe it.
Yeah.
like, it really could be. So hopefully we start to see these guys sort of pick up the pace here. In terms of actual pacing, some of those teams have done, like Pink's team, for example, had a really good last game, right? They came second, they got a couple of eliminations. That's not too bad. So at least we're starting to see a level of improvement from them. You got to continue that now over next 8 games. So long way to go still.
Yeah, you just got to build up that a little bit of that cushion, right? As long as you can get some amount of points, put those under the belt, and then just kind of carry that into day number 2 and look to really pick up the pace. I mean, yeah, there's still a lot that can happen. I feel like for Steady, Cammy, and Teak, they want this win, right? Like, this is such a strong start, but it's about continuing, right? Holding on to this. Because for all we know right now, they're gassing out. For all we know, they're just emptying the tank and just saying, look, we're going to go hard, and then day number 2, they don't perform. I'm hoping that's not what happens, Levin and Reese, but you never know. Fortnite is a game of absolute chaos, of absolute craziness, but we'll have to see. Right now, we heard the bus, which means we're going to jump back into all the action. So take it away, Shy Wager and Sundown.
Thank you so much, Zeke. I mean, when it comes to Steady, Cammy, Teak right now, they have literally lapped half the qualifiers they're playing here today inside the finals. They have 141 points. You go down towards 20th place, they're at about 50, all the way down to 0 at 33 or 13 at 33. My apologies, but I was talking about, you know, teams doing some improvement here and there. These guys have evolved to be a different animal altogether in every end game. Might not even be winning, but it doesn't matter for them overall. They're just playing more than even consistently. They're playing on a better average over and over and over again compared to everyone else.
And I mean, it's just, we talked about it a little bit yesterday, or a little bit early in the cast, but tournament management mode, when you get into kind of 12 games, the first day, we look at it, we go back to the book analogy where we're now into game number 5. We're kind of getting towards that middle part. We know where everyone is saying, we know what everybody's motives are. We know what they have to do if they want to be the ones who hoist that axe at the end, who get all of the glory, all of the prize money. And for Cammy, Steady, and Teak, they've done enough where if they they just continue rolling with their game plan, they don't have to do anything spectacular. You know how everyone talks about those qualifying thresholds? Oh, well, you know, if I just win with a 38 elimination game, I would have qualified. They don't have to do that. Theirs is, hey, if we just keep getting top 10s for the rest of tomorrow, we're good. And they've shown they can do that.
Yeah, and the meta for this finals, the way these endgames are playing out, are so much better for them too. A lot of these height teams are not getting that much access whatsoever to the eliminations in the endgame. Yeah, they're getting a little bit more favored for the victory royales overall, but even the team that has a 2 back-to-back is even in the conversation inside the top 2 teams who are in the lead right now. So what I'm trying to say is all the elims, all the juicy points at the end game, the placement defying eliminations that are happening happen in the low ground, happen in Steady, Cammy, and Teek's box, and they're picking up almost double digits 3 times so far. It's huge for them overall.
And as much as I love watching the farming right off of the start, I would love to see what's going down at the beach. They're still going at it. We saw a trade going on from Noah Riley there. You can see that Queasy and co are going to be able to utilize just the method to pick up Dr. Sloan to end up getting about. We see Noah Riley getting a confirmation over there. And yeah, I was about to say, give me the beach fight. Thank you. If they're still going head to head, man, I will watch these 2 Rams butt heads all day. I am a simple man. Mitro is fighting. Put him on the screen. I'm happy.
Looking good now too. Woodbills down below combined with a Firefly, but did you see that in the background?
Yeah!
Did you see the foreshadowing? There's a trio diving in. Mitro, turn around, please. No! Oh no! From all sides, he gets clamped down. Sean VP is here, and they make a loud bang, a big announcement to drop down with, taking out Mitro, dropping down on Noah Riley. They don't care who they're fighting. Bring any team. They own Believer Beach right now.
Oh my God, that timing was fantastic. You see Mitro posted up looking. It's just like he's the man on the hill getting ready to try and raid down the shots. And then in the background, just like avenging angels coming out of the sky. The Irish trio drops on top of him. You can see Aaron Lee trying to get the reboot to get Milan back up on his feet. Hopefully should be able to cycle back around. But this is a fantastic push from Remix Xenolith and Sean VP. And the game plan is great. Hey, 2 of the best fighting trios in the world are going against each other. Let's not fight either of them. We'll just wait until they're both bloodied up a little bit and we'll come in. And, you know, leftovers are great, man. I don't mind. Toss them in the microwave. They taste just as good.
It's a good strat. Get them tired out. And if the food is hot, I mean, it's going to taste good regardless, right? So
that's what I'm saying. It doesn't matter if it's fresh off the bat. Just micro zap that stuff real quick, as long as, you know, it wasn't like sitting out overnight. And again, this isn't any kind of food approval. Make sure you are actually eating appropriately and healthy, all that. But right now, like, if you're able to clean up the elips, man, the points are points. You don't have to be the one kind of scrapping it out at the start.
By the way, every team's kind of cleaning up their off spawn too. I think Snazy and Thomas finally stopped fighting all the way down below, which is looking really good. Thomas, I'm always going to get everything confused as to who's with where. Unless is there. It's just these teammates' names have been engraved in my mind with certain people over and over again. So they have a pattern when you say it, but then they might be or might not be a part of the squad, and then you get confused. But either way, people are fighting still a little bit more organized all across the map. Even the Caddy standoff is still happening. There's a team at Camp Cod all the way down at the south. You can see it at the bottom right of the left side of your screen. Lazy Lake team is taking a little bit of time of moving out. Baggy's team of Chapix has already gone through. I think they're all the way over at Zay Hill over there. Version's getting a little bit of leave as well. Aqua moving over towards the bridge to get his metal farm too. That'll be the biggest time sink too in that area of the map. Deoxy, Crow, and Jose get to move through a little bit unexpectedly in Believer Beach. Wait, there's not a fight going on over here? It's not going to be a 7-year war? Okay, cool. We'll take a little bit of loot off the beach.
Now, what do you know about the 7-year war? Throwing that reference out there. All right, if we want to start the history lesson, we can start it. However, over in Europe, I don't think we necessarily got time for that, as nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition coming through, and in fact, nobody did expect it. Everyone left town. They were good. They were like, nope. Like I said, Believer Beach, we're on vacation. But Milan actually now looping back there. Looks like he's going to. Yep, he picked up Mitro's card while Arian Lee went and hung out over by the reboot band. He'll get Mitro back up on his feet, and instead, it looks like we're going to get another another round of this fight where Deoxy is going to literally stumble directly on Pop. Oh God, this is gonna be awful for him. So he's gonna box up, assuming Milan is there. He's gonna walk. Oh no, he's pinging it out. It seems like he knows there's a player on this side, and unfortunately, though, still walks directly into the shot. A rocket comes through. That's from the boat, so a little bit of assistance being fired away, and Micho's just gonna throw himself in. That's KPI coming crashing the party. He says, "What's up, y'all?" Doing his best Hydro Thunder impression there. He gets in on it, but unfortunately, Deoxy being taken down. This Micho with the confirmation, and they find some more points early on.
Look, I'm watching a 70s sitcom right now. It's just twist after twist after twist with a laugh track. One little trap of the reboot advertisement kind of set up. Crow actually with a big shot on Arian Lee. Talk about the final twist. They wrap it all up, but it basically started with Deoxy seeing that reboot battery just filling up. Okay, we need to chase it down, wrap it up. But then there was a boat rocket coming in, equalizing the fight. But then Crow comes in on his own boat. But then there's a big edit play that happens, and it's not stopping across the map. Remix is still chasing people down. If it's not Micho, it's fine. If it's the deal, I mean, they've already done it, and now they're going on to another team. Queasy picks up a big Elam 2 inside the fight we're watching here at the south. And yeah, no matter what would happen in this fight, team will be back on their feet. There's a reboot right beside him. If not, they can even go back all the way to Believer Beach to get some extra loot. But we know that Remix is still a little bit active on that side too. So the middle of the map right now is just a Royal Rumble. And I'm not sure what's going to happen each time we switch POVs and go to a new team.
Royal Rumble, a little bit of a clown fiesta, everyone putting on their party shoes and going dancing as we get here into game 5 and game 6, because this is kind of one of those opportunities where if you're going to press for points, if you're going to have one of those big games, it feels really good to do it right now, right? This one, like, yeah, of course, it feels good to do it at any point in time, but doing it when there's one more game to play, you get momentum going in that last game where all of a sudden you feel like, yeah, we can really rescue this performance with like a 25, kind of 30-point game. If we're looking at the top 5 as a whole, and I almost kind of want to just toss Steady, Cammy, and Teak out there so far because their averages have been so ridiculous. So just looking at 5th place, averaging a little over 25 points per game right now. So that's kind of the line where you're looking at if you really want to be in that top part of the conversation. However, as we're kind of, again, shaping up the story and we're looking at the course of it, Steady, Cammy, and Teak, if somebody doesn't do something to mess with their game plan, they're going to keep racking up points. They face no adversity through the first 5 zones because of how they put their play style, and until something changes, that's going to keep being the case. And then the fact that they're able to get through those first 5 zones, they're good enough players to then just play out the rest of the game and eventually make something happen.
I mean, they're playing with different rules though. They're kind of in a different dimension. Untouchable. Off spawn, one of the first to land on, you know, cranes and spots that you can't really contest. It's a really big split. You have to give up your own tournament if you want to interrupt them in the early game, so that's not happening. In endgame, they're always using all their resources as fast as possible to get ahead first of everyone else, right? They use an instant launch pad or peppers to get ahead of the zone. No one else is really doing that, and to do that, you have to kind of structure your whole game around it. Some POIs, where you land, you don't have access to that strategy. You don't have, you know, fruits or vegetables around you. You might not have pad spawns that come in either. They're an all-in team for that position, and it looks good overall. They just don't know O'Reilly. They're trying to get their way back in the games right now and maybe do what Steady, Cammy, and Teak are doing inside the end games. The thing is, though, you get people rebooted up. Yeah, they might look good with the shields they have overall. The firepower won't be as hard as a result. The deal goes down. Doesn't probably have the best loot in the game. Janus doesn't either, but he makes the SMG work so well. Rat-a-tat-tat, straight up in the back of multiple players. He's rocking off a little bit of shield, but doesn't have enough to finish the job. Even on the knocked player, he has to swap over to the pickaxe to get a few more lootage inside the business. But the issue is not even that player had a shotgun for Janus to pick up. He has to still stick with this SMG pistol combination. It's not 300 bullets, but how far can he really make it go?
I mean, 300 in the rare SMG, that thing sings, man. The SMG, if you're able to actually get box to box, I mean, everybody knows how much the epic and legendary variants hurt, but at the same time, like, in a 1v2 situation, you don't want a weapon that is literally designed around just effectively trading HP, right? The SMG is, I have more bullets, I have a higher rate of fire, I'm going to finish you out before you get 2 shotgun shots off. That's fine in a situation where you're in a one-on-one and you can dive into a box. In a 2v1, you're not going to finish 2 people before they both have the time to shoot you at least once. Period. These players are too good. And as we say that, beep, beep, here you go. It's not just 2 players anymore. It's going to be 3. And Janus says, well, I guess I take this 1v1.
He has to. He has to. Still a little bit towards the side of being low on Surge. 140 above is good, but it's not going to be the best. Moving on to the rest of the game, there's a reboot he needs to get activated as well. But he has to take out a trio actually in front of him first. This is yeah, this is the bad, not even a bad call to make. It's just impossible for him to really win. Has a shotgun too to be able to push forward. Axe Force is going to be up again. Robon and Fyayan going to be beside him towards the right side. They get in a vehicle, they get out. Maybe Genesis is just waiting to hit that reboot as well. I wouldn't doubt it, but how far can you really take this game off a second reboot? He gets a little bit annoying. Cheeky shots there from the zone. It's going to interrupt their drive just a little bit, but it'll be fine. On the other side of things, Hottie, Illocrats, Tripper, another high point base. It's very nice. Next to Verox, Michael, I mean, both these trios seem like a little bit of a driving force in these end games for who gets eliminated and how these layers, at least in the mid-ground, look. And it's cool that we kind of see where their game starts. It's kind of man-made high points overall. A lot of the times people take over spires or mountains, but they just build up so high. And it's looking like they're trying to fight as well. 100 below for Michael. They have to go for this fight. It's going to be tough to actually reach it. They use a lot of their builds to get into the conversation, and now they really have to take over these walls.
Yeah, and Tripper and Hottie and Illocrats are not the team you want to be pushing for Storm Surge. They're fantastic when it comes to disengaging, being able to play together. It's one of the things that I think they do better than a lot of other teams, but just being aware, this is two teams who are very much so in the conversation to be pushing towards that top. If there is ever a split up, like they're right on top of each other in terms of the standings, so they need to be careful in this fight, as again, Michael Verox and Astro SMG, no one else is near. If they're getting Storm Surge tags, they're getting them onto these guys, and effectively it means they're downing a player because they need 150 plus right now. We're going to swing on over to another fight, as we see Tayson, Reason, and Chap, because they're both back up on their feet. You can see Queasy Thomas trying to go to work, but Queasy ends up getting down a Nos, trying to find a little bit of room, but potentially the benefactors of all of this, our first place trio, they're just chilling over on the side. They're just literally pouring bullets in here. They're not getting shot at once. I mean, this is the situation. It feels like they've been in all game. Verox does get the knock into Tripper, and in the feed, Janus ends up getting confirmed by Rifle on this side, and you also get Deceptos. First time we've called his name in a while. He'll pick up an Elam. Noah Riley ends up going down. Verox confirms Tripper as well as Candy going down to KPI. So the Spanish trio finding a little bit of success right before the Storm Surge fight as well. We're going to potentially, no, we're going to hop back on board with our winners here.
And even in a really scuffed spot of the map, like this random cluster fight going on at Corny Crops, they look better than everyone else. All the way in front, shooting backwards, looking like officers dictating who gets to do what inside this fight. The referees, basically, who are also playing the game. It's crazy. Kind of feels like they even know where all these zones are going with the way they end up rotating and just adapting to every situation. It's beautiful from start to finish so far for Seti, Cami, and Teak. Michael Verox Astro still desperate. Surge didn't just, completely go in and affect their game. But the thing is, they understand they're still below, and they probably haven't even got any shots down. You're talking about Kings of Disengage. Busy little crash on the other side of this wall. It's going to be very tough, especially with these hard mats, to even get a little bit of damage done. Their shields have not been affected at all. Not sure if Elocrass always had that 10 HP kind of gone on his shield pool overall, but yeah, Michael, Astro, Verox end up just rotating. They'll try to go for a few cheesy bush strats, but there should be an easy angle towards the left to escape from. It should be fine.
Should be fine, but also anytime you do end up dropping down into one of those canyons, you need a little bit more difficult, as Verox did end up have a line on him, took 233 tags, so could be forced to dip into the utility a little bit here, but keeping an eye on the top left, 68 players. Storm Surge is off, 25 trios remain, so one more needing to fall before those +5 points come through. We're in game number 5 here of the day. That means we got this one, and then we have one more. Then we'll go to a little break. NA East will be on, NA West actually be through, and then we'll be back tomorrow with all of the day 2 action. We will see all of the Acts of Champions being granted out, and I mean, honestly, it's just going to end up being so exciting. But so far, we've talked about the story that's been building in EU, and right now, Cami, Seti, and Teak have just been building a solid foundation. They got a castle up on top of the high ground. They're starting to dig the moat, and I think eventually, once they fill that moat with alligators, get a couple of emplacements up on the side, it's going to be real difficult to close in on them. And as I say that, they start swatting down the competition already. Archers up on the balcony, and they're picking up 2 eliminations directly onto their competition. As Hottie and Illocrats cleaned up right away. They're just playing disgustingly.
Found a way to crack the uncrackable trio. I mean, that's just insane. And to get all the loot available too, it's not just the elims, it's the refreshes. So that's going to be huge. You say they're kind of like, building castles and moats. When I look at CR, Fastroki, and Aqua's base, that's what it kind of reminds me of. It literally looks like a castle the way they've kind of put it up. Porta Fort. I would call Seti, Cami, and Teak more so the private sector side of this entire game. They're kind of, you know, built up total profits, looking even richer than the government overall. And when that comes to, you know, the governing force inside these end games, the high ground looking down upon everyone else, that's Fast Roki, CR, Aqua. They're trying to catch up, but they can't even touch Steady Cammy and Teak. They play in different worlds. Aqua's always on height. Steady Cammy, Teak sticking close to the dirt, just playing their own game, invisible. You don't even end up seeing how this trio gets their Elim sundown. I mean, they have 2 right now. We saw it so far. We end up swapping off the screen for a second. They come back with double digits.
You can see Steady and Cammy are the only teammates with double-digit elim, so I know we've harped on a ton about the consistency that ends up coming with the way they play and the placement points they've got. But on top of that, if you're just in the game longer, you get more opportunities to shoot your guns. You get more opportunities to look at opponents. There's more chances for when you just throw out a couple rifle bullets. Maybe that person happens to be 50 or 25 HP. And on top of that, they're also very good at manufacturing these box-to-box fights like we've seen. However, going along with kind of a little bit of your analogy there with the private sector, despite how well they've played, despite the min-max and the profits, all that, can they actually get the job done at the end? When the final line ends up coming through, are you going to be happy with the delivery? Because you start looking at the other teams who are very close to them. Aqua and CRR are only 20 points behind. That's one game slip up. We've talked about 25 points being the average gain of the top 5 into each one of these, and that's not anything. Like, while Steady, Cammy, and Teak are good, they're not amazing in terms of being able to put up that 45, 50-point game consistently. They're just good for the solid, like, 30-point game every single time, which is impressive.
Okay, and you talk about, you know, slipping up. I think Aqua just did a little bit of a pattern of how things are going in semifinals. Knocked by Nikov inside the Fiend. Not fully confirmed, so it might have been a long-range type elimination. Reminder, though, a lot of teams are moving into the zone, so it could have been an error on rotation. It's always tricky. Even the best teams sometimes slip up, especially if they have to move late. SD also down in the feed. It's good to tune in with Deceptos, Clement, and Floki as well. I mean, when these guys move, usually, if it's not early game, it's unscathed. They have some crazy nice rotations. I don't see Aqua fully confirmed in the feed just yet, so I'd have to assume he did get picked back up. How will they stop Steady, Cammy, Teak? It's not just a question for that trio, it's a question for everyone. There they are on your feed, and look at the imagery too, separated from the rest of the trios who are side by side. They're on a level of their own right now. Absolutely untouchable.
Yeah, and you can see Pink and Zombie trying to find a little bit of room here. We do have Wings, Fullnet, and Karmi underneath the pressure of Storm Surge, and they have Xenolith and Sean right on the other side. They're 94 damage below. Only 2 of them will need to go down, but they also have a decent amount of shields. And with only 94 damage being there, Pink getting confirmed over by Thomas HD, they feel like they should be able to hold on to all 3 members, but it's going to end up being close. Zone does pull completely away from everyone, so you can expect some eliminations to come through, but man, time is ticking and it's ticking away, and there it goes. Everyone takes the sky. And this is a question. This is the pressure you have to get above right now with this threshold. If all of these players take the sky and you can't find 100 rifle damage across the 3 of you, that is you're going to be so upset with yourselves in that regard. They're looking for the opportunity, but they're just going to fall.
That was the perfect opportunity. 30 players in the sky. Just hold down the left click. Hold down the trigger on the controller. Just make sure you get a little bit of a chance of doing damage, but scared, trying to shield up, keep the health alive now. They've got nothing left in the tank at all. Lots of builds, but the attitude, the morale might just be down because the Surge, look who's there to take that launch pad away, to take away all the builds, to take away the high rarity weapons. It's Aqua, Fast Roki, CRR, and look at the way they're actually built up on natural low ground. It's the highest point in the lobby. Who's at the lowest? Steady, Cammy, Teak. It's already starting before the zone pulls away, and it's a mimic of what happened last game. Steady, Cammy, Teak pull the zone. Aqua has a max pull on one of the highest points. They'll control the pace of the lobby overall, all the way at the front in terms of low ground. Aqua will control who gets to stay up in the skies, who gets to go in and out, and has control of everything else.
Now we're into that top 17, so each trio that goes down, that's +1 point. And also on that pull, it's not necessarily max range in terms of the actual zone length, but Aqua being on the far side of it, and the fact that it goes up to another about midway up that natural high ground, it's going to make trying to take it very awkward. So Steady, Cammy, and Tico have a great angle on the rest of the lobby, and they're just lighting up the shots. This is something they do fantastically. You see white tags from Cammy trying to track that target, trying to see if he can't turn it into more, and it looks like Remix is going to end up getting knocked there. A late pad coming out from Aqua and CRR. Where did they end up landing? We're going to swing back on over to our current leaders. Yet again, they made it into the cascading placement points, and all 3 of them are up with tons of heals.
Look at this beautiful Tarp 2 going up 7 different layers. I'm not sure who's winning. I think it's Steady. Yeah, he's doing such a wonderful job. All in metal too, so Kami can just surprise people as these builds fully close in. It takes 25 seconds. He has a lot to operate with. 15 still until this zone closes. No one going down. All 17 teams still staying alive, so everyone should be, yes, widely spread apart in their own layers. It's Voxy who keeps the height. Aqua doesn't have it yet, but that's good. That means that this team can just keep their egos in check, stay alive all the way towards the end. Varrock, still one of the teams that likes to contest up top, gets taken down by Dids, not before actually doing some damage and taking down Jox. Tabu also going down to Crow, so the Spaniards are still here to be the X factor towards the end of this game. Aqua, CR, Fastroki in trouble though, 121 below. Haven't really seen them in this situation before. Gotta get something activated. Rifle, the third dealer I'm seeing in the feed, and Queasy Thomas also getting picked up. They're finally alive awake as Fastroki goes down, so their wild card is not available either. We just have one IGL, one crazy fragger ready to take out the entire trios in the lobby as a duo themselves.
You can see Aqua trying to find a line, trying to find a way to go forward, with 3 players needing to go down, but only 54 damage, and now 50 damage above. Looks like CRR was able to find some shots. We do have Edison, Avise, and Homino Voxy up on the high ground. Just Citos are sitting just below him, but the Spanish trio, again, racking off the eliminations. They're up to 10 and 125 points from the left-hand side. Malabuco and Chizo also picking up some elims. CRR ends up getting confirmed. That means Aqua all by his lonesome rifle, picking up his 2nd and 3rd knocks as well. We're going to have to keep an eye on that one as Sean ends up going down, and we're into our top 10. So low ground control coming through right now from KPI, Crow, and Deoxy, trying to find a little bit of room as they get Shizo again. Michael going down to the Siptos, and some room being created here as the zone does end up pulling back. Just an ever so slight change in the high ground. So a short pull, but enough to end up being annoying. It's a great angle coming out from KPI, but misses the shot. Floki and Nikov end up trading out Elips there as Murstache ends up going down. And on the high ground the whole time, they're just chilling. And this little change in elevation could end up proving disastrous, but not for Steady, Kami, and Teak. They got it all figured out.
They stay on top of it, actually put the boot into Aqua's face and take him out all the way on the same layers. So first taken out, 2nd overall, keeping that lead, 171 points. The Spaniards looking really good though. They're playing this game like a side scroller, keeping all the pressure on one side. So all 3 of them can stare at things as they chop down, but it's a surprise from Kami all the way to low ground. He takes out Crow. The lethality's broken in half, split down the middle. It's gonna be tough for the Spaniards, but so good for Steady, Teak, and Kami overall. They push forward, have control of that low ground. High ground is still spraying though, really putting down some pressure onto the bats. The overall build that Kami has down to just 8. 3v3 final situation. We'll see exactly what these guys can do. They can really even look up top to see where the shots are coming from. Voxy still has control with Advise, and Edison all the way up there, but are the light switches on? Are they ready to actually go and drop down for this? There's so much space to work with. Which angle will come through first? Kami looking over for the right side. They're still not going down for the all-in. Really utilizing this bridge, making sure they don't fall down and have to play their game. Look at the instant 2 Elam. Kami's just too good, and Steady's there for the 3rd. Oh my goodness. In 2 seconds, everyone is activated, magnetic with the aim, and Steady, Kami, Teak not only are consistent, they're here to win games too.
I was just about to say, well, I guess I should open my mouth and insert my foot, because I was talking about, yeah, these guys are really consistent, but we haven't seen those big moments. I don't know if they're capable of winning a game. I think that was clinical. Low ground, hip to hip the entire time. I mean, might as well have been watching Scented operate in that regard, but they made it look easy. 8 eliminations and the victory royale. They were already in first. Might as well put them in tournament management mode with 1 game left in day number 1. Zeke, Reese, Levin, break it down, because that's a lot.
I cannot believe what I'm seeing out of Kami, Steady, and Teak right now. This is ridiculous. Game 1, 2nd place. Game 2 and 3, 2 7th places back to back. Game number 4, a 5th place. And now a victory royale. I mean, these guys have not placed outside of top 7 yet. And we are just finishing game number 5. Boys, we're rapidly approaching the end of day number 1 here. And Kami and Steady and Teak are already poised going into day number 2 to be one of the strongest competition EU has ever seen.
It's mad. It's absolute madness. And it's one of these things where you sort of go to yourself, wow, we spend the whole season talking about height and who's battling for height, only for one of the best low ground teams in the region, one of the few ones that we can identify to just roll over everybody, right? Just absolutely dominate everything. And I want to give a shout out to Diox's team, because they literally just got a 16 elimination game, which again is ridiculous. Another high elimination game for them. but Cammy, Say, and Teak, they are untenable right now.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, what's so interesting is that I feel like they've been out of the discussion this entire season so far, right? We haven't hyped them up once, and obviously we should know when it gets to final situation they're going to absolutely pop off, do their thing, and I am so happy to see them in their best form because look, they've been one of my favorite teams for so long, and I didn't even put them in a top 10 prediction because I saw them contested off spawn by the Spanish trio, who are also now popping off, now decided to switch ways. So it's like it's worked very well for both teams.
So much of it, I think, is attributed just like the great switch up of Chapter 2 Season 8, right? All these trios changing trios left and right, and these guys are just, they stuck together, right? They're coming in, they're swinging. Guys, how are they doing this, Reese? I just don't understand, man.
Look, I want to show you exactly how they're managing to do this. The spacing is the first and most important part. Look at this elimination straight away, right? Look, Teak's right here. You got Stay right here. Look how close they are together onto each other. And you'll see when he turns around, once Cammy's just to that right-hand side of them too, this allows anyone who drops in their box instantly out. Sabahu, you know, you're gone. Cammy, Say, Teak here. We've got, yet again, look at this. All three players just standing right next to each other. Easy eliminations down below because their spacing is so close.
Yeah, and this is what we talk about, right? Being compact is so important, right? And that's what allows them to get a lot of the eliminations. Of course, on low ground as well, you have to have awareness. They don't allow anybody to exist on low ground while they're there. Say will spot out this player at the front side, just rolls them. Two, bye-bye, stay out. And you saw both of his teammates are right behind him as well. They were ready as well. Even when there isn't actual ground to stand on, right? Even when there's no actual ground, Teak will drop down below and he will just roll through, takes Chapix out. Like, these guys are excellent. Like, this is an absolute masterclass on how to dominate low ground. By the way, they seem to just get 8 eliminations in like every game. It seems like that was another game where they got 8 eliminations. You know, the first game, they would have had 8 eliminations, but they had the 3 off-spawn eliminations, right, from the Spanish trio. Like, I don't know what it is. There's something about the number 8. There's something with these guys on low ground. They are unreal.
I mean, at the end of day one, a 40-point gap between first and second. Obviously, I say end of day one. We still got another game left. At the end of game 5 of day one. I'm getting ahead of myself here, of course. 40-point distance already. They can strengthen that gap between now and the last game as well if they continue to do the same thing. And I just find it so funny that it's the two teams who are going to be contesting each other now at the top of the leaderboards.
Yeah, and I'm sure we will talk about this more tomorrow in terms of just the impact and the potential for, you know, maybe things to go wrong if they end up being contested or something. I don't want to speak it into existence, but can't wait to see how this last game plays out. If it's been anything like the previous ones, it will be dominance. Let's take a look at that next page, though, because we have the teams from 11th to 20th who will be looking to push their way into the top 10, sorry, I should say. A lot of these teams would have expected a lot better from themselves, right? The likes of Pinks, Nebs, and Stompy, we talked about how are they starting to pick up the pace? It felt like that at the time of speaking about it. Hasn't worked out that way. Tayson, Chapix, and Reason, you've got to be doing better, right? You've got to be doing better. And so, you know, you got to get back to the drawing board, not the one we're using, right? You know, the figure of speech drawing board, and, you know, figure out what's going wrong, right? Where you can improve, because, you know, these teams should be competing for the Axe of Champions. And right now, Cammy, Say, and Teak are going to run away with it.
And you can't realistically have every single team winning the Axe of Champions at the point. So some teams right now, like Cammy, Say, Teak, they're just bare. They're just playing bare.
Tomorrow is another day, and that's okay, right? Sundown kind of touched on it in that last game. The lobby needs to do something, right? They're letting these guys run away with it. It's going to be difficult because someone is going to have to suffer. Someone's going to have to say, we're changing our game plan so that they can't get that far ahead. But we'll have to see. We got one game left. Can they continue that reign of dominance and use that to momentum to just propel them into day number 2? We'll find out right here, right now. Sundown Shy Wager one last time here in EU.
Thank you so much, Zeke. 11 and Reese, 5 matches down, and so far it's been all about the Cammy split, the game plan, the execution, their ability to make it into the top 7 every single time, whether the individual effort we saw in game number 2 or every other time where they've been a full trio, and then finally get the dub. We saw the Russians defending their title, picking up back-to-back wins in 3 and 4, and then the Spanish trio having a incredible day in 2 of their games with a 15-point victory royale and a 15 elim victory royale and a 16 elim third place. And that's largely been the tail of the tape so far, Shio. So what are you keeping an eye on here in match number 6?
I'm just looking for more steady Cammy Teak. I'm also looking to see how this fight goes because it will dictate maybe who switches up tomorrow completely. It's 50-50 so far the entire time, and this is actually the longest until we've seen an elimination. They all come through at the same time, and it's an Osweezy Thomas HG that make it super clean, so not sure if there will be a big dive in. Another point too to make is, you know, when we were kids, maybe if you're playing tag, there was that one kid who was like, nah, I have a shield every time you tried to touch him. Or if you scored a goal in soccer, people are like, nah, I called a timeout. There's no way that counts. That's kind of exactly what Steady, Kemi, and Teak are like. Annoying, untouchable for every other team. They're making up their own rules and just playing these games. They should be consistent, not even winning, but they are. Even over here at Believer Beach, no one's really following the rules and crazy things are going on. Noah Riley almost just costing his entire team a little bit of worrisome vibes, but has an umbrella to jump on, so it's all good.
Well, it's just Cammy, Steady, and Teak. They're the kings of Calvin Ball, and right now just running away with it. But you can see over on the other side, someone who's trying to play a little bit of game on their own. Crow, KPI, and Deoxy, they've done a very good job of creating room for themselves, and largely it's been on capitalizing. Yes, they've had a couple games where they just got absolutely wiped off spawns, but the ones where they've gotten into the end game, they've been able to go through. And like I said, quick stat left-hand side, Crowstream set them, broke Elam record for first-time finalists with a 15 victory royale there in their win, and then they followed it up with a third place 16 elimination performance. Also not too bad with a 10th and a 5 Elam performance in there as well. So largely doing it on the back of those overvalued Elams here when you get into those final stages, again, worth 2 points rather than the 1 for the early stage.
Yeah, they're that team. We were talking about the two differences in game styles, right? Having these super consistent games, multiple top 10s, top 5s. That's what first place is with Steady, Kemi, and Teak. Then you have Crow, Jose, and Deoxy who are coming in with, you know, a game that's good, a game that's just terrible rolling through. So it's looking really good when they're in these good games to keep them on that track over 12, keep popping off when it matters the most, when they actually do end up making it towards the end. Crazy thing though for them, it's such a genius. When you're a new finalist, sometimes you have to find ways to attack the game in certain ways that haven't been done before. They recognize at Believer Beach, there's a fight going on. This entire left side split that they have as well, it's usually untouchable, the castle drop, because Believer Beach will always push you as a free third party. They usually end up winning the fights with better loadouts. They know that there's so many teams fighting there. This left side, the middle of Believer Beach, should also kind of be free afterwards, after the fact. It's such a genius last minute switch from the POI that they wanted to land at, obviously being taken over by Steady, Kemi, and Teak.
And taken over in just such a dominating fashion. Again, if you're wondering how they're doing it, I highly recommend go and check out the replays, see what they're doing, because some of their early game in the rotation, it's very akin to watching Epic Whale, Rex, and Arkham over on NA West, where you can tell they have such a complete game plan. They've executed so many times. They've worked together. There's one of the few teams who has genuinely stuck together and been executing on this game plan, and it's been super impressive.
Well, that last game, the Teak highlights and dropping down and just popping up Chapix, it's like they know that, they just know where everyone is. Even the way that Cammy was like just solo as one player dictating how people can fly in and doing upwards of like 500 damage on that first zone move. They're doing everything. And like, it should be that they're spreading themselves thin a little bit, but they find themselves shoulder to shoulder, box to box, like Levin and Reese broke down. They're like a living paradox. It's just impossible to touch them.
Yeah, and I think the difficult part of it is you can't really even game plan around potentially trying to 50-50 drop on them, right? Because they have those such defined and clear landing spots. And when you're landing on one particular mountain or one particular light pole, it doesn't matter where the bus path is. You know exactly, like, all right, from this angle, I'm marking it at 1,200 units out and I'm going. Or it's like, okay, this angle, it's 900, I'm straight down and I'm there. Like, even me dropping an arena on the exact same spot, like, I could get to my drop spot every single time and have my feet touch the ground. These guys have done it hundreds, if not thousands of times more than I have. And if you're then trying to push that for the first time ever, or trying to deal with that, it's near impossible to equate with that level of experience. That's why you don't see all of the hours that go in beforehand to coming up with this game plan. That does not put them that far ahead. But the question is, if you're one of these teams who's maybe 30, 40, 50 points behind, Can you put your own foot on the gas on your own game plan to kind of make up that difference? Or is there something else you can do that's safer to kind of impacting their game? Whether it's cutting off their internal looting route or going pushing the teams that they're trying to get Storm Surge on beforehand and forcing the fight there. Like, is there something you can do to change the situation? Because if you don't, so far they've shown they have the consistency.
Even if there was something you could do, that is like a secondary problem. You're dealing with people off spawn still, and you have to solve that first. If that's going fine, then you get to play your own game. And if you're playing your own game, you can just catch up that way. There's nothing that's incentivizing anyone to go and try to interrupt this game. Honestly, if your game is solid, you can just catch up by just playing well. And if you are already playing well, you're probably just too far and just on the other side of the map completely to be able to interrupt Steadicam and Teak's flow, and that's exactly how it is for Aquas. The Oxy's also moved over towards the left side a little bit further from Boney as well. Talk about their trio, they're a little bit in trouble. They like stepping into Believer Beach to get a little bit greedy for the basketball loot, but might not be the best time to play the sport. Might be a little bit of rain on the court right now, not in the form of water. This time Bullets Pro beamed a little bit, but as the 50 pot and Chuck splashes to be able to catch up. That's some good end game / mid game surge shield though that he has to get rid of over here. I'm wondering where else they can really get this loot. They have to situate themselves here right now. Last time Sundown, they had a fight to actually claim through. I think it was maybe Vidil's trio they were fighting, or no, it was Milan's, and they got to just come right back into the game. This time, they don't have that option. Storm's already rolling through. They might just have to all in for this fight and then go for the reboot.
And it's not a trio you want to be trying to all in. No Riley, Vidil, and Janus on the other side. They've been plenty warmed up too in terms of the all-in fights, fighting Mitro off of the start the entire time, but honestly, Crow, Deoxy, and KPI doing their best to just keep trying to create the distance, getting some good sprays down onto the opponent, keeping the pressure. You see Stroky picking up a knock there in the feed, and Deoxy is actually able to segment out Noah Riley, and he gets separated and they go down. So good job picking up that elimination by them.
It's fast too. This was record time, even with the trap they had set before. That first elim took a little bit of a while to come in and then actually convert off of to get the second one rolling really fast. This time though, oh no, gotta remember you are on a timer with the zone. 10 seconds, that threshold's passed. Jose cannot use his medkit either yet. Is there a splash to use to keep him alive? No, he's gonna go down. Good thing though, staying in this box with the Siphon can come through. Very smart to find his teammates. Janus now on the backside of the wall. Vidil from the bottom. They'll have different angles of pressure. That'll be huge to keep these guys on their toes. Big thing too, they want to make sure that Siphon timer doesn't come in either. For I think it's Vidil actually to get all his HP back. So they have about 40 seconds to really close through on this fight. That revive knock body damage will be happening at 1 tick a second, as will the storm coming in. Oh no, that wall blocking off. That could have been an easy shot to just wrap up the fight. Deoxy does not find it. Crow takes a lot of damage to his main HP pool. He's about to go down too. Might have a med kit to use. That was on Jose's body, so I'm actually not sure. 2 seconds, 1. It seems that he is actually popping it, and he should be good to keep fighting.
Yeah, Jose says no way, able to get that medkit off over on the side. You can see Vidil trying to get some time to get the shields off as well. Not sure they have any more white heals left as Deoxy's just kind of running forward, but Janus does get isolated out for a second. Crow takes a lot of damage in that trade, but they're trying to cycle it out and finally able to pick up Janus there. They do find some extra veggies down underneath, so the white heal's going to come into play, and they should be able to clean that one up. There it goes over, so good job. Vidil goes down, and our second place trio will live to fight once more here in the final game. I believe they got all 6 of the points, so they're going to be happy with that, because as long as they haven't gotten picked up early, they've had really solid point performance games.
Anxiety too at the end there for Deoxy. I think that's the most stressed he might have been so far. Has the angle to finally close on Vidil, but he has to eat the vegetables to stay alive. Funny situation. They have to play catch up though. What was the difference? Although it is 6 points, that makes them closer. A difference of 40 so far. So still, they have to have a good game. That's Crow or even Aqua on screen right now. And then Steadicam and Teak have to have a bad one too. I think that's the key about all of this. And we keep mentioning it. We're talking about it for the first 5 minutes. I just don't see Steadicam and Teak having a bad game.
The thing is, they only have to have a bad game at some point, right?
But how?
I mean, but we got 6 games. There's plenty of. I don't want to put that bad juju on anybody, Ricky Bobby, but like, it's just at some point something bad could happen. Somebody could slip. There could be some fall damage. Maybe somebody made like 180, just semi-auto snipers. Him in the. I don't know, man. There's something there. But with that being said, like, yes, they need that to happen, but then also the right team has to have the right game while that happens. And it's starting to get to a point where even with a 40-point lead, they would have to have the wrong game maybe twice, right? And all of a sudden, if you're able to get that buffer up to about 50 points, now all of a sudden you're looking at the conversation where it's 2 horrible games and then maybe 1 not so great game, and their destiny is really in their hands going into day 2, which is absurd to think about because that's doing so much work. But the flip side of that is that means the rest of the table, right? That means if you're a team who's hanging down around like 23rd or 24th, you think, oh, I have absolutely nothing to play for. Well, so many points are in Steady, Cammy, and Teak that one victory might all of a sudden turn into a 25 to 50 grand pay boost for your trio, right?
Yeah. Oh, definitely. I think the big thing too is that we're talking about the relationship that Steady, Cammy, and Teak are having with the rest of the lobby. The relationship with themselves, right? They have personal goals to also hit. This is for everyone else to catch up. If I'm looking at the history of FNCS's, I think one of the max points we had, which might have been season 6 overall 2 seasons ago, or maybe season 5, was 333 points cumulatively for the first place team to win. And I believe that was the one that ended at Steamy Stacks. For some reason, the winners are eluding my mind. I literally had the call on that game, but it is what it is. The main point is that Steady, Cammy, and Teak are almost at 200 points. They've almost done 2/3 of the work in just half the time overall. So tomorrow, if they come in and just have to get 100 points, whereas they made over 200 today, that should be easy for them. They're not even worried about other teams around them. All they're doing is fighting their own race overall.
And I mean, that's what you do when you're in first place, right? There's no reason to be looking back behind you. You don't have to worry about that. You just kind of keep going. Like, sure, you can look behind, but the only thing that's going to happen is you're going to see the people who are behind you. If you just keep your head down and keep doing what you've been doing, they're going to be fine. The onus is now on every other one of these trios. When you're looking at the pressure, every time you pull up that scoreboard, every time you're keeping an eye on the Elam feed, you are just praying that you see Cammy, Steady, and Teak on the left-hand side of it. But every time you don't, you know, it's just like, oh, top 24, he has 5 points. Well, the 5 points doesn't count towards closing the gap on them because they got it as well. They've been top 7 every single game with a victory round of 5th place in there to even it out. So it's incredible to really push forward as we see Toos, who's had 2 victory rounds, does end up getting knocked to the feet. We do have Storm Surge coming over and putting the pressure, and Jox as effectively a solo brawl warrior trying to do his best to trade some shots out, but with no effective HP and 304 below. Can't imagine that they're long to this lobby. They're going to be thinking towards tomorrow. But as I say that, Jox, it's a huge shot. That's 149 with that epic charge, and might be enough to stave it off if they can get aggressive onto Cryad there, but it's going to take a lot.
And that 304, we haven't seen that number in a long time. It's usually been 200 or 100 for a lot of these teams. I'm also looking at the way the bases are set up around the map. Everyone in this final game of day 1 is really playing things close to the chest. Even teams that realize that they're low on surge are not over peaking, giving themselves the best chance to stay alive as long as possible, even if that surge threshold is coming into the future. Look at every team side by side too. They're not really boxed up on top of each other. If you look at the mini map, all of these arrows of different colors have their own kind of bases. Now that will change as these zones get smaller, but we've seen it already happen in the 2nd and 3rd zone. We got these clusters forming early. This game, that's not the case. What does that mean? That means that maybe surge might not be the easiest to get anymore as we move in closer and closer. That also means that there's going to be a lot more mats available overall. Pressuring builds aren't going to be the biggest and easiest thing to do as the game goes on. This next 4th zone should be the most different we've seen in terms of pressure and the way people interact with each other. Look at it already too. So many teams already inside center zone. It is the middle of the map, so it's the most accessible. People are widespread in this one. We only really have one cluster section, and that'll be the south.
Yeah, a little bit of a pack over by the south. There's a couple teams up towards that Zate Hill area right on the northwest side of that new safe zone. However, most of the action is going to be occurring on the bottom side currently. In the top right-hand corner, we have our 2nd place here. In the bottom right-hand corner, we have the 2 victory out defending champs, Stormy Right, Kuriachi, and Toos. On the outside looking in, I believe they were 3rd or 4th coming into this match. I'll need to go double-check the scoreboard over on the side here in a second. But right now, the question is, who has enough space? Because Storm Surge is turned off. There's no real onus, and the next rotation is going to come out in that 4th zone. So as long as everybody's able to pack around the outside, which seems like everyone's in, there shouldn't be too much more exchanging. Maybe a little poking and prodding, but no real reason to poke your head out.
We talked about 1st and 2nd a lot in this game as well. We understand that For Deoxy, Aqua, they're about 40 points behind Steady Cammy and Teak, and those guys have the lead. How does it look for everyone else, though? It's about 10 points. That shift could happen to any trio right now. Every elim will still matter for the majority of the lobby.
Oh, and that fourth zone pulls directly the team on top of Zayt Hill. So for those who don't know, Zayt landed on this exact same hill for basically the entirety of Chapter 2. The reason is there was a triple chest spawn opportunity up top, as well as a little grove down there that had a triple chest spawn opportunity and some mushrooms there. So basically guaranteed shields, a good priority on both very quick wood, metal, and brick, as well as central zone location. So that's where that purple team is boxed up. It's one of the only natural areas, and that's where our returning second place finishers from last season, Elocross, Hussey, and Tripburn have based up, and they're going to have massive priority here on the 5th zone. Even if they get a max distance pull, they have the optional launch pad late. They're going to have sight lines over everyone. And you can see this is the time where Steady Cammy and Teak, you feel like maybe something should go wrong, right? You're in the car rotating out through the open, just in the middle of nowhere, but hey, they get fresh middle belt out. They're totally fine, and they will do what they always do, put themselves in the middle of the zone, so their odds of getting quote-unquote chosen as someone who's on the outside of the zone are much lower. However, if I am every other team in the lobby, I'm checking the VODs and realizing that they have planted themselves in the middle of us every single time, and I am just pouring medium bullets into them. I don't care, because if I start shooting, somebody else will eventually start shooting, and they're going to stop having these free games that they've been having. But now they're posted up in full built metal, and they're the ones who get to start shooting first, and they're the ones who dictate kind of where that flow of the lobby goes. And any of these other teams who try and post up and do the same, they get return fire, and this allows them, even in situations where they might struggle with Storm Surge, they went from 44 above to 171 above in a half second.
It also looks like it shouldn't be allowed that they should be making all these edits on metal. The thing that is the easiest to see is rebuilding.
Right?
But note exactly where they build it up, right? The reason this is allowed, they're on the north side a little bit of the center. The majority of teams will be looking south towards the only cluster in the game. That's where a bunch of the free elims are. That's where the highest points of elevation right now. Even Zayt Hill are looking to get the eliminations. You can see who's fallen over. Analex, 4ZR. Look at the amount of beams that are coming in. The big bases are not focused on where Steady Cammy and Teak are. So although it is a little bit of a brave play to go where they did, and it should be punished, none of those teams are really looking to fight. As I see that though, Virox, Michael, Astro, the team that sometimes does struggle on Surge a little bit, right? Landing late over at Dirty Docks. They're going to be 91 below, challenging Steady Cammy and Teak. We always said something can go wrong. It could be this box fight that would be their demise.
But even then, they're already inside the top 24. They picked up the 5 points there. They've gotten the pressure. They've done enough on the day to be able to hold first place, regardless pretty much of what else happens here. And they're not the ones below. They're not the ones below Storm Surge, Tayo. They're chilling on the other side. Yeah, it could go wrong. It could also go horribly right, as all they have to do is sit there behind the nice little peanut butter edit, known for the triangle, because you just kind of poke yourself up like the diagonal cut peanut butter. If you cut your peanut butter straight or horizontal or vertical, what are you doing? But they're able to just kind of rain their shots down, and Storm Surge will do the rest. Once you get the one tag, you don't have to poke back out. They get 2 more points going on there. They're past the Storm Surge threshold. Verox and Astro SMG are in a horrible spot. If they want to go aggressive, they can, but otherwise, they just get to take the line of the zone.
Let me just get this straight then. They drove to the middle of the zone, made a base, and got free elims. To the middle of the zone, just made a random base and got free elims delivered to them on Express.
Yep. Not bad, right? So it sounds like a pretty good deal. I mean, sometimes everything has to go right, but in this situation, Fastroki picks up Nakos, Floki gets Mustache, and then Fastroki ends up getting the confirmation going over there. Quick stat left inside. The 9 trios have stayed together from Chapter 2, Season 7. 5 are in the top 10. So you wonder if consistency, chemistry mean a lot. There's your answer right there. Being able to be in these situations to go back, but up on the high ground right now. My prediction, Stompy Pink Nebs, been a little bit quiet, but still been able to rack up to some points. And then also, Aqua Fastroki and CRR, 2 elims so far. We saw CRR get some early knocks, wasn't able to confirm it. We're pulling very far to the northeast. This is a very long distance pull. We're going away from where basically everyone is grouped up. So there should be some points going through. We do also have our second place trio. The Spanish group pick up another elim there. However, Crow will end up getting returned down, so they could be forced into a duo. Yes, that will happen as Splash ends up picking it up, or we're going to stay on board here as CRR, Aqua, and Bastoki. Looks like they're potentially looking to set up for a low pad. It's going to here. They might end up just opting for a full one. Yep, they're going to full pad, go towards the far side because there isn't really anybody on the high ground to swap them down. So the question is, who is going to crank and then who's just going to give it up? Right now, it looks like Splash and Milwaukee are going to be the first two to end up going up. Cora also there on the side. Deoxy coming in late. Surprise also coming in 8. You can see Ferox Astro desperately trying to not take any damage, but KPI ends up picking up Etsy and front side of the zone, priority position. Where else would they be, Shio?
Did you see how they did that? They had no pad, no peppers. They just ran from the left side. Steady literally opened the box to say hello to Stompy, ate a few bullets, but because of that, Tegan came and could just run by. It was a free rotation, and Benji and Savage started on the zone right in front of the line. They're now ahead of them. That's how good they are at playing this type of game. I was about to say everything was different, but it's the same old day in, day out. Just have a trap door available. Take out Andretta, not even a big name, right? Who cares about that? Take him over, keep rolling in. They don't care who they're fighting. It doesn't matter. They just make him look absolutely like they have no clue what's going on. They're in control of the front side of the zone, and we've said it before, I'll say it again, no one can really stop them.
Another one too, as Mr. Savage gets taken down. ETQ is going to be the one to convert over, but this is 3 eliminations. They're into the cascading placement points again, so every single trio that goes down, that's another delta you can't close as it ticks 204 to 205. They've already broken 200 points here.
God.
They've broken 200 points at day number 1. We've talked about 200 sometimes being the line, as Aqua ends up getting a nice frag over onto Deoxy. That's some very leaderboard impacting stuff out there. Aqua gets another one onto a Nos. We know that they're going to be hip to hip, but right now, Aqua doing his best to be the one-man wrecking crew that he is. CRR also hanging on, I would say, by a thread, but it's a fraction of a thread right there, trying to spool it out and hoping that the faints will clip, and finally he goes down, but we're on board. The World Cup duo champion, the one-man wrecking crew, the final match winner yesterday to push himself through, trying to potentially hide in the Konet and potentially close off there, but in the bottom right-hand corner, we have Cammy, Seti, Teak. They're going to walk through to yet another top 10 placement, and they're actually fighting more than we've seen Child. Like, they're trying to get box to box here. Steady going to get a knock there onto Sean VP. Nebs gets 2. He's actually going to get all 3, so that's a triple going over for him, trying to charge his way up the leaderboard as we're closing in on the final moments. Here's the final top 8, 16 players up in EU. Shio, take us home.
Started off the zone not with a pad, so their mats are looking kind of low, but they have a pre-edit ready. Ooh, nice shot from Cammy. It's fast to frame, but he finds it. It's Kiriachi that goes down all the way towards the bottom. Top 6 in the 9th zone. Cammy said he'd seek all alive inside the same box, hip to hip. They're operating like a Hydra beast, all just one body with 3 heads and 3 guns, looking for the next shot, the next box. What will it be? Scram Remix popping off in the feed. Queasy also picking up Remix as he gets a trade onto Thomas. Not going to be possible. Xenolith going down. Cammy said he are pressured inside the situation, but they're also looking pretty relaxed up top. It's not an EU finals if Milwaukee doesn't have height and is maybe just taking away an off game. It's looking good. Steady Cammy Tico really putting the pressure on to Thomas's feet. Might not be a Firefly jar, but they're making it hot for the man inside the mid ground. They control the low. It's 3 different teams. They're one of the trios. Thomas is alone. He's dropped down the classic trapdoor strat. It worked at the start. Let's make it work again, and let's bring it home too, because there's a final 3v3 here to take. They've got the mats, maybe not the HP. The big defensive operator in terms of Cammy is not going to be completely online, but with the minis in a big pot, he might be in fighting force just very soon. One tarp up top makes me look at and see, hey, maybe these guys don't have the mats and what it takes to really rock out this game. But imagine Seti, Cammy, and Teak not only being the most consistent, but winning 2 games inside day number 1, getting so close to 300 points. They might just win the entire finals based off of this performance. The final 3v3 drops down. Koro, absolutely desperate. A big trade happens on the bottom side. Teak is on a 1v1 by himself, and he wins those. Milwaukee, though, has the beam. Can he make it go home? Can he live the dream? Here it is, the base, the shots. It's not going to really come through. Defensive opportunities, it's kind of over. It's too overwhelming. Teak is there for the win. Seti, Cammy, and Teak. Game 6, day 1, absolute champions.
235, closing it out with back-to-back W's. Started the day with a 2nd place, 2 7th places with an amazing individual effort going through. But I mean, we talked about the story, the novel, all this. Man, we might not even need a sequel. We might do we need to hand them the prize money and the Axe the Champions now? Just kidding. We got 6 more games tomorrow, but that's it from us on the cast. My name's Sundown. Shao Wager, it was awesome being with you here today. What do you think, man?
absolutely historic. We have not seen this really happen to this scale before. I know that might be a line that Levin likes to say, but Sundown, it was an amazing cast today. We'll do it again tomorrow. For now, Zeke, Levin, and Reese, break it down.
Okay. First off, Sundown, Shot Wager. Thank you guys. You're incredible as always.
As always.
235 points. What the frick, Levin? In a single, this is the first half of the competition. This is the first half, bro.
This, what I'm about to say, I don't say these things very often, and I mean this with all my heart. This is the best Fortnite I've ever watched in my lifetime. I've never watched better Fortnite. Never.
You know,
Fortnite like this.
You will never see it. Do you know how much I have committed to agreeing with you on that statement? I've already tweeted basically the exact same thing. That is probably the best 6-game performance in a set lobby I have seen, in particular in like an EU, given the stakes that we have so far from Cammy, Say, and Teak. Like, they have just shown up and put on a masterclass.
Absolutely ridiculous. And to think once again, this wasn't a trio that we didn't think they were going to do bad by any means, but it's just there was so many like other shinies just around us. Oh, look at this trio. Oh, look at that trio. This duo with this person. Oh, but then they just were flying under the radar. They literally were watching us watch these other trios and be like, yeah, that's cool. You guys like them? All right, wait till finals, Zeke. We'll come back for it, Zeke.
Zeke, it's mad because, you know, a lot of the conversation around the EU for all year long, especially when you look at NA and you see Centers, Commander, and Edgy, the conversation's always just been, when will EU have a team that dominates low ground the way they do, right? And it's always been, oh yeah, we have some teams that can kind of do it, you know, and Drea can do it sometimes, Cammy, they can do it sometimes. They're doing it today, and they're doing it at a level that many teams can only dream of performing at. Look, I don't know what can stop them. Like, you know, we talk about tournament management, Reese, right? We talked about this as we, you know, right before the game started. You know, there's no real thing to them that can stop them from having these kind of games right now. There's nothing that can get in their way to stop them from having these dominant games. They are just so good right now. Like, it is madness.
Yeah, I mean, like, the way I look at it, what I'm thinking right now is like the team who could get in their way potentially is like Floki, Clement, Deceptos. They play a similar play style, but it's like when you're going up against Cammy, Say, Teak in the way that they're playing their matches out, it's like, it's not even close. It's like you're not even a contender in comparison to the way that they performed on day number 1 so far. 235 points in 6 games. That is the most on any day 1 that we've seen so far. Almost unbelievable. I actually am going to check what the whilst you guys talk, what the previous points was for winning last season's FNCS.
Yeah,
okay.
It's one of these things where you really look at it and you go to yourself, okay, so what can anybody do? Like when you see these guys play, like, I'm not gonna lie, you know, you scroll through Twitter and whatnot. I think Chapik said, "Just get me to Grand Royale already." Like, there's people who mentally they're out of it. Like, if you're a player playing this hobby, you're looking at the leaderboard going, did they do that again? What's going on? What am I supposed to do? Like, what? You can't do nothing. They're too good.
Hold on.
Too good.
I've just actually been mind blown now. Do you know what the points was to win last season? Remember, same point format to win. Take a guess.
Oh, no.
205.
313.
205. What 205?
Wait,
What are
sorry,
you
this is
talking
2
about?
days. I'm sorry.
2 days.
Okay, wait.
2 days.
290.
295. Last season,
wow.
295 points would win. With what the points that they already have, if they don't even play the second game, based on how this last is gone, they'd be top 10. It's like they've already got top 10 almost guaranteed off the bat.
That's mad.
Ridiculous. Okay, let's take a look at the standings. Okay, let's just put this on screen in case you're not following along. Okay, they have a 60-point lead on second place. 235 points is the most we've seen after the first 6 matches in any finals like this. Okay, these guys are doing something astronomical. But Levin, my question now becomes, with all this momentum, can they carry that to a day 2? Sometimes we see trios do one of 2 things. They don't perform well on day 1. They do perform well on day 2. And others do the other, like the opposite, right? These guys have performed ridiculously well in day number 1.
This
come back and do it again.
this is a blowout. You know, this is a blowout.
It's not even close, bro.
You just they might as well, sub them out. They can get their little brothers to play or whatever. And I'm sure that they'll finish the job, right? Like this is an absolute blowout. Like in terms of what people can do. Yeah, chuck us in. Honestly, chuck me in. I'll finish the job. They've given me a good enough head start.
No,
right?
no, we'll throw it.
No, I don't. Speak for yourself, Risa. Look, on a real though, the only thing I can see stopping them, and it's been a problem in the past, is maybe someone just decides, hey, we want to contest them, or hey, we want to just take a certain area of their split and deny them that loot. Like that's the only thing that we've seen be able to stop them in the past. And yes, it has typically happened on day 2s of FNCS. So I hope it doesn't, because I want to see how this plays out. What if they just have another 6 games like this tomorrow? Like that would be an all-time performance. Yeah, it'd be the best performance of all time. Sorry, Booga. So I really hope nothing goes in their way tomorrow.
I mean, I know we've not talked about any other teams yet, but I don't want to, because I want to say something else first before we move on to them, right? 145 placement points. 145 placement points. Look at the rest of that leaderboard. Their placement points alone puts them into 6th place, right? Without any single eliminations either, right? And when you also start to consider, right, I was looking back through other leaderboards now that we're getting interested. In Chapter 2 Season 5, which had a roughly similar, there's a very similar format system. They were first after day 1, but they had 147 points. They have 145 placement points right now.
It's insane.
Now that was a slightly different format, but like just to get across the scope and the magnitude of how good they're playing. Like, I mean, I'm sure we've said enough at this point, but look at it. It just says it right there.
And if you're wondering why we're freaking out, it's because it's just so amazing. Now, look, there are other players who have competed today and have impressed. Of course, the 2nd place team, especially popping off when it comes to the eliminations. Even then, Cammy City still have them beat out, but you get the point. There are really great teams. They're seeing Kiri actually stood right into last season's winners actually, in the fight for 2nd, at least right now. It's really nice. Look, let's take a look at the next page, see some of the other teams who really will want to be pushing their way in, because, we saw at the start of the show with Zeke growing up, breaking down sort of the prizing. Any bump in prizing can be, the difference in just life-changing money, right? So you really want to fight till the end. I know we're almost talking as if they've won the tournament, because it almost feels that way with just how good they've been day 1, but there is still plenty to compete for, like an insane amount to compete for right now. And a lot of these teams will be looking to do a lot better. The likes of Queasy and Aston Thomas will want to do better. This isn't a team that should be on the 2nd page of any leaderboard that they're competing in, right? You expect them in the 1st page. The same with the likes of Taste and Chapix, Reason, Hot Yellow, Kratz and Trippin, who came 2nd last season. They will all want to do much better than they're doing right now.
I was in particular going to mention Taste and Chapix and Reason, with the team shuffle from the previous season after having relatively successful, like, right now, this isn't the performance that we're used to seeing. I mean, when you've got obviously Cammy City popping off the way that they have in similarly to Diox's team doing the same thing as well, it's hard to fit in and pop off to that level. But like, look, let's actually look at the top. Let's put some numbers to this Cammy City right now. Average placement 3.84. That in itself is absolutely incredible. We already know the 235 points they have. They have 30 eliminations against the top 10. Remember that they have 45 total. So they're actually picking off way more players who are up at the top rather than those players who are down at the bottom. And that just tends more to their end game playstyle, right? The players who are in the top 10 are usually more deeper into the end game.
Yeah. The stats just tell a story, right? Where they have just been brilliant. Let's take a look at the victory royales from today's games. Definitely been an incredibly entertaining day. We started off with the Frenchies being able to win on Floki, Clement, and DeCitos, who have been also incredibly competitive. It's not surprised seeing these guys here in the battle though at that point. We had a really great first game where it went off to heel off, unexpected first game, but definitely not a surprise in terms of the personnel involved in it. Of course, Reese as well. We had Diox, Crow, the KPI boys, getting involved as well. They had some mad elimination games throughout the day. Definitely a trio that's been popping off, and we'll want to carry this form into tomorrow.
Yeah, you got to remember, like, Crow started the day by just being bullied off spawn, embarrassed off spawn actually, and then they just said, you know what, we've had enough of that, we're catching up. Now they're vying for first place with the team that bullied off spawn, Cammy City. And remember, they've had to date a 15 elimination game and a 16 elimination game, and they don't even have the most elims.
it's mad. Like I keep saying it's mad because I'm going mad myself. Like I'm struggling to keep any form of sanity right now. Kiriachi to Stormy, right, getting involved. They were able to pick up a victory royale, and not just one victory royale. They actually picked up 2, right? And so back-to-back victory royales. Typically, you know, that would push you higher up in the standings. You're probably the talk of the town. Not in this case. Not in this case at all. And that's because then another team got 2 back-to-back victory royales, right? so they had their 2 back-to-back victory royales. They thought, yes, we are on top. We're the talk of the town. Everyone's going to be talking about us. Only for Camisette and Teak to steal their thunder and get 2 back-to-back victory royales of their own, though. But here was, you know, one of them for the second game, from Stormy, right, Kiriachi and Toos, that they were able to close out. Some dominant stuff, definitely some dominant stuff. A lot of, you know, sort of a foundation to build off of tomorrow, right? Because you still have to come out tomorrow and perform, and I expect these guys to do much more the same.
Yeah, and they were still in 5th as well, which is exactly the placement they placed 2 seasons ago before they won. So, you know, they're lining up already to get a top 5, which you got to think a 5th, 1st, 5th is absolutely incredible consistency throughout multiple seasons for them. But look, obviously, we've already talked so much about Cammy and Teak so far. 235 points. This was just the first elimination for them, the victory royale. This actually very much so reminds me of a victory royale from the previous season when Noah Rayleigh was also down the same layer. Basically did exactly the same thing, but it was a 1v1
yeah,
clutch.
I remember that. That was a really good moment. And I was going to say they're doing their best impression of some of, you know, Reason's great clutches in the past, but at this stage, man, it's reached beyond that, right? Like what we're seeing from these guys is stuff we've never seen before in terms of just being able to consistently do it over 6 games, right? You know, I'm not saying that the games have been flawless by any means. You know, you'll get a couple of missed shots here and there, but over the course of 6 games to do it the way they've done it is not common at all. Like we've not seen a team do it in EU the way these guys have done it.
And I also want to say, like, with BL Become Legends, they always have fantastic footage from, in particular, Seti's POV in the background, right? They always put great vlogs out. So I'm sure they have, but if they have not captured what the hype is like from this, like, come on. I'm already waiting for that video to upload right now. Like,
Renault's got it down. Renault's licking his lips right now. He knows, right? That they got the premium footage of just the absolute masterclass you've seen today. Congrats to these guys. Honestly, can't wait to wake up tomorrow and just watch more of this, right?
Yeah, once NA East's over, I'm going straight to sleep, waking up, 4 p.m. our call time, then straight back into it. We're good to go.
Yeah.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, Fortnite fam, that concludes day number 1 of just EU. Can Seti, Cammy, and Teak leave their mark on history? They are in a great position to do so. They could very well be champions at the end of tomorrow, but tomorrow is a brand new day. Anything can and will happen. Thank you so much for tuning in. Don't forget, we have NA East after this, NA West later in the day. And of course, you know, we're going to bring Reese along for NA East action, so we're going to make sure you got to stick around for that. As always, please give these 2 incredible human beings a follow. Give Sundown, give Shy a Wager a follow as well. Without these guys, this just ain't possible. We love you all so very dearly. And until next time, we'll see you on the battle bus.
Reese on the battle bus.
Beep.